Your friends over at GiantBomb.com are extending the free trial window on a limited time basis. Normally, you get a 7-day free trial if you're a new premium user to our site, but we're expanding that to 30 days. Because a lot of you podcast listeners have probably heard us talk about Giant Bomb Premium or GiantBomb.com on this show, but have no idea what it is. You're just like, I just listened to this podcast. There's a whole website full of videos, other podcasts, reviews, information, excitement, and you have no idea what you're missing out on. So, our holiday gift to you, 30 days of free access. Check it out. Your chance to check out content like Mario Party. It says literally someone wrote in this document, you might have heard about Mario Party. Have you ever watched Mario Party? You can with this free trial. I was there. I lived it. Anyway, if you've never checked out Premium, this is a chance for more of it for free. This is going to go from December 20th to December 31st. For new Premium users, visit GiantBomb.com/free trial 30 and redeem the coupon code GOTY19. And speaking of end-of-the-year gifts for the audience, that's you, the audience, some of the other divisions in this company we work for, CNET, GameSpot, they asked us, hey, do you guys want in on a sweepstakes that'll give your listeners and readers a chance to maybe win like a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Switch? And we were like, I guess, yeah, that seems like something we should probably at least offer to people, and hopefully they won't miss out on it. So you could win a PlayStation 4 Pro, an Xbox One S, or a Switch Lite in this sweepstakes. There's ways you can get multiple entries and stuff like that. Anyway, there's a whole page about it. This is going to last also through the 31st. GiantBomb.com/giveaway. That'll bring you to the article that one Matt Rory wrote with instructions about how to enter to win. Hey, you might win a console. Maybe you don't own it yet. It's the end of the generation, but maybe you somehow ended up not getting one. Now's the time. Get in!
Happy holidays and welcome to Giant Bomb's 2019 Game of the Year festivities. I'm Brad Shoemaker. To my right,
the most festive,
Alex Navarro.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Vinny Caravella.
Hi, great to be here. I love talking about video games.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You're in luck, my friend.
You're in luck, right?
Ben Pack.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I have a list of all the video games I played in front of me this year.
You came prepared.
42.
Wow. That's
a lot.
That's a secret number. Jan Ochoa.
I'm not really here, Brad.
Yes, you are.
Running the machinery down there.
I hope he's over there.
The god in the machine.
I'm just playing Pokemon back here. Sorry, guys.
Making all this stuff go. Abby Russell.
That's me.
How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm okay.
How's your sinus infection?
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
All right, good timing.
Yeah, it's great. Spending half of yesterday at urgent care.
Oh, no. Half?
Instead of playing a video game I was trying to finish.
Bring your Switch, dum-dum.
Jeff Gersman. Hello. How's it going?
I've been better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it past that, but it's like you. It's been a time.
Yeah. We made it to the end of the year.
Yeah.
That in
we made
itself.
it to the recording that will go up at the end of the year. I'm not willing to...
Yeah.
Let's just assume we're going to make it.
Okay.
Let's just assume.
That in itself is to be celebrated. Dan Reichert.
Hello.
How are you going to celebrate
Oh, I'm always celebrating.
the end of the year?
Every day.
Your life is one long celebration.
I have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Everyone says that. Yeah.
Jason A. Stryker.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Good. We got a big old list of games here to go through.
Yeah.
We're going to run things kind of similar to last year. We've got a giant list of games, which is not every game that came out this year.
It's the games that
we find notable.
Yeah.
That we want to talk about.
Not every single.
The game's what made us happy.
So many games
This is
now.
our year in review.
There was a time where you could do every game that came out. If we did this in 1998, we could talk about every game that
single
came out in
game.
1998.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
No more.
Let's just do that. Bring up a list of games that came out in 98.
I would
Let's just talk about those
There were some
instead.
good ones.
It was a good year.
Resident Evil 2.
Ocarina, Metal Gear.
I'm going to say, I think a lot of these games that we'll talk about or in the future or today
Some of these
came
games
out.
did come out in 1998.
Spiritually.
Yes.
Or quite literally.
StarCraft.
Half-Life.
98 was a big year, but so was 2019.
It was. And still continues to be.
Do we want to say how many games are on this list?
Quite a few.
Over 100
That's a lot of games.
That's more than I thought.
is the list that we have filtered out of games that we think are worth talking about.
I feel like it was a pretty good year for games.
Yeah. It's an interesting year with like a new consoles looming kind of next year. This is like
Everyone
get them out
resetting.
while you
Totally,
can.
and like there's that, but then like the Pro and the X, like the half-step consoles, kind of broke things in a weird way, and so it doesn't feel like that last holiday season for these consoles, but it is, and it's
It's the loud. My PS4 is the loudest it's ever been.
yeah.
I think for most of the year, I was thinking it was a weak year, and then something happened in like the last month and a half where it's like, there's a lot of games I want to play right
Like,
now.
oh yeah.
The problem is that like every time we get more than a month out from the last month, it feels like 3 years ago. So you don't actually consider it part of this year.
Yeah,
I went to sketch out a personal top 10, and there were like 20 games on it.
Yeah.
Before I started cutting stuff, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
games did come out this year.
I found it to be a very solid game.
Yeah.
Or year for games. With a few really standout exceptions.
Yes.
All right.
But it does kind of at the same time feel like an end of the generation year.
Yep.
I feel like.
yeah.
And also, I think people make very good games now, very competent and solid games, and there are a lot of them.
Indeed. Like I said, we've got over 100 of them here. Shall we just get started?
I think so.
These are in chronological order. We're just going in the order that they came out.
That seems fair.
Walk through the year with us, won't you?
Yes, year in review, let's say. And then, of course, later in the week, we'll have categories for awards and ranked lists and all kinds of other fun stuff once we get through this giant list. So
We're going to talk
stay
about
tuned.
games,
Yes.
Yeah.
like in detail. We're going to spoil. We're gonna
Yes.
spoil
Right.
video
there
games.
is that
Right.
part.
Like that's
Games are going to get talked about.
yeah. If there are games that
Thoroughly.
came out in January that you wanted to play, we're going to talk about them today,
And maybe February.
and maybe February, maybe
Possibly
even March.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
We could be into
All through
spring.
Q2. Who can say?
Be warned. I mean, obviously we'll say what we're about to talk about before we spoil anything. So
But we have no idea how long it's going to be.
you'll have a little bit of warning, but yeah, be cautious if there's any games on here that you don't want to know about. Shut this
Why
thing
are you
off.
listening to this podcast?
Shut it off and go play.
I don't want to know about video games.
All right. Shall we
Sometimes
So I'm
spoilers
going to
make
listen to
you
this
like
week of
games
podcast.
more.
Yeah, come to Giant Bomb for that.
That's right. That's what we got for you.
live through us. All right, let's get started with the first game we have on our list here, which is Slay the Spire on January 23rd, which I believe came out of early access this year.
Yes. This actually made my top 10 last year because it was still in early access for Steam, and I'd spent way too much time with it. Brad, this is your first foray into it this year, right?
Yeah, I didn't get into this game until it came out on the Switch, which I think was the same time it came out of early access and became a final game. And like I've been hearing about people talk about this game for years. I feel like it's got this rabid following. Like it's the prototypical one of those, like a deck building roguelike card game. Card battler, right?
Which I guess we're in now, right?
Yeah.
Like drafting, card drafting,
Yeah.
deck building.
Like that's kind of everything now.
We're now on the variations
There's
on
a
the theme.
lot of it.
There's a lot of them.
And as someone who can't stand it, there's a lot of it.
So I never really cared about it before this, and then this came out, and
Yeah.
I fell way into it. It's a fantastic Switch game. It's obviously a perfect thing to have as a portable.
It makes a lot of sense as a game because like drafting is not a new concept to card games, like, taking a booster pack and passing it around and everyone builds a deck from it. But like them managing to think about that, how do you make it not just a video game, but how can you add other elements of like the rogue stuff, kind of like unlocking new characters. It's really cool. I've only played a little bit of it, but I really like
Good
it.
fit, yeah.
Yeah, the game lives and dies by just the zillions of, the roguelike thing of like, hey, we have an item table of 300 items, and you're going to see 12 of them in every run. Like, it's that. And it's just like endless combinations of like quality of life improvements and like buffs that break the rules. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I've got this, and this constraint. And then like you'll get like that right relic that like takes one of those constraints off. And you're like, all right, now I can really fuck some shit up on this run. Like it's just every run feels like super custom.
I didn't
to
play
the stuff that you find.
I didn't play a ton of it, but what I did play, the thing that stood out to me was the enemies stuffing your deck with cards that you don't want, and trying to figure out ways to burn out those cards or get rid of, or put them in the trash pile so that you can get the cards.
And like
you want.
there are some abilities that only proc when you remove a card that way, and
That was
there's
interesting.
a ton of depth like that. And I don't know how common that stuff is to just the genre, because this was my first real.
Well, I feel
dip
like
into it.
I played SteamWorld Quest,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about later, before I played this one. So they're pretty different as far as how they work as far as the card building. Because in SteamWorld Quest is very much like, I'll collect cards as I go. I'll like look at my hand. I'll like do a bunch of planning out beforehand. And this game is much more like, I'm going to go out there. They're going to throw a card at me. I'm going to pick one. Hopefully I'll find one that'll like pair with it well later on. But I feel like you're going in a little more blind. I liked that it wiped your entire hand with each each move, which at first I was like, oh, weird. But then seeing how it works with the mechanics, especially with what you were saying, with sort of like I could burn a card, or I know when I want to burn one or not burn one, depending on what's in my hand currently, or like what shitty card someone put in there. It was really interesting. It was like an interesting mechanic, a different way to think about your card games.
Yeah, different way.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of liked about it. It added things that I feel like aren't, well, like we've seen a bunch of these, and it had a couple of new twists in it, which was, I appreciate it.
I also liked how fast it was. Like, I liked that it didn't, like, not to just compare it to SteamWorld Quest already, but like, I like SteamWorld Quest, but there's a lot of like fluff of like, look at these characters, let's walk through the space. And this is very much like, you're going to fight something, you're going to go here, maybe make a choice, you're going to fight something, you're going to go here, maybe rest, you're going to fight something. And it was very fast in a way I really enjoyed.
This game is just kill shit with cards.
Exactly, which is like really satisfying.
Yeah, it moves. The game is a bastard, though. I don't know how deep you guys got into
Not very.
it.
I did one run.
I beat one
I got
boss.
to the last boss, but I didn't beat
Who's
him.
the giant, you probably know, the giant buff armor dude that shows up at the end of the second floor quite often? The champion?
I think
Does that
that's
sound right?
its name. Yeah, and
I
then
hate
like
that motherfucker.
that's the one. I mean, they all the bosses wind up changing stances. But that one in particular, right? Like it like goes through armor, and then you have to defeat the armor.
Right.
But then it
Like
spawns a bunch of ads too.
Like you do like 3/4 of its health, and then it takes on a whole new attack posture where it can do like all of your health in one hit and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where I fell off the game was like, you get the overview of a floor when you move on. You can see like the boss icon at the top. It was when I realized I was going to have to memorize what all the bosses were by their icon and then start speccing my deck toward beating that boss. By the time I got to them, I was like, that is a layer of depth that I don't necessarily have the energy to learn. So I think I kind of hit my wall.
Especially for January, am I right?
This game should come to mobile.
Yeah.
Is it not?
I don't think so.
It is not.
It's on Game Pass.
Just on
Apple
Switch.
Arcade.
Yeah. It's a great. It's hardcore. Like it's not an easy game, but it's a great like intro to this kind of game. If you just want to get deep into the card shit, it's super worth playing.
Cool.
Slay the Spire.
Yes,
Slay the Spire.
it's kind of getting right into it with some heavy hitters this year.
January had some good stuff.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2, the remake.
I played the entirety of this game on a stream, and as you all know, sometimes you play a game on a stream, and sometimes it ruins that game. And I had a lot of folks who were telling me I was playing it wrong, a lot of folks who said that I should be conserving ammo, despite the fact that I never had an ammo shortage, a lot of this stuff. And despite everything around it, I had so much fun with this game. It was truly one of my favorite gameplay experiences
so
of this
good.
year.
I think it's got to be in the conversation for best remake ever, right?
It's way up there.
The level in which they retain the feel of the original and the spirit of the original while making it feel like a completely modern gameplay experience.
You're not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, even if you're coming to it for the first
Like,
time.
they captured-
Yeah, it felt truly modern. There were maybe a few things here and there that I kind of felt at age, but for the most part, it felt like if this came out this year, I would have been like, cool.
That's a cool new Resident Evil game.
No auto saving's annoying, but otherwise cool.
But I mean, crucially, it captures the feel of that old game.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it cuts out all the bullshit. Like no more tank controls, obviously. But
Yeah,
like,
and the way they change like the Mr. X stuff around to make him this like persistent threat, it's just terrifying.
But it still feels like you're inhabiting this one location and really getting to know it, and like this just super creepy, tense survival kind of atmosphere with like. I mean, you said you didn't have ammo problems, but I feel like resource management was definitely a thing.
Yeah, there definitely is, but it's never was a thing that I was like, I'm totally out of ammo, and I only have one save slot, and the whole game's gonna explode, sort of like some folks were saying it would happen. Like it was fine. I got through it. It was all fine.
You do have to kind of like pick your shots early on, though.
Yeah, sure, totally.
I really like that. Like the gunplay is precise, but the zombies are wiggly enough that
It
you still
felt
have to,
really good.
You have to really kind of carefully use your ammo.
It's such a perfect mix of like the classic Resident Evil like 1 through 3 setting with like the better controls and over the shoulder perspective once they introduce in 4. I think it's such a great mix of the kind of that old school and then 4 and beyond.
Yes.
It also. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I also think like tonally it really nails it. Like it felt scary, but not so scary that it felt cheap or like it was unplayable, but it was like truly tense when Mr. X was around. There were a good amount of like cheesy jump scares. Like it really set the tone for like a nice adventure horror game in a way that I really liked, or I guess action horror game.
I do feel like the police station is the strongest part of the game.
Totally.
though.
Yeah. I feel that's usually the
That's-
Resident Evil thing. Like
That's
the mansions.
That's how it was
Like,
last time around too, right?
The village is the best in 4. The mansion's the best in 1. You know, like
sure.
that.
But I mean,
frequently
when you
happens.
do a remake, you have the opportunity to fix up or
Completely
embellish like the parts that were more lacking.
It's true. Yeah, like the
Like the
sewers are kind of the weakest
Yeah,
part.
it's a lot of backtracking.
Sewers, there's
Yeah.
a lot of backtracking. Like the scenery is very nondescript and kind of hard to learn your way around.
But it did remind me of what I like about a Resident Evil series of what I really don't like. If you take one that is an enclosed space and just exploring an enclosed space with a limited number of zombies, like, oh right, this is what I really like about a Resident Evil game, not a semi-open world or these kind of outdoor environments. And I mean, 4 is a great game, and I like 4 a lot. And
we can talk about 4 another
a lot of
time.
great things, but man, playing 2 again, it really captured that.
There's a vibe to it. I mean, that was the
Like
whole thing
you're
about
trapped.
that initial trilogy. Maybe 3 less so than 1 and 2, but like that was the whole thing with those games. Is like that claustrophobic feeling that they were able to give you. I kind of think the tank controls were part of that. Like it was this fumbly, awful thing.
It was a fixed camera.
So that's what
the fixed camera and
that's
all
what
that
I mean.
sort of
That's
stuff.
what I mean about the enemies
is
being
like-
kind of squirrely.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of replicate that without
Yeah,
making the controls feel like shit. They still make it like hard to
they
hit
still
stuff.
give you like the right type of difficulty
Yeah.
to the combat. Right?
The other part of the vibe they get is the camp. Like
Yes.
there's still a lot of cheese. Like they wrote new dialogue for this, but it's still super cheesy,
Yeah.
embarrassing, like forced stuff.
Yeah.
They nail all that
And
stuff.
I think they get the Claire Leon playthroughs different enough too. They felt.
You think so?
I thought so.
I did Leon A, I guess is what you call it.
Okay.
And then Claire B. And I never finished that run because it felt a little too similar.
Oh
to me.
really? I went through them both, and I thought they were pretty good.
It's mainly like side characters that you encounter. Like that's where the bulk of the big differences is, right?
I think it was more
Yes.
just the environment stuff. It's just like, oh, I got to go find that crank again to open this door again.
Still the police station.
Well, there's whole portions of you don't
They
get with Claire.
remix it. And
or where it's like, oh, when Leon was here, this is what Claire was doing.
Right, and like the Ada stuff with Claire's.
Well, I think they don't do that, right? Like that's what I thought going into the second playthrough was like, oh, I'm going to see all the stuff Claire was doing.
I always get
But
confused
she
with the
does-
A-B stuff, but like you can see both perspectives. There are
Kinda.
times where it's like Leon's off doing this.
But the B character does a bunch of stuff that the A character also did. Like they're not
Yes,
really
it's not
compatible.
one-to-one.
It's just kind of confusing.
Yes, it is not an exact science of he did this, but there are certain things of like this has happened already and you didn't see it.
Does the B playthrough pay off? Like I think I heard like the real ending is after that, right?
I thought so.
There's like stuff at the end that
I thought it's more interesting. I thought
worth-
Claire's was a lot more interesting towards the end because Leon's a dope, by the end, and then Claire has her shit together. We can swear on this podcast, right?
Yeah,
Is
we
that-
can.
This one,
No.
We can beep
Yeah.
at least.
Okay, and then I thought it was really funny to see her just mostly Claire or Leon gets pushed into a lot of pits or stumbles into things or falls through stuff, and Claire is constantly just jumping in.
Leon
to
F.
do
Kennedy's a rookie cop.
yeah, man.
Yes, right.
So
Not been on the job long.
You're right. He's constantly falling backwards into a boss fight where if Claire is like taking off the jacket and being like, all right, guess I got to fight.
Yeah.
And jumping in. I enjoyed that a lot more.
This is not President's daughter escorting Leon.
No.
No, not yet.
This is first
Yeah.
day on the job.
This is not
Leon.
throwing a 14. No, she's like 18, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
put her in a dumpster.
Put her in a dumpster. and say,
I'll
"Right
knock when
here."
I'm done.
now we're going to carry her to an incinerator later.
That's right.
Did you guys mess with those other modes much? Like I didn't. I think you only unlock them when you finish D.
Yeah, I didn't.
A little
I-
bit.
Like the hunk.
They're like more arcadey stuff. Like I wasn't too big on
It was
those.
hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of like always been the bonus modes in a Resident Evil game. right?
Mercenaries.
Yeah,
They put out
like
some
that
free
sort of stuff.
DLC for this that I didn't check out.
I tried those. It's like
those
three different.
the character stories. Or
Yeah, it's like,
whatever.
oh, here's the gun shop owner, and
yeah.
here's this thing. Like, yeah, they were interesting.
I found them difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that first playthrough and like this police station in particular that really defines this game.
Yes.
Cool. It's very good.
Hell of a remake.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to say is that it has like maybe the best map ever made.
Oh, it's so
Whoa,
good.
very
With
close.
the doors and everything.
Now that
the way
is
the way it automatically
Mr. Shoemaker.
Dude, it annotates everything.
Yeah.
It's so great.
It's pretty good. The keys on the map are good. The
Like
symbols.
icons for like everything you can pick up that you didn't like color coding the rooms by what's still in there to find.
I feel like you just said this about Jedi Fallen Order like a week ago.
I
about
was
the map in
I
that
was
game.
just going to write down.
It is the best trend of 2019.
Yeah,
guys. Like,
I was going to write down best maps in games this year.
Yeah.
because-
Jedi's map, man. I didn't like that. There were some bad maps too.
I like this map as well, and but I also really like Fallen Order's map as well. Innovations in maps. That's where we're
yeah,
at.
that's what I'm saying.
Year of the Cartographer.
It's great. It's great stuff. Speaking of great, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh boy.
Oh, here we go.
All right,
Take
everyone
us away,
settle in.
Jan.
All right. So, Vinny, you've played through this, right?
Played through it is a bit of a stretch.
I just want to double check. that
I
I'm not the
downloaded
only-
it and launched it.
Okay.
I played some. I don't know how long this game is. It could be. You could tell me this game is 8 hours or 1,000 hours, and I wouldn't know. But I played it. Wait, I don't.
You don't know what you're looking at right now, do you?
Played this game. I did. I played some of it. I played enough to, I think, get the vibe. I did a gummy ship. I went to a couple planets. I
Did
modified
you get the poo blades?
What?
got fucking Pooh Bear.
Like Pooh Bear or Poo Poo?
Poo Bear.
With
Pooh Bear.
the homing missiles?
Yeah, Pooh Bear with the honey pots.
Amazing. Like, completely underrated. I love that.
no, I did not. I got the others. I got 2 other Keyblades, I think.
Copy that. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
This is maybe a question for another time. Do the
No,
Keyblades open doors or are they just blades?
Oh, sure.
They
They open the doors to your heart.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
Is that real?
I've been hanging up
Okay.
out around Jan, so I've picked up a lot of Kingdom Hearts knowledge.
I probably talked Ben's ear off the most in this office about Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 3. And Kingdom Hearts 3, if I were to say just one thing about it, it would be ballsy. Because of how far the company, Nomura, decided to go and not necessarily stick the landing. I wouldn't give it like a 10 out of 10 if it stuck the landing. I'd say like maybe like, oh, wow, 7.5 plus an additional 2 for effort because of the things that they took from Final Fantasy 15, Nier Automata, and a bunch of random other Square crap and other.
This is just your platform to talk about the bouncer again, isn't it? I feel like that we're leading up to a bouncer moment, aren't we?
Jeff, do not.
I want you to have your bouncer moment.
Is the bouncer in this game?
We had a whole bouncer stream. We had multiple bouncer streams.
So I think you need to wait. So I need clarification. When you say took from Final Fantasy 15, do you mean like concepts from that game, or do you mean the characters and put them in the game?
Oh no, there are almost no Final Fantasy.
There are almost
characters.
no Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, listen, I played maybe none of that game. I don't know how long this game is, so like
Yeah, sure.
it's hard to say. But there were no Final. Last time I played Kingdom Hearts, like Cloud was sitting there and Mickey Mouse was sitting there, and like now I think they had statues of some Final Fantasy
Who are all
characters.
those anime characters we just?
I don't.
That was an in-universe ad for a fake Final
Video game.
Fantasy toy.
Yeah. So
Wow, there's a lot going on with this game.
yes,
Layers.
So when I say borrows, borrows,
Gameplay
I
or
mean more so
something.
gameplay.
Oh, okay.
Like the teleporting that you'd get with Noctis, you can kind of like zip around on the battlefield. When I say borrow from Nier Automata, they don't borrow 2B or 9S or any of the robots. They borrow the specific moment from the ending that we all talked about a couple or so years ago, where you just see screen names of different folks. And here you see the screen names of the fallen Keyblade Masters. And they, with their heart and soul, everybody, they come to help Sora in his time of need fight against Xenoheart. And if I was to say, okay, Xenoheart, right?
Is that how you pronounce that?
Is that how
Yes.
you pronounce that? Okay.
Yes.
Not Xenoheart.
Whatever.
Zehanort?
Zehanort.
Oh, Zehanort.
Edward Norton.
Yes.
We'll just say that.
He was here.
Oh, Enort.
Was he really?
Yeah.
He was here.
Wow.
If I were to take other pieces of popular culture and equate characters, Sora is Goku.
Okay.
Yeah.
Xehanort, Edward Norton, is Emperor Palpatine.
Okay.
Okay.
A battle for the ages.
Wait, hold on. I think I wrote this down. Yeah.
Going on a
here we go.
whiteboard.
Keyblade wielders are basically Jedi. Sora is, like I said, Goku because he's dumb, but he loves to fight and he loves his friends.
What's Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse is.
He's God, right? He's like Jesus.
Kai, right?
Yeah, he's like a supreme Kai.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, you're kind
Does
of
he hang out with Gregory?
Bubbles?
Jiminy Cricket is in the game.
Okay.
So,
What is he?
Okay.
Is he a Sith?
no, Jiminy Cricket is like Gregory.
Jar Jar Binks is a Sith, though, right?
Okay, yeah, I've heard
is he in
that.
here?
I do
Yeah.
feel like our
No.
metaphors are getting a little mixed here.
We're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
I know. I know.
In some sense, we're always talking about Kingdom Hearts.
I've never stopped thinking about Kingdom Hearts. You guys look at this doc. I'm sorry for the folks listening. This goes on. For
Wait, did you write all that?
Yes, because I thought we were going to do a spoiler cast.
Oh no.
That's too many pages.
It was going to be a spoiler cast
prepared.
where he just reads this to
What's
me.
Donald Duck?
Donald Duck is your best friend.
He's a warlock.
There is a
He's
specific-
Krillin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he's Krillin. There's a specific moment in this game, several specific moments, but where I was brought to tears because I found out, and through the game, and people had done the math, in the Final Fantasy Disney World, Donald Duck, Ben,
No, go on.
Ben,
Please.
Donald Duck is the most powerful mage and magical user in the Final Fantasy world. So, you know,
Why did you cry?
because after it, Goofy was like, "Oh, I can't do a Goofy
Oh,
voice."
please try.
Gosh, Donald. That's terrible.
Hey, Goofy.
Gosh,
No, you're nailing it.
he Goofy didn't want Donald to do it because Donald would use all of his life force and then he'd wind up dying. But he didn't use all of his life force. Donald Duck's still alive. Guys, don't worry.
Is it canon? Like, if Donald Duck
Goofy's
dies,
dead,
will
right?
you actually die?
Maybe.
Yeah, you go to Disneyland and he's just like
He's
laying dead on
you
the
just find
ground.
his grave.
Wait, so Jim, when you say when you say the most powerful mage in the Final Fantasy universe, but it doesn't take place in the Final Fantasy
You see,
universe.
Vinny, he cast Zeta Flare, which is a spell so powerful that nobody else in the Final Fantasy universe could even come close to. The most you get is like an Omega Flare.
Does
or
the Final
something.
Fantasy universe exist?
Everything exists in parallel.
Okay, so people are bleeding through the universes.
Yes.
Okay.
Walt Disney like a person in this universe?
Just his head.
Okay. Is he a boss fight?
He might be. Who knows?
You gotta thaw him out.
But the Kingdom Hearts
he says some really messed up stuff.
You should turn off dialogue at that point.
But Kingdom Hearts with Goofy and Donald is not the Disney universe.
It is a Disney adjacent universe where they are part of the magical kingdom that operates the Disney universe, while all the separate movies operate within their own worlds.
How about Planet Kingdom Hearts?
Planet Kingdom Hearts? Well, there's what's the place called?
Kingdom Hearts.
Yes, Kingdom. It's called Kingdom Hearts.
It is.
It's just like layers and separate layers, all operating in tandem.
Hey, Jan, I have a question.
Yes.
Is Kingdom Hearts 3 a good video game?
It is not a fun game to play.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it brought me to tears as well.
But not for the reasons.
Go on.
It's very PS2.
Yes. Yeah. That's the part where it becomes
Well,
unfortunate.
yeah. I mean,
that-
that's when they started making it.
Yeah, but they didn't change.
But here's the thing,
which
is-
is interesting.
Yeah, lots of other video game franchises from that era have continued on and evolved and changed and
Like
developed
Shenmue
with the
3.
times. Yes, like Shenmue 3, for instance. This seems resolutely not interested in that.
Yes, they've stuck to their guns, and in this aspect and regard, I don't think it was the best thing or decision to do. There are elements of the combat where you can, Jason and I had mentioned the Poo Keyblades, where you can kind of diversify how you play the game. You can take it from like a ranged aspect versus straight up button mashing, but you can just get through the game just mashing on square and jumping around.
I like the rides, the
Yeah.
interactive
Yeah,
ride
yeah.
specials. Looks kind of cool.
Every world has like a different gimmick to it, and then you can kind of take it or leave it. It kind of gets annoying after a while. But the ride aspect is neat because they'll pay homage to Disney rides like the Log Flume or
the Runaway Train.
the Runaway Train.
Is there a small world one?
There
where
is
you
not, thank
just
God.
Bore the enemy team to death.
There's teacups. There's
teacups.
a raft.
There's Space
the
Mountain.
Yes.
You like paint the. I don't.
Is there that talking trash can from Epcot? 'Cause that's the best part of Epcot.
There's some
Is
Disney.
Captain EO in there?
Oh no. Oh,
There's one where you just
patched
sit
him out.
in like a roller coaster car and then shoot.
yes.
That would seem.
That's like the Buzz Lightyear ride.
Oh, is
I
okay.
want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the actual playing of the game, and then even just watching the cutscenes, because I just feel with the line reads specifically, there's a little bit too much pause in between each thing, that things could have just been tightened up a bit. And I don't know if I actually enjoy this game or I've just been like led on a leash for the past.
Is this just sunk cost fallacy for you at this point?
I think so, but it's like definitely like law of diminishing returns of like the more I invest myself into this game and the franchise, the less I'm getting out of it. But then it keeps dropping like little moments. It's like watching the WWE, right?
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
Okay. It's like, wow, this is just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And then like one thing will happen and be like, oh, I love this again.
So, okay, if I'm getting this right,
Nier Automata and the WWE.
you like moments. You like the moments of this game, but you don't like the cutscenes or the gameplay.
There's specific cutscenes that stand out above the rest.
Okay.
The gameplay, very lacking. Vinny, you had mentioned on the Beastcast, story feels like it's a PS2 game.
The environments, like
Yes.
these kind of like closed environments where you're like running up walls to get
Right.
to the next area, then you
Yeah.
fall down the wall, and
Especially that first Hercules zone seemed
Yeah.
real rough.
Yeah, performance-wise, this game isn't the best either. There was definitely parts where your in-world allies would run at like single frames occasionally when they were doing their
Oh.
special moves.
and I built the gummy ship with my son, and we had a lot of fun building like a gummy ship. And
So like
then-
gummies like candy?
No,
Okay.
but it's like Lego basically. But they give you kind of this open kind of Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts thing to build your ship. And I'll take a lot of blame for this, but I'm going to blame the game a little bit. When the ship launched, it was flying sideways because I had not built it.
Oh.
I had not built the front on the front
That is so funny.
so it just launched out of the thing and couldn't just floated in space.
Did you both start laughing? I would have died.
I was a little annoyed because it's not the most intuitive controls. We had spent like a half hour building this thing.
Can you take it back in and just rotate it,
No,
or
we have
would you
to
have had to have taken it all apart?
and start over?
That's so funny.
So that was a little bit of a bummer. But maybe if you can build a cool gummy ship, that's
You could
fun.
use a Shiba Inu as a base for your gummy ship if you find
A
the
dog?
parts. Yeah, yeah.
What? You can find parts to a dog?
Just the whole dog.
That whole song, dog parts.
Yes. But this game, it just has this weird grasp on me. And then I know we say the combat isn't the best, but then if you were to go from two to here, they open up so much that they've introduced on like the million in between releases they have put out since 2. And 2 came out. It was a PS2 game, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The first one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you
Yes.
think this is the best Kingdom Hearts game to play? Like, is this the best one that they've made?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you think? But second follow up to Abby's question: do you think it's worth jumping in fresh to this Kingdom Hearts game?
Not at all. Not at all.
They do. They have like a pretty
Yeah.
good primer in the
Yeah.
game of like, here's the stuff you should pay attention to. I thought.
But the problem is with the they do that Mass Effect thing of like, hey, here's what happened.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't touch on like the minute details from all the minor. I don't even want to say minor releases of all the different releases, including the mobile game, which I had to pick up to understand parts of this story.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I watched a couple different primers actually on YouTube, and still have relatively like no idea what's going on.
Is it more than the power of friendship will save Roxas?
It's the power of friendship. It's just the power of friendship.
It's just the power of friendship.
It's just the power of
Okay.
friendship of like uniting people together,
Right.
to one vague goal
Yes.
to save the world.
It's Chiral
Like game of
Network.
the year.
Yeah.
It's a Strand game.
yes. It really is.
The part where that is exactly like Nier Automata, 100% a strain.
Jeff, get ready. We're going to say that at
I
least
just want to
2
lay
dozen
down.
more times.
I just want to lay down.
Did they bring the whole thing to a natural conclusion?
No.
Okay.
It comes to a conclusion where it does the whole Marvel thing now of there's an after credit scene that completely changes the whole game.
Oh.
And God knows when there will be another release or a piece of DLC to tidy things up. But there's 2 after credit scenes now that I think about it that kind of lays the groundwork for maybe another Kingdom Hearts 3.5 with Final Fantasy characters. Okay, this game is Nier Automata, Final Fantasy 15, and The World Ends With You, that DS game.
What?
Oh,
All
sure.
right.
I like that game.
That game's good.
When I started Kingdom Hearts 3, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jan, I'm pretty sure it starts and it says Kingdom Hearts 2.9. And it comes up on the screen and says Kingdom Hearts 2.9. And I said to the TV, get off your bullshit. There was a
You
fight.
should have just uninstalled it at that
I
point.
probably should have, but I went through. I made it past Hercules' world, and I made it to the gummy ship, made it to the next world, made it to that town, the Twilight Town or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Did all that stuff. Made it a little bit further past that, but that boss fight on Hercules' world, we fight that tornado at the end.
It takes a lot.
Yeah.
That was like, what are we doing here? That fight was very PS2, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it hasn't evolved since then.
Yeah, it was
as
so-
far as combat is concerned.
like get close to
I've
the thing,
literally
mash it.
just held down like mashed X,
And then I eventually
it'll
got the
continue to do air combos.
air
and keep
combos, yeah.
doing it over and over and over. Just mashed.
And then I got the Buzz Lightyear ride and just would shoot the thing.
Yep.
It was, but the kids came and sat down in front of it, and then we both all had a fun time looking at each other, being like, I don't know do you know what's going on? I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on, but I did
what's
like the
going on.
rides when you got the ride stuff. That was really dumb and funny.
Yeah, it's a moment. It's not even a moment to moment. It's a moment every other moment type of game. And And I think I like it, and I think I hate it a lot.
All right.
And that is Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay.
I had a PowerPoint, but
Fair enough.
There you
I
have
didn't
it.
have that ready.
They made Kingdom Hearts 3. It finally came out.
If anything, they made a Kingdom Hearts 3.
After 15 years.
Who are the bad guys that look like the game's broken? The ones with the vertices look like they're just kind of like they're moving all around and stuff. There's
The nobodies.
the nobodies. It looks like it looks like a coding error, and they just went with it.
Yes.
Like, this will work.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. What a weird game.
Yeah.
You can summon Simba. Simba's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
You have
They
to-
do all of Frozen. If you've never seen Frozen, this is a vehicle to watch Frozen.
You'd think they'd just do the one song? No.
Frozen's very
They weren't
popular.
content.
Frozen is very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that, I'll let it go.
All right.
Oh, damn.
That was
Man,
written. I
come
saw
on.
that.
It was in the notes. Nice.
That wasn't off the head.
No.
Damn it, guys.
Off the
blow up my
dome.
spot. Don't blow up my spot.
All right. Next game. Sunless Skies.
Yes. From the makers of Sunless Sea.
Oh.
They made another one of those, only they went to the sky.
So
now
now,
instead-
so airships?
well-
can you build a gummy ship?
Okay. So you are in a. I hesitate to call it steampunky.
Just say it.
But it's steampunky version of like 19th century space. You're in space, and you are flying around in a train, a space train.
Okay.
Train.
Yeah.
That you inherited from your previous captain, and you are going on adventures in this sort of like retro-futuristic colonial space zone that is like a little bit Lovecraftian space horror, and then a lot of like weird characters sort of like existing in these different like little zones around the map.
Yeah, it's got like that Victorian
Yes.
space vibe.
And it's an RPG, you know, like and it's a game that has like, you know, permadeath. Like if you die, you can just start over as a new captain in the ship, and you kind of have to go through the whole some of the motions again. Like if you finish quests, you don't have to do those again. But if you like had one that was like halfway through, you have to go through and do it again. But a lot of this game is the writing and it's the art. Like it is the characters and sort of the interactions you come across as you are playing through this thing. Very well written, very, you know, like it's engaging stuff. And the art is really cool. Like it has a really nice kind of vaguely psychedelic kind of space horror vibe going on. Like everything is, you know, broken up meteors and like weird nebulas and stuff behind you as you're kind of going around these spaces. It's also very slow. It's a game that I liked a lot, but I kind of lost my momentum with it because moving around the space and kind of doing stuff, there's a lot of downtime.
Sure.
What is the genre, let's say? Like in one sentence, like what kind of game is
It's
it?
a top-down RPG.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's a game where you are building up your stats and you are filling out your crew as you go along, and you are just going on these adventures. But it is all text-based. Like it is. Yeah.
It's like almost Oregon Trail-ish, where you're like a little more direct control and stuff, but you're basically making sure you have supplies so you don't resort to
Exactly, yeah.
cannibalism or is
Yeah,
there
like
cannibalism in this one? I can't remember.
I think there is.
Okay. You know, you want to make sure you have supplies, you want to make sure you have stuff as you make your way to each outpost.
I highlighted this one in particular because I liked it better than Sunless Sea, which is a game that a lot of people liked, and I kind of fell off of because it was dense in a way that I wasn't as into. This one, I feel like with the way the world is kind of designed and opened up, and sort of the art style especially, like just really grabbed me this time around. It's well written, it's fun. I never got around to finishing it because, like I said, the pace of it is very slow, and it takes a while to kind of really get anything going in that game.
Yeah, I remember sitting in for the quick look, being intrigued by it, and like part of me wanted to play it because the story does seem really well written, really engaging, but also just getting around didn't seem so fun.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slog, but I think that there is definitely an audience of people who find that very rewarding. It didn't hold me the whole way through.
Yeah.
And your train is just a train.
It's just a damn train.
Astro train.
Well,
It's
yeah.
just a-
Space
it's like-
train.
Astro Train is in the
Astro
space.
Train.
Well, he
His
would
game.
transform into a space
Yeah,
shuttle.
he's a
like
triple
that.
changer.
He's a triple
Something
changer.
crazy.
It says,
Yeah.
But it's just a train that floats through space.
It is.
Pretty good.
Like Back to the Future.
It's got some
but
style.
Space.
But space.
It's a
Wish I
game
had
I
one
would
of those.
say has some style.
Okay. Great. All right, next game. This is making me realize that the beginning of the year was actually pretty strong for games.
That's
It always
stuff.
is now. You know, that's
Yeah.
everything gets delayed,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Q1 is always big.
That February window is becoming
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
especially-
February to March especially.
Especially
Yeah.
when you drop a game out of nowhere.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
prior.
Dude, yeah.
I was gonna
I-
say biggest surprise of the year.
We're
Maybe
talking
Like,
about Apex Legends. I mean, I went to that reveal event. Like, Respawn is one of, like, let's say 3 studios where you would be willing to fly to another city when they don't tell you what they're working on to see
Yeah.
it. And then
lo and behold, here is
watching the trailers for this, the way they showed them, like
for Apex Legends.
I think it wasn't until like halfway through the second video they showed us before I actually really was sure what kind of game it was. And then at the end of that whole thing, they were like, "Oh, by the way, it's out in 4 days." It was just like, "Holy shit!"
I feel like a lot of people like rolled their eyes when they heard like, "Oh, free to play battle royale."
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. Like we sat down. So Brad didn't tell me what the game was until we sat down to record the thing.
Yeah, I wanted to see genuine reactions.
And like, so basically, like, we recorded that video, and I was like, okay, like, I'll hear him out. Sure,
Yeah.
that's exciting that it's out as we're recording
free.
this or whatever. It's like, okay, let's. But like, we stopped that video, and I think I turned to him and said, "People are gonna fucking hate this."
But sure enough, like word got out that weekend before it came
No
out.
Titans.
Yeah, dude, it was insufferable
Like people
watching
will be
all that stuff.
pissed about this announcement.
Well, people kept saying Titanfall when they talked about it when it was first announced, and then like after it was out for a little bit, no one even really. It's just its own thing.
It's kind of easy to forget that it's even in that
Totally.
universe to me.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, the guns are the same. Like there are
right.
common
There's certainly
elements,
like
of course.
direct references to Titanfall, but yes, they've carved out their own thing like really well. They have made a lot of really smart decisions with the design of the game out of the gate, and I think over time, I think they've been pretty good like stewards of the game. Not always. Like some of the monetization stuff has been shitty.
Yeah,
they've like it feels like every time they've rolled out a
get
season
into
pass
that,
or something,
but-
they've had to be like, "Oh
Apologize.
shit, we're changing this." Midstream, we're going to change the way this money thing works, and
Pricing on that stuff is a bummer.
Yeah.
They're like charging $18 for legendary skins and shit.
and that's
like
sometimes that's how much is an Arcana Dota? Like it's not unprecedented for shit to be expensive. It's just a matter of like how they've made it earnable, or like they wouldn't let you just buy it straight up.
Right.
It was like, hey, you have to buy a
tokens.
box, and then you maybe get it, and then they add a direct purchase later.
This game, this game really makes it clear. Like I hate myself for using this term, but like there is an art to MTX design.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like you get why there are people that specialize in just how to monetize games like this now,
Yeah.
because like finding that balance of how do we make money on this, but how do we not piss people off?
Because
Seems-
people are
seems
happy
really
to pay
hard.
$40 for an Arcana because it completely changes like the hero in Dota. Like it's
and also because it's Dota and they're nightmare people.
Yeah,
So like
but
that's
and the thing is, like, this game didn't have that nightmare fan base built
Right.
up at this point.
He is right.
It
though.
gained
like,
it eventually.
The Arcanas do way more than a skin in this game does.
I
Like
do not want to talk about Arcana.
No, it's fine.
You
It's
brought
fine.
it up.
anymore.
What's an Arcana?
It's
It's a Dota
Dan
skin that like completely rechanges or completely recontextualizes the
You just
hero.
pull one
Like,
out of your pocket.
they've got like the
when he holds
Rubik
the Dota
Arcana-
stone, he's unstoppable.
What I like about Apex Legends
Thank you.
is I think that they do a lot of really nice stuff with the genre. Like I truly do not give a shit about battle royales at this point. Like I could not ever play one again and be satisfied. But this definitely did a lot of really nice quality of life stuff that I think other games will ham if they haven't already. Like the tagging system is great.
Yep.
The like group jumping out of the plane stuff is great. Like team jumping. You know, they also have nice stuff with like, hey, you can choose a different class, you can choose a different type of character, which I think is a nice way to like make you feel like you're playing a different type of game and really strategizing differently, where it's like, oh, I really like playing this character and they're like my main character or whatever versus my friend who is this, and you can have like a full crew. And it, you know, it didn't solve the sort of like loot for a long time and then die immediately thing for me. But I know for a lot of other people, it really probably scratched a lot of those itches.
Yeah.
Which I can really appreciate those changes. And I'm sure that we will see more of what they have brought to this genre in other types of these
Yeah.
games.
Well, yeah, Fortnite already stole half of it.
Yeah.
They
Right,
stole
yeah.
the contextual pinging stuff. They
Yeah.
stole the reboot, revive stations. They stole hot drops, like hot zones. So you know it has to be good if Fortnite's stealing it.
Right.
But the thing that like this game I think really nailed for me is it hit that sweet spot that never existed for me for a game that was like the middle ground between a Call of Duty and an Overwatch. Like,
Yes.
Like Call of Duty on one end of the spectrum, you know, it's like your time to kill is super low. It's all about
Yeah.
gunplay, gun handling, like making your shots really count. Overwatch, super ability based, but very cartoony, very objective based. You have to be on a team. You have to be really, working with your team well. This to me is like, I'm not just a soldier. Like I have a power or two that I can really kind of utilize and drill down. Like I was a Pathfinder main pretty much. I've played like a few hundred hours of this game.
and like the abilities synergize pretty well. Like,
Yes,
I think
they
that
interact
was
with other
the
ones in
initial
an
thing that
interesting
made
way.
me think like, oh, I'm totally never going to play this game is when they said like, oh, it's a 3-player game, no solo. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to play with other people.
Yeah.
But the pinging system and the way the abilities synergize actually makes that 3-player stuff work super well.
Yeah, like if you have a lifeline on your team, you're going to want to stick with the lifeline because you know like your drops are going to come in faster. Or if you have a Gibraltar, it's like, okay, let's follow around this guy. He's going to take the blunt of the damage and stuff. As far as the value goes, like this, if we're just talking about like raw time, money spent to time played, like this is number one with a bullet for me this year. It's crazy to me that this game was free. Like it's there's a lot of free games out now. The game landscape has changed a lot. But like it's got some real nice polish to it. It's got some heart to it that like a lot of free games typically you seem really rough around the edges in certain ways.
Right.
And I'm not saying this was never rough around the edges.
Yeah, early on it had some roughness.
But even it did have heart. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like you think about a lot of free to play games. You think about just like here's just a billion generic space soldiers because they could only generate the assets for this, and like this felt considered in a way that plenty of free to play games don't. And you saw that pedigree. I mean, these are people that did the Titanfall games and did Call of Duty games prior to that. Some of them certainly, not all of them, but and you saw like that lineage being brought to bear in a different genre. And yeah, I was kind of at a point where I was like, I really liked PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and I thought the Blackout stuff in Black Ops was pretty good, but that was like it. I was feeling like, okay, I might be done with battle royale games, and no, it turned out, I think they found a new. They found their own spot. They carved out their own spot for sure, and I think that's pretty impressive.
And I think they made something that is appealing to people that aren't just like hardcore shooter fans.
Absolutely.
Like I despise playing most online shooters, again, especially against random people that I don't know. Like I that is always a miserable experience for me. But like I put way more hours into this than I certainly thought I was going to at the outset. Like I still had some real bad community interactions over the course of my time with it.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Yes.
That's not the game's fault. That's just the genre's fault, And I think the game is fun
that's
enough.
human beings' fault.
It is.
Let's be.
But the game is well crafted enough and fun enough that I was willing to put up with that way longer than I would in most other games.
But I also think this game, Apex Legends in particular, does a great job of letting you turn the vocal stuff off.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like it's designed
Huge
to
mute squad button right when you load in.
and the pinging
And the
stuff
pinging.
like lets you ideally get a work around that stuff.
and they added in a firing range, which is great,
Yep.
which they should have had since day one.
absolutely.
Have you guys messed around? Has anyone else messed around with that new map much?
Yeah, I played this. This became the game I played every week with my family for a while, and the new map is fun. The train is fun.
Yeah. Like the big city that like kind of like half the games end up in that big city where there's like 6 fights happening at any given time.
I can't tell if I like the old map more than the new
it's
map,
hard,
but whatever. It's one of those things of a new thing. I hate it. But the train is fun because when it pulls into the stations, secret things pop up, and you well, not secret, everybody knows about it, but you get
vaults.
those. Yeah, and it's fun. But it's an accessible game. I was able to play with my family and be like, we all knew what we had to do. I think the loadout is faster, Abby, than PUBG for sure. It's definitely a faster game.
Yes.
I think it's faster, but it still is not
It's
fast
still
enough.
that. It's still looting.
like, let's run around, let's pick up some
Yes.
shields, let's
I mean,
pick up some guns.
yes.
I died. Let's do it again.
Kind of the cool part about that solo mode was like the first circle is just like there. It's you drop, you pick up whatever guns
Whatever
you
you
can,
have.
and then it's like, okay, go fight, done.
Yeah.
and
That's how I just play every game. So
Yeah,
it works out.
that's
like
kinda-
drop
yeah.
hot every time.
That is the point I wanted to make, though, is that the thing it does so well is that it's breezy and accessible and playable, like in a pick up and just go kind of way, but it's still got that hardcore tactical element of other battle royales.
Yeah, like scouting out a zone to see if the doors are open
and just like tense firefights back and forth and stuff like
listening
that.
in to hear if you can hear a single gunshot because that'll tell you like where people are.
Like this game found that sweet spot for me where it just became like the default battle royale that I would play if I was going to play
same
one.
here. And I think each character has at least one ability that I was like, oh, that's very useful. Like at least some of them I was like, I would never use this, but everybody had,
someone can.
Someone can, or at least
Someone's going to play Caustic and do bad shit to you, and you'd be like, fuck, I'm never going to do that.
But at least Caustic, I could be like, I see where I would use that. I'm not going to. Or like I could quickly say, okay, this is a late game character. This is an early game character for me. Or, I wound up playing a lot of Mirage because I was like, oh, this is a character that I can get away from a firefight very easily or engage with it because I'm a bad player and I can make a double of myself. And it worked out really, really well. Like my family wound up gravitating towards characters that can escape a firefight because we're not going to win, right? That guy who can inject himself with the stim and run away, or like Mirage, and like we all just like everybody flee.
Get out of here.
But that worked for us.
Yeah,
Mirage
you're a
is such
family of cowards.
Mirage is such a great example of how well made this game is because like you look at that at first, and you're like, dude, decoys are useless with human players. They see through everything.
they're not,
Like,
no.
I don't know how many times I have been duped by that asshole.
You also see that guy, and he like you hear him talk once, and you're like, okay, it's this kind of guy. But like he actually
love
has some
Mirage.
like really funny lines.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of really funny lines in the
I think,
game.
yeah, the
was-
writing and you know the universe they've built around this, I think, has been remarkable.
The
They've
trailer-
done a good job. with that stuff.
There's one moment that really made me laugh, and it's in the trailer for the Halloween update, and they're all in their costumes, and somebody walks up to Pathfinder, the robot, and they go, "You don't have a costume, Pathfinder." He says, "I am dressed up. I'm Octane's legs." And I was like, okay, this game has
that's fun.
jokes.
Yeah. I like
has
it.
jokes.
I like it a lot. I think, for a game that just came out of nowhere for free, pretty
Respawn.
more free games that are awesome.
Yeah.
Respawn killed it this year.
Yeah, why can't we
Why
do
not?
that? Why can't we just have more free games that are awesome? Electronic Arts. No,
All right, that's Apex Legends.
Yeah, it sure is. Want to do like one more game before we take a break
Yeah.
here, which is Astroneer.
That came out this year.
Finally came out of early access after like 3 years.
Yeah.
Something like
What
that.
a while.
Was it only
time,
3
yeah.
years?
Yeah, two and a half, something like that.
I thought it was
Yeah.
more.
I dabbled with it when it first went in early access years ago, and then waited until it came out. And like, this is the first survival game. This is the first one of those that I really got pretty deep into and like spent a lot of time with, and like kind of got, I guess. Like I sort of saw what it is about that genre that people like so much.
So it's a terrain deformation survival game,
It's a
right?
space survival game where you
Yeah.
collect resources and build stuff, and like it's got a really elaborate tech tree, and all the tech has such an amazing hands-on feel to it because you're manually like pulling cables out of batteries and plugging them into inputs, and like it's got a very flexible system, you know, where you can like there's like 4 different ways to power everything. You've got
Totally.
like wind power, solar power, nuclear power.
Like it takes the stuff that Subnautica does, where you're like slowly expanding that base and makes it smaller in scope, but more like it looks more like you have tech everywhere. Like you know, making sure you have the right cables and watching your power flow,
Right.
Like because you need certain batteries to power this, and you can follow the lights and stuff.
Like it's such a great just kind of arc through the tech where like, okay, I built my first buggy, but I only have solar panels, so I can only drive it during the day.
Right.
But then I found a wind turbine, and now I can drive it anywhere because when it's moving, it spins the turbine because there's air. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's very flexible and creative.
Like it constantly lets you feel like you are making progress
Yes.
with each tech and can push out further.
And like when you have ideas, you can just do them. You know, like it feels like a really great like child sort of like my first engineering kit kind of thing.
Did they ever add a thing? I didn't play it at release. I played it beforehand, so I didn't play 1.0 or whatever they called release. Did they ever add a thing where you can auto drop the lines as you're
the
just
tethers
running?
that bring power and oxygen.
Yeah,
and stuff.
so that
it's
when
on a
you
hotkey,
Okay.
so kind of.
But you can't just hold it down and it drops as you're.
No, it's not quite as automated as
Okay.
I maybe would have
I
liked.
feel like this was a game that suffered for me by the early access path, where like when I first played it, the tech kind of worked a certain way, and I started wrapping my mind around it, and then I was like, I'm going to check back in on it later. And when I checked back in, it had completely changed.
It became a very different
and it was
game.
just like, okay, I don't even know what any of this is anymore. Like, I don't have time to relearn this thing, and just kind of stopped.
I was okay with it because the game it became is way better than the game it was.
I bet, yeah,
when it
but
came out.
yeah.
And you can go to other planets, right?
Yeah, so I got my current save. I'm stranded on another planet.
Great.
I got to a planet and then ran out of fuel to get off of it.
So if we played multiplayer, can I go into your game, or is that a new?
You can come into my game. I don't know if you can bring me stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Like I still need a bunch of like aluminum or something like that before I can get
I'll
off
come
that
fly you
planet.
some aluminum.
So
Mule it to you.
the best moment I had in this game, and this is what I mean about getting these survival games, is when I lost my base. Like at one point, because you can dig underground, you know, and like at some point I just dug so far underground that I got like across the planet.
Oh wow.
And could not find my way back to my base. Oops. And I could have just like bailed out and started a new save, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like suck it up, and like I've got enough power to drive around, and like it's just that kind of emergent sort of story in your head of like
You dug too deep.
yeah, totally. And like when I finally, it took like an hour and a half, and when I finally came over the hill or dug my way out of a mountain or something, and like there was the icon on the horizon of my base, it was just like the best moment I'd had in the game. It's cool, and I guess they've done a lot of work on it since it came out. Like they've redone the terrain tool and stuff like that.
The terrain deformation stuff is really fun.
It was-
like
yeah,
they did a
yeah.
really good job of just like letting you blast away at stuff and build new stuff.
Yeah.
Like that stuff's great.
Yeah, and
It's
apparently, that's apparently one of the things they've put a lot of work into, so it should be even better now.
It's another game I would say has like a very distinctive style to it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah,
like the way it looks. I like the way all the tech in that game looks, and the way the deformation
Yeah.
stuff looks.
It's-
Like I
it's
think
kinda
just it has
made-
a jaunty kind of feel to it.
Made for animated GIFs.
Yeah,
for sure.
totally.
and they made the tech very readable.
Yes.
Because you need to be able
Yes.
to see like, okay, I need to plug this into this, and that's they did a good job.
Yeah,
with that stuff.
yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to go back to over the holidays. All right. I think
Speaking
that's
of
a
going
good
back.
first block of games.
All right,
Why don't we take a quick break and stretch our legs and then come back and talk about some more?
sounds good.
All right, back with more of 2019's most noteworthy games.
Yay!
Next up,
We love games of note.
I love note-taking games.
I like to note games that,
Yes.
that are good or bad. You thought that we were done talking about surprise battle royale games
I did.
that came out of nowhere and released, but then Tetris 99 happened.
No, it didn't. No,
How
you're
many
lying.
Tetris games do we need?
Oh, wow.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Oh no!
Here's the
Million.
thing.
What
You
a
were
year.
telling me that Tetris 99 came out in 2019. I'm telling you that is an impossibility because as far as my brain is concerned, that game has always existed on the Nintendo Switch. It came out fucking 4 years ago.
Okay.
There's no way that is a 2019 game. But it is.
I guess it is.
Launched
Yeah.
with the online service, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
No, the online service launched last fall.
I thought it was it. No, I thought it was in a big direct about
this was
the
like this
online.
was like the first like kind of free game they made
Oh,
for
okay.
it.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
kind
it
of
might
with you,
have
Dan.
been-
I thought there was something tied into
Maybe
it.
the NES stuff.
I think
launched.
that's what it was. I think it was
Yeah.
that the NES
Thinking
stuff
of.
came out. That came around the same time.
That's what I'm thinking
Maybe it
of,
was the
maybe.
first time anybody was like, I should buy this online
Oh,
thing.
there's a new thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe I should put money into this.
Here's the thing: Tetris 99 is pretty all right.
Dude, this
Yeah.
is by far my most played Switch game of the year.
Wow,
I
it's pretty
played
good.
the absolute shit out of this game. It's so good.
It's
Tetris,
rough.
yeah.
It's Tetris.
No, it's way
So-
more than that. though.
Well, it's like more Tetris than Tetris Effect was.
yeah.
Tetris
I
than
think this game is like this game is like the perfect compliment to all those people last year when Tetris Effect came out who said like, man, it's cool, but I wish it had a multiplayer mode. It's like, guess what, motherfucker?
Well, guess what? It's not
Wait,
cool
has
anymore,
anyone
but it's
played
got multiplayer.
Tetris and been like, I wish it had multiplayer.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that a real
Yes.
thing?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
has-
Very real.
It's very real.
Tetris has had multiplayer.
No,
not
I know.
in
But
this
what I mean
sense.
is like there was a big Tetris game last year that did not have multiplayer, and some
Wow.
people were not happy about that. And then it's like, here you go. How about 99 other people?
No, but it's different. It still doesn't. It's I want a Tetris game I can play with somebody on a couch, and this
Yeah.
is not that.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
no,
it's jump that you can
yeah.
push up.
well,
on
they
your
added
screen, yeah.
that DLC added modes where you can do
Yeah, that's true.
local stuff.
Look,
like
they already made a
I just want
Tetris.
Tetranet
Yeah.
power ups.
They made a Tetris for you to do drugs on the couch with. So like,
Oh.
yeah, cool
Yes.
Tetris.
Our game of the year.
That's
Yeah, I
every
remember.
Tetris game as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
last year was cool Tetris. This is hardcore Tetris.
Yeah, this
basically.
is like
this game is
cutthroat Tetris.
incredibly demanding.
I love the game. I wish they were a little better about telling you how to be good at it.
I'm
Because they
I'm
don't
torn.
tell
I'm torn
you.
on that. I totally get what you mean, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I hate that or like it. Like there's a ton of what he means is like there's just a ton of like hidden mechanics in this game that
Yeah.
it does not expose at
Like
all.
what?
Oh, right.
Like
Like, what are badges for?
yeah, like what badges do and like what the best types of junk to go for are. Like what I mean is like it turns out there are cases where getting a bunch of singles in a row is more effective than
Right, you
getting
want
a
to go for
Tetris.
combo
Oh.
rather than stacking Tetrises,
Right.
and you need badges because the more badges you have, the more lines you give people at the end game, and it's basically impossible to win without any badges because people are giving you like 16 lines at
Right.
once.
Badges are like a damage multiplier, basically, which you get for beating other people. There's a bunch of like hidden strategies that are super not obvious unless you watch a bunch of Twitch streams.
And not things that necessarily play in other multiplayer Tetris
right,
games.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Unique to
unique
this
to
game.
this.
Totally. Like,
Which are cool
they-
mechanics. I
yeah.
like those mechanics,
Yeah.
but I wish they'd surfaced those a
Some
little bit
kind
better.
of in-game like training or even just a reference guide or something.
Give me
Might
a
have been-
damn menu.
Might have been nice.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I had to straight up go on like Reddit and watch Twitch streams to get good at this game.
It's a stressful.
It's
It's,
very
a
stressful.
more
Yeah.
stressful. It's
The end game, the end game in this game when it's I've won
Stress.
I've won twice, and the end game in this is like the most heart-pounding shit I think.
What do you call endgame? Like 10, fewer than 10
I think top
people?
10
top
is
10?
pretty close
that's
to it.
Probably, yeah.
Is that about where
top
they
10, top 15
okay.
is when it starts getting crazy. But when it's you and one other person at the end is when it's like, fucking white hot, just like you cannot think about anything.
White hot Tetris.
Like it is like
Here's the thing,
You
Brad.
and one other person laying those blocks.
I wouldn't
Shirts
know.
off, looking at each other. in
I
the
wouldn't
eyes.
know.
Get that
because
straight piece.
I
Don't
think
tell my wife.
I don't think I have ever gotten further than top 5 in that game.
That's fine. I mean, it took me a long time to get to that point. Like, I was not great at it at first. Like, I definitely felt my Tetris game improving.
What did you think about all the like updates?
It's good stuff, I guess. Like, like the CPU modes and the, scrimmage stuff were kind of whatever. Like, that was pretty useless. Like, they added a lot of good sort of cosmetic stuff to it, though. Like, they put daily quests in, and you can unlock, like, Nintendo-themed backgrounds with new music and stuff by doing those, and, like, it gave it some longevity for sure.
How's the matchmaking? Does it put you up against other people of your... Am I up against Grandmasters?
Yeah,
or-
I mean, they added that Invictus mode that you can only match into if you've won a regular match.
Right.
It's like the high roller table at a
Which
casino.
dude, it is fucking savage.
Yeah,
It is absolutely brutal.
rough.
I don't think I've ever gotten higher than like mid-40s in
Yeah,
that
I
mode.
think I got 40s.
and it
once.
starts super fast, like at the top.
Yeah, you're
at the
playing
top
at
of the
like
match,
Grandmaster level
like the
at the
pieces
start.
are, yeah.
Man, people love Tetris.
It's great. It's the greatest video
No, it's
game of all
good.
time.
Tetris is good,
this
but
game-
also I've played one. I've played them all, right?
Well, no. Again,
I mean,
like,
No,
this-
I know. I can see that there's like
Sometimes-
differences here. But.
Sometimes Tetris is cool. Sometimes Tetris is hard.
Sometimes it's a sphere.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's wet.
Sometimes they're hats.
Wet
Sometimes it's
Tetris.
broken.
Oh, there's Wetris.
Sometimes there's
Wet
characters.
trick.
Please, it's wet tricks.
Okay,
sorry,
yes.
Sometimes there's a Puyo involved.
Sometimes it's a battle guide.
sometimes it's new.
Those aren't canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Puyo's not canon.
Sometimes it's the next.
Sometimes it's next. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
It's like
it's
a Dr.
bootleg.
Seuss
I like
look.
that the best.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes in a weirdly shaped cartridge.
Okay.
Yeah. I like. In concept, this game sounds insane, and I think it's even crazier that it works as well as it does. Like
It's-
yeah, I
yeah.
think it's neat.
it is so playable.
It's
Like,
it's a fun thing to have talked about of a battle royale Tetris. Like when we were all talking about 99 falls on a blank, right? 99 blank fall on a
Yes.
blank.
Yes.
You say, oh, Tetris. Oh, that kind of works.
Yeah, I think it
totally-
has a sense of humor, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Just the concept of it, I think, is it's self-aware. It
Well,
seems.
and it's cool because everyone was like, "Oh, battle royale trends. When are we going to get
Yeah.
something from Nintendo?"
Yes.
And then they're like, "Don't
you
give
go.
them what you want. Give them what you
Totally.
don't know you want."
It's totally
yet." And
Nintendo
it's
doing what-
Tetris battle royale.
what Nintendo does. It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this became like my after work. Like, I'm going to play 20 minutes of a multiplayer game. It was this.
Well, it's too stressful.
Yeah. Also, like the only game to make me take my Switch out of the dock.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I play that thing like a TV console, except when I play this. That's why I modded
But you
it.
can't play it on the go,
Oh, because
right?
the touchscreen stuff, right? Is it
I
so
ended
you
up-
can
I
tap
ended up-
other people's?
It was more just
Playfields?
for like ease of pick up and play, really. Like
Tetris has always kind of been an association with handheld,
Yeah,
too.
kind of.
Yeah.
Like I actually transitioned away from the touchscreen stuff and
Oh,
just kind of
wow.
started using the. Like I used the more automated targeting stuff for the most part.
Is that,
But,
is that a pro move? Should I do it?
I guess I'm not the one to ask, but
I'm very bad at this.
I don't know. I heard you're a grandmaster.
this game is not quite. I'm getting there.
Okay.
This game's fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
Is Crackdown 3 fantastic?
No, but they made it and it came out.
Much like Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, yeah.
Crackdown 3.
Believe it or
Crackdown
not,
3, the
please.
Kingdom Hearts 3 of Crackdown games.
Believe it or not, it did come out this year.
Yeah, this game I feel like was the first like, hey, you got Game Pass, whatever. Like it was maybe one of the first party releases post Game Pass that had that feeling of like, oh, this actually. Like games kind of mean something a little different in terms of the value proposition involved. Because Crackdown 3, not a good game.
Okay.
No.
Crackdown 1, which they put out for free not too long before this game finally came out, still a better game in a lot of ways.
better
Yes.
game.
I mean, it looks
the best
better.
Crackdown.
Would you say it is a bad game on its own merits, or is it just not enough? Is it just not enough of a sequel?
It's not enough of a sequel, but I think like on its own merits when you compare it to like open world design in just games overall, like it was like they just rubber stamped the same events around the world. And it was like, here's another train station to take over. Here's another this. Here's another that. And it was just kind of the same thing over and over and over again. Crackdown 1 had some elements of that too, but
was newer and there was less competition in the open world space at that time. So they got by on the merits of like, hey, you could jump high.
Yeah, it felt like a game that would have come out in like 2010, 2011 and be like, oh, hey, we put it on the Xbox One.
Right. And for how long it got delayed and all that other stuff, it just felt like this bizarre mess. Like, think about this game. This was the game they showed very early on. It's like, the power of the cloud is going to make these physics work. And that the end result of that was it was only in the multiplayer, and the multiplayer was a separate executable you launched from the Xbox One dashboard, and it was bad on top of that. So it was just like, okay, yeah, you synced up all the physics stuff, but the physics stuff wasn't even that impressive to begin with. It was just a bizarre tale of like this game weaving its way to market. Like at some point they're like, well, we got to put it out like someday.
They really overpromised and underdelivered.
Yeah, but then I think the other part of that story is like if you have Game Pass, you could just download it and fuck with it for 2 hours and say, I'm never going to play this again, and that's fine.
Right.
And I think it works a lot better in that environment than it does as like, hey, pay $60 for this completely underwhelming experience. Yeah, I liked Crackdown 1 a great deal. Crackdown 2, I did not hate it as much as other people seemed to. This is just like a bridge too far. It's just like, come on, forget it. Like, this is like there were parts of me that were like, they should have just canceled this.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this at E3, and one of their big talking points was their kind of almost Nemesis-like system where they're like the gangs would have trees, and that you like if you took out a lieutenant here, and it seems like that stuff just like barely existed.
Yeah, well, I mean, so like the first game had an element of a criminal hierarchy that you would have to work your way up, and if you could take out these guys to make stuff easier later down the line, and so on and so forth. Like that concept is sort of still in the game, but it didn't evolve into anything resembling a Nemesis system for sure.
They used that word a few times.
Yeah, it's not that. It ain't that at all.
Was this a case of maybe more of them just trying to use that to prop up the thing they were already
I don't know.
doing?
Or maybe they thought they were going to have time to do more.
Dreams,
I feel like this game definitely must have had bigger dreams at some point, considering how long it took to come out. But super disappointing. And like that, like I said, that fascinating thing of like, if you could play it for $0 additional, like there are worse games you could play for sure. But at the same time, man, it's just
there was a time when I thought picking up 500 agility orbs was enough.
You're right. Yeah, and I think that was the other thing they banked on is like because all the thing was like, hey, the orbs are back, and you're like, okay,
I love orbs.
Like that was kind of couched in a more engrossing experience, like not necessarily a hugely engrossing one, but there was more to it than that. And this just feels like they're like, well, it's got the orbs. It's pretty rough.
Terry Crews deserved better.
Yeah.
Am I remembering right that there was fall damage too?
In this one? Or
I seem to remember like playing this and being like, wait, there's fall damage? And then not remembering if the first one had it or not.
Right. I've blocked out a lot of the particulars of Crackdown 3.
Yeah, in a game that's all about jumping super high off buildings and stuff, and we're being like, no, don't do that.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
There's definitely something to be said about a release that makes you question the validity of an entire franchise when it comes out. You're like,
was this ever fun? Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, absolutely.
2007 was just such a different time.
I know,
for this kind of game.
But like then a game that comes out that makes you revisit your thoughts on like maybe I was really bored when I played the first one, or like
I think people were really positive about the first one because like this is surprisingly good for a game that we bought for a Halo 3 beta.
Totally.
It's a Zone of the Enders thing.
This is the Tobal number 1 of the Xbox.
Yes.
You think there's even a thin folder that says Crackdown 4 on it, like circulating around, or you think
circulating? No.
They're using that for
if someone has it in a
right
desk
now.
and they're afraid to show it to anyone. And if it's maybe once it's done, if it's the greatest idea in the world, then they'll take it out and show it to someone. But that's going to have to be 10 years down the line because they burned it.
I don't know if the brand has enough value at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like they could use it, like maybe this was intended to as some kind of vehicle for a tech demo. Like if this were originally going to be the cloud stuff.
I wonder, because like that was the initial pitch. Is like this was announced alongside like, hey, the power of the cloud is going to make this a reality. Right. And then you have to wonder, like, at some point, did they get ramrodded into like, well, you have to ship it and it has to have some kind of cloud thing. Otherwise, our cloud service we're trying to sell to enterprise is going to look weak.
Right.
So you have to at least have that bullet point in there somewhere.
Yes, but
even though it didn't need it didn't benefit. Like I don't think as a non-technical player of the game, I don't think it really benefited from any of that stuff. At least not that I could see.
Nah. It did come out this year.
It did come out this year, and it's notable for just like how long it was in development and the weird history. I enjoyed the Windows Phone Crackdown game more than Crackdown 3.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Do you want to throw that up for nomination?
It didn't come out this year. Otherwise, I
You
would.
can make an
Go on
exception.
It was located. Basically, it was Pokemon Go.
Was it
before Pokemon
updated
Go
this
was
year at
Pokemon
all? I don't
Go.
know. We
It's
can kinda,
probably
like-
still the Windows Phone game of the year.
They shut off the servers, but you might still be right.
Yeah.
Windows Phone doesn't exist anymore. Sadly.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next?
True their word. They put out Crackdown 3.
Congratulations to Crackdown 3.
We did it.
And Terry Crews.
Congratulations to Terry
Oh, I do
Crews.
like
Cash
Terry
that check.
Crews.
All right. Not a year goes by without a new Far Cry.
God, if only they would take a year, right? I mean,
Well,
if they would
So
just...
Far Cry 5 was last year, but I guess there were a couple of years
Yes,
before
they
that
did.
that they didn't that they
Well,
skipped.
they had that like halfway one.
Primal.
There's
yeah.
Primal.
Well, there's
Yeah, I think there was some time between Primal and 5.
They had Blood
But wasn't
Dragon.
that the one
Blood Dragon.
with the like two? Is this?
That's this one. That's
Oh, okay.
New Dawn, yeah.
Wait. Okay. Wait. What was the other one? The
Primal.
Oh, Far Cry 5.
The 5 was the one.
5 was in the one set
in the US.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. They're
Yeah.
all blurring
I
together
know.
for me.
Yes, that's where we're at. I think,
That's
at
where
this
that
point.
franchise is.
And 5 was just last year, and then here's this a year later on the same map, kind
Yeah.
of following up those events.
It's pinker.
You're right, yeah.
Yes.
And Far Cry 5 was already kind of too much.
Yeah.
It was,
4, people were complaining about 4 being too much.
yeah, and I liked 4.
I think 4 is still the best
4 is
one.
my favorite
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
But 3 was the game that kind of
Yeah.
like solidified that formula. But I think 4 was where they just executed on it better. This just from the storyline, just oh man, this game this was
This
a game
game
that,
or 5?
oh I'm sorry 5
Yeah.
you're right.
Because this is actually technically something different.
So then this came out after 5, and it's like here's a smaller, condensed take on some of the concepts of 5, but it didn't make it better.
Right.
It was just like it had this base and this just kind of building up these survivors and that kind of concept that like just felt really unnecessary, and that didn't bring anything new to it. The story was left in a weird place by the structure of 5 in a way too that just like, man, why did they make this game?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a thing where it definitely 100% nothing new at all, which was sort of nice of like, this is a video game as video game. It's sort of comforting in a way. It's like, I know exactly what I'm getting here. I can clear out a space. That's kind of fun, kind of satisfying. I'll pick up shit as I run along. But also, it did nothing new. It's the most obviously forgettable thing in the world. Like, I enjoyed playing it, but I had no drive to continue to play it.
I played it as much as I needed to for us
Yeah.
to do this quick look, and then I was like, okay, cool, great.
good.
I don't have to play this ever again.
Yeah.
Because, like, frankly, like 5 had so much unnecessary side stuff in it that if you came out of 5 feeling like I need more Far Cry, there was probably plenty of stuff you could do in Far Cry 5 still.
Right.
They would at least be like, I feel like the outposts were done a little bit better there, and it just, yeah. Wow.
Nothing about this screams necessary.
Like that's how I felt about Primal, and then
Yeah.
they came back with 5, and it was this opportunity of like, well, it's a setting that we haven't necessarily seen, and maybe that'll make it more interesting. It didn't, and then they kind of double down on some of that stuff here. It's just like, why? Again, why make this game? Like, who are people actually clamoring for this? Like, maybe there are some people that are just like, fuck it, I love Far Cry, but like, I can't.
One thing I will say is I do think it allowed me to make a character a lady with mutton chops, and I'm always very pleased to see that. So
Yeah.
It got my mutton
I
chop
want to see. I want to see
award.
your list of like the lady
best
with mutton chops
mutton
seal of
chops.
approval.
Sims doesn't have it. I'm petitioning to let my Sims have mutton chops.
Which is actually kind of weird. 'cause
I know.
You think of all
big
the
character
games.
crews.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would think that they would let ladies have mutton chops, but they don't. Anyway, I'll come up with a list for you, Jeff.
How was the co-op stuff in it? Was it
It's like kind of the
necessary
same,
or
right?
No, same type deal.
Okay.
Like it's
not necessary?
like in a lot of games, and Far Cry 5 was the same way. If you're playing it with a friend and not watching any of the story stuff and just like, fuck it, we're running around and shooting stuff,
We did that. That was fun.
you can do
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and have it at a better time with
Okay.
it. But just like at its core, it's there are plenty of things you could do with a friend in a video game that are better than New Dawn and Far Cry 5.
Okay.
Like these games aren't terrible in and of themselves. It's
Yeah.
just that there's just so many of them.
It's like a video game as
Like,
video game.
you just-
It's so
they need
forgettable.
to-
It's
Like
fine.
they've kind of this formula has run its course. I
Yes,
think.
absolutely.
Like Primal was the case of them, like maybe going back to the well one too many times, and then
then
they
they went
several
twice
now
more.
there've been 2 more of those.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on.
I think if I didn't have this job and I was just a consumer buying games and I bought this game, I would probably play it and just put on a podcast every time I did and be like, this is my Saturday afternoon,
Yep.
not paying attention, just
Running
you know,
around shooting shit.
enjoying pushing buttons game.
Just aim and shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Far Cry New Dawn.
Yes, that
Not
came
great.
out in February. Also in February, Jump Force.
Jesus Christ, what were they thinking?
boy.
What were they
boy.
thinking?
Wait,
Wow.
They were thinking people buy these anime games, they don't have to be good.
No. Okay. So this is the big. So Jump is the kind of brand that like
Shonen Jump?
Shonen Jump.
Yes.
You know they've got Goku, or Dragon Ball, One Piece, all those kinds of games. And this was their big. It's not the first time they've done a Jump game. There's one on GBA that I know people really like.
That one's actually
was
really
good.
good.
Yeah,
It's not fun.
but they haven't really had like a big one of these, like a marquee. Let's just do Smash, right? Let's just do Smash. And I think about Smash a lot, which is a problem. I have a brain disease.
Because I feel like that's
Ben, this is a safe place.
you're
It's okay.
setting. I feel like that almost puts unfair expectations on this game
So here's my-
by trying to say let's do a Smash, because they're saying let's do a Jump.
Right, and I'm mad at them for that.
Yeah.
I think they should be taken to task, because I think about Smash and I think about like, is there any other roster out there that could kind of just make a real take at Smash and try and be like, we're the new Smash. Like we've got, it's like,
Or what if they made
Disney-
it a proper fighting game?
Or that. Yeah. I mean, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But like, I think Jump is honestly one of the few rosters out there that could be like, okay, we're making a serious, like, I think like a party game or something, like something that people can jump in. People who, I know Goku.
Yeah. I love to jump.
I know Naruto, but like this game is just such a piece of shit.
Oh,
It looks awful. Like some of the character models look
Like a hyper
interesting.
realistic.
I like how bad they look,
It
though.
works for some of them.
Yeah, like Goku looks scary, but,
But
like,
then, like-
if Goku existed in the real world, that's what he would look like. And you'd be like, oh my god!
No, no,
don't
no.
want that.
I know
He
what
looks like
Goku
a
would look like in the
nightmare.
real world. They made a whole movie about
I
it.
guess you're right.
What?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have
need to
a
watch
human
that.
Goku. Yeah.
Live action.
He looks like that actor.
Like Naruto looks okay. Some of them look okay, but like Yugi is terrifying.
Who's this green boy?
That's
That's
the
Goku
creative
2.
character.
That's Goku too. Where's his
You
hair?
make your own.
You make your own character.
You make your own Goku.
Oh, gotcha.
If you were to make Goku from the ground up today, he wouldn't have the hair.
God,
you
their
know?
eyes
are so
Because it's
big.
2019. and-
And well, I mean, and then you could start bald, and then Super Saiyan's when he grows the hair. It gives you more
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
pathways
You
to
get
go
a lot
down.
of-
Guys, we have a lot of
Garbage.
games to get through. So what's so bad about this game other than the fact that it
just-
looks bad?
It's a shitty arena fighter, and even in the sphere of shitty arena fighters, we've had better shitty arena fighters this year with like Kill la Kill If. And,
Was the My Hero game this year?
the My Hero game was this
Yeah.
year. It's just it was a
Cutscene story is just laughable. at best.
really
Just
like you
ridiculous.
can. There were a lot of clips that came out around the time of just like characters just kind of like floating away.
Is that Deku?
Yeah, Deku's in it.
this?
All Might's in there.
shit.
There's the Yu-Gi-Oh
Yeah.
guy.
Can you be Todoroki?
No, Todoroki's not in this.
I
That's
will
not- that's
say
strange.
there's no consistency with the eye sizes of any of
Yeah.
these characters. It is unsettling. I kind of think I like it too. Though.
Yeah.
I like
It's
the
a
weird
nightmare.
Times Square they had, the like fake
Yeah.
TKTS and the fake McDonald's.
And it's like the interesting thing is at the start of the game, you choose a team. Basically, there's like 3 teams, and each of them has a leader. Like Luffy's one of the leaders. I think Goku's one of the leaders.
Goku's a leader, Naruto's a
and
leader.
Naruto's a leader.
What about the
and then they
Yu-Gi-Oh
have
boy?
like Yu-Gi-Oh boy's just in a crew. Like he's hanging out with Goku, and then like you've
He
got
should
like
be a leader.
you've got like Deku hanging out and Sasuke hanging out with other people, and like you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna have all
never
these
do that.
interactions with characters that don't normally interact, but they never like fucking talk to each other. They're basically just like say one sentence to you, and then like do
Let's
the
go
Poochie,
fight.
do the Poochie thing, and just like levitate back out to their home planet. This game's a piece of shit.
Wow.
How are the supers?
They're
They
okay.
look
They fun?
cool.
They're
Yeah.
okay.
It's just
Yeah.
like in a world where Dragon Ball Fighter Z or Fighters exists.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a disappointment.
What's up with the weird behind the back camera angle? Is there any precedent for that? Like,
Tons of
It's
Dragon
an
Ball games
arena
would do
fighter.
that.
It's
Virtual on,
It's like a
like,
Gundam
you know,
versus.
and yeah,
that
there's
genre.
okay,
The Naruto games, some of the Naruto games.
Yeah.
okay.
The Cyber Connect people love that.
And those are all bad too, like the Budokai, like all that Dragon Ball stuff.
Shipping
I would rather
business.
play Budokai than this.
Boy.
Because,
This game is bad. Then.
yeah, I've said it my piece.
All right.
Okay.
Your One Piece.
I've said my one piece. It's the name of the treasure.
on the.
More like Yugi no.
Wow, we're just going to keep going.
I should have just said that.
More like it blow-coos. No?
Cool.
Okay.
More like Shonen Jump.
More like
off
shit
a
of the
cliff.
North Star.
Naruto. No.
No, did we see that
Naruto,
already?
no.
Shitty
was
Hunter.
thinking
That
of
one's
that.
for Jason.
More like
More like
Naruto.
Shitsuke, right?
Oh, Naruto's better.
Like
Yeah, that's actually way better.
Boruto.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right.
But that's actually
That's his son.
Yeah.
Well, moving right along.
More like Dump Force.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, good work. Good work, Brad.
That's the one we were looking for.
All right, Fade in Black.
Brad, what's next?
Metro Exodus.
Oh, yeah. That came out this year.
Yeah.
I am not the biggest Metro fan in the world or anything, and I didn't necessarily expect this game to set my world on fire, but even I found it just to be kind of tedious. It's the... So yeah, like it's the sort of like pseudo open world thing where you're kind of moving from area to area, and each of those areas is kind of open.
That
Like, there's different-
seemed to be like the big pitch going into
Yeah.
this was like, hey, it's more open this time. There's more side stuff to do.
Yeah,
it's
there's
not
a
just a linear shooter.
There totally is more side stuff to do. There's totally like a number of different interactions you can do in each of those little areas. But the problem is that I find all of it to be very sterile. There's just not much personality to it. The shooting is still like the bullet economy is not really a thing anymore.
Yeah,
No.
they got away from that.
No,
Yeah.
that was the coolest thing about these.
Yeah, but at some point they're like, just we want you to shoot stuff.
Yeah, and like there's still a limited amount of ammunition, but not so limited that you aren't just shooting stuff constantly. The guns never feel that great. I mean, I know they're supposed to be sort of like junky and post-apocalyptic, but
But like they're just not interesting to use.
No.
like this thing you have to pump up or whatever. Like
it's not great.
No.
And the random encounters in those worlds suck. Like I didn't enjoy fighting like the weird mutants and demons and stuff. Like the stuff that was more story focused, that was more about like the different survivors and whatnot. Like that shit was a little more
I
interesting.
feel like the only interesting thing about this game to me was like the setting, this idea of just like we're on this train.
Yes.
Like the initial open of just like we're on this train. They think we're traitors. Oh wait, are we traitors? I think we actually are.
Yeah.
That's probably for the best though. Like that initial setup I thought was pretty good. And I don't think that they do much with it. Also, I returned to this game pretty recently after getting a card that could do ray tracing because it was a pretty early example of it was like one of the first games for that. And I was like, well, I own this and let's install it and see how it looks. And it's like, yeah, these shadows sure are slightly more shadowy.
It's a reasonably nice looking game, even without that stuff.
Yep.
Like I played it on 1X and it looked pretty good. But it just, I think when they showed that first trailer and they were kind of getting out there with this game, like I think people were, or at least for me personally, I was kind of hoping they were doing something a little more inventive, something a little more, like it just had a little more ambition to it. And it just didn't really, to me, feel like it had that.
And it doesn't feel like they honed the earlier ideas like in an interesting way. Like this seems like in some ways. Like, yeah, they're getting away from that bullet economy stuff a little bit more than they even had in the past. And
I mean, they're taking you outside the, the
exactly.
underground.
Yeah. It's like, here's this chance for them to, like, this felt like their shot.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, here we're going to make this thing, and this is going to turn this from this shooter franchise that weirdos play, and this is going to be our big moment. This is going to, it is super not that.
Yeah.
Do you have to
It's-
wipe off your mask?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it like I don't hate it, but it was a game that I think I just wanted to like way more than I did, and ultimately I kind of fell off of it. Like there's a few interesting ideas there, but it's if you were not convinced by the other Metro games, this one certainly isn't going to be the one that does it.
I did think this was going to be the one that was going to make me play 1, 2, and 3. To
sure.
make the,
Yeah.
like kind of in a way that's like, okay, do I need to go back and play the other
Right.
ones? But,
Yeah.
not yet. But I still
No.
feel like Metro could get there, where I'm like, okay, I gotta go play Exodus 1, and what was the second one called? Was it just Metro 2?
Light?
Last Light.
Last
Yeah.
Light.
Is that
Yeah.
right? I think that's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
Because there's something about them still. Every time I see them, I'm like, I think I would really like these.
I really like that Eastern European kind of fatalistic post-nuclear vibe that they have going on.
I feel like that's, if you want that, then,
Stalker.
Stalker
just play
exists,
Stalker.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and
it's-
I like Stalker, but like, people who like Metro really like Metro, and I feel like it's something I could get into,
I think I'm just not a person that really likes Metro.
which is it's its own thing.
And I feel like this feels like in some ways, I'd be curious to know like what I guess this is attainable information, but we don't have it here. But like, what a real Metro fan thinks of this game, because I was under the impression that like maybe they kind of dumbed it down
Like
in a
watered it
way, or
down?
watered down the formula in a way that like those people weren't necessarily thrilled with it either.
Yeah.
In an attempt to kind of widen the audience. So you just look at it and go like, man,
I feel like 3 weeks after this game came out, I never heard about it again.
totally.
So
I feel like this was something that like they showed off at Judges Week, and for whatever reason, they decided to show it running on Xbox One. And
I think they
don't
did
know
a
if it was-
marketing deal.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
with
But I don't know if it was
Microsoft.
like the build was whatever it was. Like it ran horribly at this event, and it was like, this is what you brought to show. And it's like coming into the final version, having talked to people who were there at the time, like, oh no, the real game runs better. It's fine. Playing like, okay,
It did ultimately run better. The final.
oh yeah,
game.
it absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But
Not great.
no.
Well, there you have it.
Speaking of,
Next up on the list of 2019's games, Anthem.
Man, February, huh?
Yeah,
Off-brand Destiny.
February was a month for sure.
Anthem.
Way off brand.
Anthem. Way off.
Way off.
Generic.
more like Lestiny.
I don't know where to start.
It's been great at Subheads.
Wow. Anthem. A game that I was I wouldn't say was disappointed by, but I still to this day I still like jumping off the cliff and firing the
Yeah,
rockets
absolutely.
on
Yeah,
your feet.
flight-
Yeah,
Right?
flying
The
feels
flying
so
stuff-
good.
The Iron Man stuff is like okay. I
You
like
see what the
Yeah.
hook is.
yeah.
First time I flew and then like went underneath the water, I was like, whoa! And
Yeah.
that was the only
Well, 'cause
time I ever felt anything
then
from it.
there's-
That was the one thing that game had.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
much else to
But ultimately,
do.
I mean, they even restrain your flight ability too much
Right.
to, really,
Yeah.
to really get the
Like,
most
oh, you
out of it.
overheated again.
Yeah, fly through a waterfall
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Oh, we conveniently put water everywhere here to account for this weird system.
Yeah, I don't think we need to like relitigate every one of this game's failures. I mean, like people know what this game did well
mean,
and what it didn't at this point.
The feeling I come away with from Anthem in the end, it's not necessarily even disappointment for me. It is sadness for
Yes,
BioWare.
that is 100%
and-
the thing I wanted to say coming into this.
and
is,
for EA, it is like,
like-
it is a kind of like, oh no, oh no.
Mass Effect Andromeda was like a real low point, but it was also was like, you know, it was made by a different studio from the core BioWare, and you wanted to think it was like a one-off occurrence. And then this coming out was just sort of the final proof that, like, at least for now, BioWare has kind of lost its way.
And the amount of internal kind of what seemed like internal propping up, and you know, this is it, this is our big thing,
Yeah.
and then for it to kind of really
Well, that was the thing. You know, we went and played this game at E3, and like in that very small slice of the game, you're like, oh, this could be really awesome.
made
Like
a
the
great
flight stuff,
impression.
yeah, it made an amazing impression. And then they put out that demo, and I think that demo was where I think a lot of people were like, this is going to be this whole game, isn't it? And then they put out the whole game, and yes, like, you know, here's a first-person story area to walk through that you don't see any other human players, and a hastily tacked-on social space that doesn't do any of the things you want a social space to do. Like a lot of tacked-on story interactions that feel like someone came in and said, like, you need to BioWare this up, and you have 7 hours.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like dialogue choices that didn't actually do anything.
Yeah, like just top to bottom, like so much of the game feels like superfluous, or it feels like I said, tacked on to try to make it feel like something it's not, to feel like it's more than it is.
I remember just being so I didn't play a ton of this game just because it was bad,
You
but
got out.
Nobody
You got
did.
out like
Yeah.
I just remember being surprised by how generic everything felt. Like
Yeah.
it truly felt like somebody saw Destiny, they were making a movie and needed a game to play in the background, and this was it. Like it feels like from the aesthetics to like everything about it is just so dull.
It
It's like
is-
here's a futury robotic alien type thing. Here's another one. We've seen it a million times.
Right.
Here's sort of like kind of a future nature environment. It was just so generic and felt so lifeless.
It is deeply lifeless, and like that extends to the character interactions, especially. Like the personalities in that game are just so barely sketches of human beings and characters. Like there's just not anything there.
And then you know that's stuff you could forgive if like the action was like top
Sure.
notch. But
Right.
you get out there, like
And
that's
it's
a good point.
fine.
Like that kind of future nature thing.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's so done. But then even then, like the world is not designed. The world is designed in an almost confusing way.
Yeah.
Like it's parts of it are labyrinthine in a way that they couldn't have intended. And just getting around that space to get to like what amounts to like a public quest or trying to get from point A to point B. Just
Wasn't it even complicated trying to get together and launch a mission in almost like a Monster Hunter type of way of like, wait, how do we get
it
into
wasn't,
this?
it
Not
wasn't
as
quite
bad,
that
but-
far, but
right,
it was harder than it needed to be
Yeah.
for something that should have been better than
presumably
it
was built around multiplayer.
Right. Like there's a pitch of this game that you look at and go like, hell yeah, Anthem, but like none of that is realized here other than I guess the Iron Man suit flies.
And even tonally, I think for a game that needs to get itself away from Destiny, it's aesthetic and the choices it makes with explaining. Like they also kind of do this magic science thing, like where you're this
shaper artifacts.
almost like this warlock, like storm, person. And it's like there's so much of that. There's so much of that in this other game that has been around. Please do something different.
Like a lot of jargon to just describe like mysterious abstract forces in the world.
Like if they had been the Star Trek to Destiny's Star Wars and just went like a little more sciencey or something,
go hard
like it would
science.
have been.
As someone who was looking for a bit of story in there, it was terrible. It was awful. It just made, and they didn't give enough of it, or what I saw was just not fun to engage with, to the point where you fly out and just felt meandering.
Yep. And you get to the end of that game and you have like the post-credit sequence that was ostensibly meant to set up some piece of DLC that never came out, where they're just like, oh, the real threat's coming. And you're like, oh, thank you for dumping the single piece of potentially interesting lore here at the very end of the game.
Finish the fight.
And then they didn't finish the game. So you can't finish the fight. Maybe they'll finish the game someday.
I don't know. Now
that's
they don't even talk about it
weird
anymore.
Skunkworks finish the game project.
Yeah, there's this story going around that they're trying to reboot it and
really?
Oh yeah.
Wait,
supposedly a major effort inside BioWare to like fully rebuild this game. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's such a crazy,
like conceptually, like imagine the goodwill that they must be happy. They're like, we can't just walk away from this because no one will fall for it a third time. Mass Effect already burned the bridge once, and here we are. Like, we have to make good on this for people, or we might as well just pack up our fucking desks.
We might as well just set fire to these fucking Dragon Quest discs we've been working on because
they should just put Cal Lightsaber in it.
If Cal Lightsaber was in it, that'd probably solve the issue.
Wait, so like just relaunch Anthem?
I mean, it's all rumored at this point, but that's the idea.
Like Anthem Next or Anthem 2.0, or whether it's a remaster of a game that they just made, or
director's
cut.
cut.
It almost feels at this point like games like this get rebuilt more often than not. Like every loot game,
even if it was popular, like it could.
Yeah, totally. Like games absolutely change, but
like I would.
A few of them start out this bad.
Final Fantasy 14 is
said few, not none.
Is maybe the other example that I can think of. But that was a full-on subscription MMO. Yeah. That's like an ongoing revenue stream that like it just seems like a different business case than this. Where
Final Fantasy is a much more valuable IP that you can't.
But also, there's so much other Final Fantasy that people are fans of that it's a lot easier to sweep a bad MMO under the rug. Whereas this is just like, I feel like this is the credibility of a studio going forward. Like, no one's going to buy a Dragon Age unless they make Anthem right. Maybe, but even then, would they?
I wonder in the broader sense how many people even know Anthem and Dragon Age are made by the same studio.
Yeah, I'd buy Dragon Age. I'm excited to do that.
Yeah. I think my general thought was Anthem releases, oh boy, it's real clunker, and then hey, 6 months they put so much into it. 6 months we got a big turn on Anthem, right? They populate it, they figure out the quest stuff. Man, some of that stuff with those doors that were locked.
I will also say, I mean, granted, much different because I do feel like I enjoy Destiny at the start. It just sort of like when I first played Destiny at the very beginning, it kind of like puttered out. And it's like, well, I've kind of done all there is to do. Whereas this is more just like playing. It's not fun. But maybe they're trying to do like a Destiny thing of like, well, they could turn it around. Why not us?
But they've been so radio silent on Anthem, where I feel like Destiny. They felt like they got out there, they messaged, and I feel like with Anthem. Didn't they just scrap their whole plan? Didn't they?
They put out a roadmap ahead of launch that I don't think they've made good on the first chapter of that thing.
My favorite thing about that was like, people were complaining about that on like Reddit or whatever. People are like, hey, when's this update? These updates are supposed to come out. And then some people found an exploit, like a glitch to get better loot way faster than intended. And they immediately patched that out. Yeah. And then people are like,
so someone's listening.
Yeah. Hang on, wait a minute. We're having fun with the game now. What are you doing?
Yeah, it was like the one thing people would get excited about.
That's the thing is like they would have patches that would break things as well as fixing them. There was a situation for a while where like the starter gun was the best gun in the game.
Yeah. Oh right.
Just a lot of weird bad math.
Damage and scale.
Yeah.
That was very brief. That was like a week or something.
Exactly.
But still, but it's like AAA, like huge.
It's been.
Game.
I feel like that's been the case of that game. Is just like here's another update. It doesn't actually fix the thing you perceive needs to be fixed. And introduces more systems that you're just like, what? Who?
They've had profound issues with like loot balance and itemization and all the kind of nuts and bolts of what makes a game like this go. They haven't quite fixed, from my understanding,
or figured out.
Yeah. Like there guns would drop when the game came out with buffs on them that did not pertain to that gun.
Nice.
Like it's just crazy. And I don't want to harp on it forever, but it was the buggiest thing I have played since Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, the network issues, are still persistent. Yeah, I've got a friend who just recently got into Origin and got Anthem up and running, and we're experiencing the same network errors that I was having since day one.
But just all kinds of broken quests and like core functionality. And it shut off my PS4 twice. It had that bug.
It was trying to save you.
It had that bug. It had that bug that literally would just hard power off your PS4 to black screen. Yeah, it happened twice, and then I stopped playing it on PS4 because I was afraid.
I had that bug where you get to those.
They fixed it.
You get to those doors, and they're like, "Go kill 25 of these things, get 14 of these," and then I said, "I can't." I said, "What do you? Why?"
Yeah.
That was a crazy situation where like people were playing the game in like whatever high tier Origin access, like you pay them the $15 a month or whatever, and you get to play Anthem a week early. And those players, like they reduced the requirements on those doors.
They did,
like pretty early on, but like
I forgot about that whole thing.
And they had stuff where they were like, well, it's going to be fixed in our day one patch, and it's like, guys. Motherfucker, this game has been playable for near a week for the people who paid the most money for it.
Right. You're evangelist.
And your excuse is it's not day one yet.
Yeah.
Like, give me a fucking break.
I just thought that was like such a bummer to hit those roadblocks. And you know, some games do it well, but like for me, I think it was extra bad because it was the most game thing in this BioWare. What I'm looking for is a lore-heavy game, and you just hit a door that's like, you need to get 25 kills on this.
You hit a door that says like, you need to grind more because this game is not long enough.
Right, exactly.
Also, once you complete the grind, you walk through a door and hit use on a like a coffin, and get a paragraph of text and walk back out. Like, that's the payoff for all that grind.
What a thing, man.
Let's stop grinding on this one.
Yeah, I mean. I would love nothing more than to see Anthem like this great underdog's like redemption story where it comes back and is huge and amazing. But
we're not going to see that in calendar 2019.
They have a lot to prove if they're going to keep going with this.
Yeah, if that's truly the path that they're on to actually fix this thing, like,
what is the make good though? Do you give it out free?
Like part of that story was they're trying to decide like, is it a bunch of updates? Is it one big relaunch? Like, how do we charge people for it or not?
You
stuff
don't
like that.
that I feel like that's like a telling, like if there's a conversation happening internally with someone saying like, what do we charge people for this, and the answer isn't people going, "0, you asshole."
Yeah, I mean that's the right call.
Like, what the fuck is wrong? How could you what?
I mean, wasn't that the like Battlefront 2 thing that they like had to change major parts of that and they didn't charge anything? Obviously it would require way bigger things here than like loot box fixing.
I mean the Battlefront 2 stuff was like, it was a very hasty fix hours before the game went on sale. That like reviews were getting ready to run and all this, and they had already started to hear the blowback, and they were like, turn it off. Hey, we've issued a statement on this, we've fixed it. And they didn't fix it, but B, like their fix was to like just shut off microtransactions like 3 hours before the game came out. Like just the most like,
God, that was a crazy evening.
That's what games are, right? Games are wild right now.
EA is in a very strange place.
They've had a run.
Live games are amazing. The part where you can turn parts off, maybe just reboot a thing that's already out, and just say, "This is it." We've always been at war with Anthem,
right?
You know, that it's so bizarre.
Oh man!
All right.
On that note,
what do we got?
Godspeed to the Anthem team.
Yeah, really.
They've got their work cut out for them, but I hope they get there.
And Casey Hudson came back for this, right?
What's that?
Didn't Casey Hudson come back for it?
Well,
left
I mean,
again,
not
right?
necessarily just for this, but yeah, he did. He came back to run the studio.
Did he leave again?
No, he's still.
Oh, he's still there. Okay.
He showed up and announced Dragon Age at the Game Awards and was just like,
So yeah,
I want to say
I'll be back later.
Came back less than a year before this came out. I want to say
Something like that.
I imagine like you walk into this and you did what? While I was gone?
God bless him. I feel so bad for him, but they're like trying their best to do like seasonal events and stuff like that. The thing that every other live game does,
right?
Like they had a winter event.
Yeah,
may still be going.
Anthem did.
Like it's got a name. I think it's like Ice Tide or something like that. And it's like there's unique stuff to get, but like there's just nothing there underpinning like this fluff on top.
Just like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree
like,
somewhere in there.
Now is the winter of our discontent.
Like it literally took Destiny 5 fucking years and 2.5 games to get to a point where the player base is happy with it.
Yeah.
And now they can do all these seasonal events on that. Like you've got to have your framework there before you can, I hope they get there.
It'd be interesting to see what that game looks like if it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Flying is fun in a video game, it turns out.
What else is fun in video
They
games?
put out a new Trials game.
They
this
did?
year.
Yeah.
Trials Rising.
It's a good
came
series.
Came out in February.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it more than Fusion.
Yes.
Really?
Certainly, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like the future stuff in Fusion. I like it
Really?
being
Well,
more
the
kind
trick
of like
stuff didn't.
Yeah, the trick stuff was kind of.
that's-
read the
what I found
ATV
stuff.
stuff with the I
Yeah,
didn't
you
like
just
that
didn't
stuff.
need it.
Just felt like
This
a return
went back
form.
to its roots, yeah.
Exactly. And like Evolution's my favorite one, and this seems like it was kind of harking back to that kind of formula and feel. It was just something about it. The tracks were pretty good. I didn't necessarily like the map system, and I thought it was weirdly confusing.
all the
UI.
menus, like there's too much downtime between levels.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
okay, go back to this map and then do this, and,
And then,
we're
after
showing
you
one
beat
over
a level,
here. and
watch these meters fill so you can
Yeah.
unlock the dab.
yeah,
mode,
and like
it's
all the
like,
all the loot box stuff in this
Yes.
game, like all the XP meters filling up and you unlocking a fucking new bike
didn't
chain.
add
or
anything.
Like a
whatever.
tire
Like, it
tread
just
sticker
didn't-
that you can put on your helmet
Yeah.
or something.
This is what I think it comes down to with me is that I understand why any developer will feel the need to build upon their core concepts, to develop them, to add new things, to try new things. The problem is with Trials, and this is true, I think, of just about every fucking Trials game. Anything in Trials that is not you literally just driving a motorcycle over dumbass ramps is never interesting or good.
The tandem bike stuff was kind of funny. I had some fun
But
with
that's
that.
you
very
doing
silly.
that. That's
That
the
is
thing. You're still
bikes and
doing the
stuff.
core thing.
Yeah, it's true.
And like they tried to do like some better training stuff here,
Yeah,
like
the
better
Trials
tutorial stuff.
University,
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was.
But like the way that gets presented, so as someone who has been worming his way through a bunch of different Stadia games, I just played the first hour of Trials Rising again last week, and the onboard, just the process of getting up and running in that game, and here we're going to show you this university stuff. We're going to do this. Like it sucks.
It's pretty
Like
slow.
this map stuff,
Yeah.
I
all the
didn't
menu
love-
stuff is terrible.
I really
Yeah.
didn't love the Coliseums, the like trials
Yeah.
where you start with 8 people, then you go down to 4 people.
It's like
then
here's this
down to
fake
2
multiplayer
people.
thing.
Yeah.
That didn't seem.
I did like that they were
necessary.
pulling real ghost data from your
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea, but
I mean, that's the thing, and I think here, when you are just doing the trials thing, when you are allowed to just get past all the UI bullshit and are just doing the stuff, you're
Yeah.
just it's good tracks. Like there's a lot of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
quality stuff in there.
And fun humor stuff like the piano falls on your head bullshit that
Yeah.
happens at the end of every.
yeah, their
the
Warner
same
Brothers cartoon
time-
shit is still funny.
At the
Yeah.
same time, they've made a lot of Trials games now.
They have.
Yes.
That
Yes.
the novelty of the core
Yeah.
stuff is just not there as much as it was.
I
for
probably
me.
spent more time playing the mobile Trials game than this, just because like it's situational. You're like, oh, I'm somewhere where I have a phone and nothing else. And-
Right.
I played
Whereas-
the Flash game this year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that Trials HD, like the golden era of Trials was great, and I thought Fusion was still good, even if
Yeah.
the trick stuff didn't need to be in it. But I think this was the point where it's like, okay, this formula is this formula, and as much as I love Trials, it does need to be something slightly more.
Yeah,
the trick
I liked-
thing wasn't it.
I liked playing it, but it needed something to like get you to play it, right? It needed some reason, because at this point it's like more trials is more trials. It's fine when I'm doing it, but there's no like one extra thing that could.
There are a
hook
lot of
you
other
in.
exciting games out there to
Yeah.
play that have like leaderboard stuff or competitive things in them that they aren't trials per se, but I could get a lot of exciting video game action elsewhere, and having played the shit out of a lot of Trials games, like I kind of didn't find myself coming back to this.
It's less that there is still diminishing returns with each of these games. It's that the returns have officially diminished. Like there just isn't much else.
It's like it's cool, and I'm sure like people that are big Trials fans are into it. Like the level creation stuff has always been cool.
Yeah.
I think
man.
I think for me personally, this came out and it didn't seem like it was doing anything new for Trials. But if you took a break from Trials,
A long break,
and we came back on the next gen stuff, and they said, "Look at this Trials on here," I think I'd be ready,
give me a couple of years. Give me some. Come up with some new ideas. Spitball some stuff.
Even if that new idea is like we've got hot new tech that makes the Trials games look different, or whatever it is, right? And it's the same old Trials formula, but on this new thing. But this one kind of just seemed.
I think for me,
Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it.
Don't
I don't need the futuristic tracks. I don't need the tandem stuff. I don't need
all this progression
all this
stuff
fucking
necessarily.
loot box and the
All
menu
this
system.
gear I could not give less of a shit about.
Weren't there points in this where you kind of like had to go back and earn more stars on old tracks?
I mean,
to
that's
move
the
on?
thing that's happened a lot. Like even like the older ones had that.
I guess so.
but-
Yeah, and it was also a case of with Trials Fusion, they put out a lot of DLC for that game.
Yes.
That was all
lot.
themed and
Oh,
like
man, yeah.
like not themed in way. Like I thought the DLC was worse than the base game in some of its like if you didn't like the future stuff in Base Fusion, man,
I liked that stuff, but
by the time they got there, I was like, come on.
Yeah. The spirit of Trials, I just don't think this did it that much for me.
Yeah, I just it makes me think that it's about time
Yes,
for
I
a new Trackmania.
I had a solid
go.
week and a half with this game that I was fine with, but like I have not thought about it since.
It made me laugh several times.
Yeah.
for me, Trials just needs something new, and I'm not sure what that is, but
I'm not sure they know what it is.
Yeah.
Or some like I could use a little time away to make
Yeah.
the heart grow
well, I mean,
fonder.
it's been a while since
Yeah,
Fusion.
It's true. Yeah.
Like unless you played all that DLC, then it was a
Was it
lot
like
more
4
recent.
or 5 years?
3-4 years or something.
It's not that long.
In a world where games come out every 11 months.
That's true, but it was still same console generation. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair. All right. How about we talk about Ape Out?
Let's talk about Ape Out.
sure.
Now that's a game that's cool.
Ape Out is cool.
Ape Out
It's
is
the coolest
cool.
game.
It's got style.
So it is a top-down action game in the vein of, let's say, like something like a Hotline Miami, and that it is a game full of murder puzzles. You are an ape, and you want out. And that is, there are a bunch of guys with guns that would like to prevent you from getting out. So what you do is you grab them, and you either make them shoot their guns at other guys with guns, or you throw them at the guys and pick up their decapitated limbs and hit them with them. Ultimately, you are leaving blood splatters
Yeah, you
everywhere.
break a lot of cool glass.
I have a
There's a lot of great
question.
percussion.
I have a question. Why are the guys so afraid to shoot you?
It's
You're
not,
a giant
if a gigantic
Okay.
gorilla started running at you,
Yeah.
and you had a gun, would you immediately be like, "Oh, I got this," or would you be like, "Oh, fuck"?
You shit your pants first.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there
that's
has to
fair.
be at least a few seconds of pants shitting before you get the gun
Yes.
ready. This is a really tight game. I really like the way it feels. Like the action has a really nice flow to it. It's just tight enough to where like you can move through it in a way that where it's like it feels very like there's a great flow to it, but also you can't just run and kill everyone all the time, because if you do that, you're likely to get trapped somewhere and get killed.
And the whole thing is against this kind of Saul Bass style, like,
Yeah,
that's cool.
title sequence and like 60s bebop jazz, like
Yeah.
just the percussions are happening, the music is happening as you're.
It's
as-
dynamic.
Like,
They present it like an album.
Yeah.
Yes, each
Like
of the 4 worlds is an album unto itself.
I feel like I can like imagine the drums that are in this without even having heard it.
Well, so the cool thing about the soundtrack, and this is actually one of the neatest things about it, is that it's not just hitting random notes when you are playing. There is an AI system underneath that has like a huge library of jazz drums and different like drum styles and rhythms that is building it is in real time building a song out of the way you are playing.
Right.
So it is matching music and composing something in real time as you are playing, as opposed to just hitting a library of sound effects. And it works super well.
It works really well.
Yeah.
Like as you're throwing guys into walls and the cymbals are crashing.
Yeah.
And it's all time. It makes the impact so much more.
And it just suits the aesthetic so well too.
Yeah, it's a really like it gets real hard. Like the last 2 worlds are very challenging. Sometimes not as much in a fun way, but it's also not super long. Like that's a game that you could beat in 4 or 5 hours probably, and I think it lasts just as long as it should. And the whole progression of it, I think, is just like really smartly designed.
I found myself wishing that like when you're carrying a large object, you moved less slowly.
Yeah.
Like there's some really sluggish spots in this game when you're like, I need to carry this over here and do a thing.
The nice thing is there isn't a ton of that.
Yeah, there's not a ton of it, but
Yeah.
it was just enough. Like when they first introduced that, it's just like, man, this is kind of breaking up my flow.
Mine was my kind of biggest gripe with it was I think in a session after about 2.5 hours, I felt like I got my ape out.
Yeah.
And then I started getting to the more difficult stuff.
You have to
and
get him out at least a couple more times.
right. And it was like, I think I got it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. But I think I
Did not feel a need to just like
keep
wring
aping
everything out.
But man, it is it's a stylistic and impressive impression of a game.
I think I liked it probably more than anyone else here. Like it was the first game this year that I felt like I really latched onto in a serious way. And I don't know, like I've gone back to it multiple times and just like replayed levels because it is just fun.
I didn't play it because I saw it and I kind of dismissed it as like, hey, I played Hotline Miami already.
Yeah,
but it sounds
totally.
like
And it's another
that was-
Devolver
it
game,
sounds-
so
but
you
it
figure.
sounds like that was not entirely fair.
Yeah.
I think the pace is less puzzling and faster. And I think when you die, it reshuffles the level enough
It
where
does.
you can go through and you're just you have to make very quick choices in it, and I think that's different than Hotline, where I think at least when I played it, I'd plot out my path.
You
a
know
little
where all
more.
the stuff is in those levels.
And I feel like stopping, at least in the early levels of Ape Out, you're running, grabbing a guy, moving, and
If we had a best death screen of the year award, I think this might be it. Where it just says dead and it shows your path through it.
Yes.
I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
yeah, that's neat.
It's a killer game, and it's definitely one of my favorites.
It's a killer ape.
Yep.
Whoa.
Damn. All right. Hey, that takes us through the end of February of 2019. Seems like a good stopping place to take another break. Sure. And then we'll come back and resume with March.
Ooh.
The games of March. That's the
Beware the games of
yeah.
March.
That's the Roman thing, right? Yeah.
I think it's just beware the games now.
Oh.
Or beware March. I can never remember.
Just beware everything.
March
Yeah,
rise
yeah,
up.
okay.
Just cast it.
Yeah.
March Madness.
Cast a wide net. Be extra careful. March is where we're at in the list of 2019's games. On to the 1st of March
My true love gave to me
came Dead or Alive 6.
Oh man. That was this
Bikini
year.
Butt Battle.
Completely forgot that happened.
Yeah, right? That's Dead or Alive 6, I feel like it kind of came and went without too much fanfare. Like the people who like it still like
did.
it.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it kind of released without like online lobbies, and
Right.
there wasn't a
Yeah.
huge scene behind it. But they did add some new tricks. I guess.
Sweat. A lot of sweat.
They had Sweat since 5.
Yeah, Sweat's very
Sweat
last-
made its
last
prominent
generation.
return for sure.
Does the sweat like stain your clothes gradually, or is it just suddenly there's water splashing off?
Probably just water splashing.
Okay,
off, but-
just curious.
But the clothes, there's like battle damage and stuff. They also added
Oh.
like the slow-mo feature that you see in a lot of Tekken matches, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Is it as well implemented?
No.
No,
Okay.
they've got some new, like you kind of mash out a combo that goes into a super move, like
Yeah,
almost like an auto combo type thing.
So that's just like an accessibility thing for the most part. But like it's not the most optimized combo or anything like that. But it's super easy to do.
Yeah.
And super easy to see that cool super move actually hit sometimes. So
I really enjoy low level Dead or Alive play and high level Dead or Alive play. And the things it would take to get there, I'm just never going to be able to invest the time.
Yeah, same.
So I had a really good time with this until I started trying to get online with it because the only people playing this game on the internet are people that are way invested in Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of fell apart for me.
Did this one really pick up much steam at all this year? Because I feel
It's
like
on Steam.
No, okay, well,
Hundreds of dollars of costume DLC.
I feel like
right.
I want to say I saw it the finals for it on the listing for Evo, but I can't remember if that
Not-
actually happened or not.
Not main
No.
stage.
Not main stage.
Okay.
But Dead or Alive is always a pretty particular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these games have been pretty good for a while, and this is kind of another one of those. I would have preferred more Virtua Fighter characters since that was the cool thing about 5.
There's just kind of not much noteworthy in either direction about this game.
Yeah.
It was just very like, yeah, they didn't fuck it up.
I think it's
They
a
made
visual
another one.
improvement. I think it's mechanically and it's an improvement, but it's
Yeah.
still not. It's gonna stand. Out.
And the netcode is garbage, right? I mean, unless they changed it. But I remember
I never even
last time
tried.
I was trying to play it on the internet, it was a bad time.
Yeah.
But this game's all right.
Yep,
It's all right.
It's
All right.
completely all right, but there's some much heavier, hittier.
On some
hitters
level,
in
I'm
there.
amazed that Dead or Alive is still trucking along
Yeah.
and like making games that are tolerable
Well,
or,
because
or
they make,
competent.
these games, like you casually mentioned, will have, thousands of dollars worth of costume DLC, and
Yeah.
some maniacs buy all of it.
Yeah.
We are not those maniacs, though.
No.
When's Extreme Beach Volleyball 4 coming out?
I think 4 technically already happened, but
Wait,
it was
are
for the
you serious?
Vita.
Vita. I was going to say that had to have been a
Yeah.
Vita thing.
Paradise or Dead or Alive Paradise?
or-
Oh, right.
And that didn't come out here or something.
It came out here. I reviewed
They
it. I remember.
censored it.
Okay, then there was one after that, I think,
Okay.
maybe.
Huh.
Because
They
you didn't
censored butt battle.
Don't
Don't take away my
Roses.
butt battle.
They use their hands now.
If I go to Zack Island, I want Zack to get that ass out, and I want him to battle with it.
Exactly. Is that too much to ask?
Let's just go watch the Dead or Alive movie.
No.
No.
Only the Kevin Nash
I'm with
scenes.
you. That movie is okay.
No, it's not, but it's a
Movie is
great
okay.
kind of bad. It is an
He's,
entertaining kind of bad.
That's what I mean.
He's
tolerable.
Bass. Who is
he Bass?
Who is Nash? In
He's the Hulk Hogan surrogate character.
okay,
Yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
He's yeah.
I got one NWO member.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Eric Roberts is in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Great. Well, speaking of great, Somebody put Left Alive on this list.
That wasn't me. And I think I might be the only one that
Too
played
bad.
this.
You have to talk about it.
Oh, geez,
Left
really?
Alive?
Okay, it's got Yoji Shinkawa art.
Yeah.
And that's about the only good thing about this.
I think that this is notable.
Oh, this fucking game!
Yeah, this is notable, I think, for how poor an execution it was.
I mean, this is
Was it?
correct me if I'm wrong, Square Enix or no?
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah,
it was
Square Enix, I think.
It was like terrible, terrible stealth. We've got the quick look up on the screen. I'm trying to think
Is
about.
this the one with the guard who eventually was standing on top of the van?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, God,
Really bad stealth.
I forgot this is technically a front mission game.
It is.
No,
it
is
is.
it?
It's in the universe.
Oh no!
It's wild that this was made this year.
I remember this being exceptionally bad. I remember we couldn't
This
get it
looks like a-
running on most computers.
Okay, I was gonna say this looks like a PS2 game running on a really nice emulator, upscaled to 4K or
This-
something. Like,
Yeah.
This and Quiet Man came out within like 5 months of each other.
They were doing some great work.
Yeah.
All of the menu stuff I've seen is the most Metal Gear Solid ass.
The sound effects
stuff.
and everything, clicking through things. Yeah, it's 100% Metal Gear without all the good stuff.
But yeah, it is a real trash ass game.
Yes.
so like it's like a Metal Gear Solid 3 then.
Jesus
Metal
Christ.
Gear Solid without the good stuff. or
Wow.
just-
You
Jesus,
can't possibly
Jeff.
believe that.
Jesus, Jeff.
3's the best one.
I'm not even a Metal Gear fan, and Jesus, Jeff.
3's the best. 3's the best Metal Gear.
I might rather play Survive.
I'd rather play Survive than other games. Well, I was going to say other games.
Yeah,
Game
well,
but he
yeah,
didn't
sure.
make Survive.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This game did
Left-
not seem
Left
great.
sucks.
Alive.
No.
Let's leave this
Interesting.
one not alive.
Yes.
Wow. Left it dead.
Yeah.
Jeez.
No, Left 4 Dead is something
or
else.
Dead. Now you're on to
Yeah.
something. I
Dead
like
or
this a
Alive?
lot. Dead or okay.
Left or Dead or
Left
Alive.
4 Dead or Alive?
That's the crossover I would like to see.
Left 4 Dead or Alive.
Christy going pills here.
Fame Douglas monopolizes the pills.
That's right.
Moving right along.
Yeah. Next game, The Occupation.
Oh.
Yeah,
one.
this was an interesting. It's not a fantastic overall game, but it's a really interesting set piece game where it's got some stealth. It's a kind of an adventure game, first person, almost point and click style. When I say adventure game, I know that's a very broad term these days, but it is more like adventure game in the style of point and click adventure games.
Finding items.
Finding items in this clockwork world that is kind of going through its motions, and so you have to be in certain places at the right time to execute and find out what is going on in this dystopian future.
Is
You're
this
like
the
on the
Brexit
verge.
game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're like on the verge of like things going real bad. Like what would it look like if things were about to go real bad, and you're kind of on this precipice of it. It's neat. The voice acting is kind of hit or miss.
It's very British.
Very much so, but it's worth taking a look if you're into these types of games. Like it's not maybe going to rise above the din from 2019 in terms of games, but for this particular type of game, I think it does it pretty well.
I will say it was one of my favorite games to watch you play this year.
Yeah, it's
I
got-
enjoyed the moments you got out of it.
You're kind of sneaking around this ministry, and ministry not in the church sense, but
Yeah,
in
but
the
a government agency.
1984 style
Yeah.
ministry of thought kind of thing,
Yeah.
and hacking computers and doing that kind of stuff. You're a journalist trying to put stuff together. It's neat. It's got a cool concept.
I remember being intrigued by it. I think because you played mouse and keyboard, I think I played a bit of it on the PS4, and I think I had a lot of difficulty with the movement and like picking stuff up because it seemed like it's very much designed for mouse and keyboard and didn't necessarily translate.
Oh,
Yeah, I had
a little
better.
too fiddly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
That
a
makes
lot.
sense.
It's a kind of a lot of like swing the mouse this way and turn it
Yeah,
this way.
and it was the thing because I was intrigued by it. I wanted to play more, but I think I just was like fighting against the controls too much and just never finished it.
Cool.
Okay.
That's the occupation.
There you have it. The Occupation has been occupied.
Oh, there you go. We don't have to do it for every game.
No, we do. We're in it now.
We absolutely do.
Devil May Cry 5.
Oh man! Man!
They made
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah.
They made it.
Yeah.
They made it.
And people
back to
liked
form.
it.
It's
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's the third best Devil May Cry?
It's up there. I
It's a
think
3-1-5?
I definitely
Yeah.
had a great time
Yeah.
with it.
I can get down with that ranking. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
what is it?
3-1-5, I'd say.
Why?
Then 4-2.
Three being the best, one and
Yeah.
then 5.
3 is the best one. Yeah.
2 is the worst.
2 is definitely the worst.
Wait, have you played one recently?
Not like in the last year,
Yeah,
Oh, you may want to go
For
back
its time,
and give it
for
a
its
shot.
time.
It's time.
but I'm not saying now in 2019.
I disliked Devil May Cry when it came out.
Oh, it was the
Like,
coolest
it
shit in the
was
world.
just-
Infinite ammo. You can shoot up in the air with a
Where's
shotgun.
Juggle people.
Juggle them.
Yeah,
man.
shotgun.
I loved it.
Jason
I
gets
loved
it.
it when it came out, and I'm not sure that it holds up. Anyway, we're here.
First time.
Either way, this,
We're
this,
talking
is,
about
this is
five.
a return to form after the DMC debacle, as it were.
All those
What?
that game's
No, that
great.
game's Actually, I love that game.
I love
That
that
game's
game
great.
as well. I said as it were.
That game's
a lot
enjoyable.
Of
But
fans
I feel
did
like
not seem to
it's-
enjoy
I love
that
it.
particular. particular iteration of
Yes.
that game. I loved it as well.
But it's almost like a different thing at this point.
an
Yeah,
Various
it
thing,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's retelling, reimagining, whatever. This is
It was like their chance to make Devil May Cry good, and then people were like, "No, we want it to be bad."
They did. They made it good.
Yeah,
People
well,
did.
It's all good.
Anyway,
Too.
So to return to the old characters, so old Dante, old Nero from 4,
Yeah.
and such,
And then one goob.
Yeah,
V.
one new goob named
I like V. I like V.
it's
Where
great.
you have a dedicated button that's just read poetry.
yeah,
it's so stupid.
V
I love
sucks.
it so
He
much.
sucks.
V the hella goth guy.
Yeah,
He's a
Yeah.
hands-off character. He just sits in the background. You can control these familiars, and
I thought they did a really good job.
That was
making
interesting.
him
That was-
interesting.
The idea is really cool, I think.
Yeah.
But for me, Devil May Cry is so much like just getting up in someone's face and having very direct control over every
Sure.
single thing you're doing. And
But
every
do you have
combo.
to? Do you have to play him?
You do. There are chapters
Oh,
where you
that's
have
right.
to.
That's right. They don't let you pick characters, do they?
Right. And I mean, there are
V-
cool things you can do with, like, he's got this,
They
like,
do.
spirit hawk and then this,
Only
like,
certain
panther
situations.
thing.
and when you summon the big golem guy and
Yeah.
hop on its back and start
Yeah.
smashing around on it.
The
it's
problem
pretty good.
is that dude gives off the energy of a direct-to-video Crow sequel protagonist. Like he's like the
Finally.
third or fourth Crow.
I feel like that's,
chilling out with
can rain all the
Dante.
time.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think this is
Zero.
my first step into the Devil May Cry series, and I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed it. I liked how corny it was.
Yeah, it's
like I
very
think
corny,
that if
yes.
this guy wasn't this like mall goth, I wouldn't be as interested. This more
Adam
like pretty
Driver
boy
meets
goth
Jared
is
Leto.
like too much for me.
Goth.
I never super got the hang of like the combo system, but I still found the combat pretty satisfying.
Cool.
I enjoyed it. I didn't love it enough to actually finish it.
I
but
really wish I
was
finished
surprised
it.
how much I enjoyed it.
Also,
I
we
did
got
finish
Considering
it, and
it's-
it does get a bit repetitive towards the end. Especially
some
when you're,
repeated
like,
areas.
Yeah.
The cutscene, the
the-
DLC like storyboard
Oh, it's
cutscene
some of
stuff
the
was
best
incredible.
bonus
It's the most
Stuff.
inspired
Yeah.
bonus in a
Yes.
video game in a very long time.
Yes. Also, Virgil's back. Virgil's great.
That's a huge
Yeah.
spoiler, I guess, but
We said at the top.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's a big deal. And yeah, it turns out to be that's Nero's dad.
Virgil is?
Virgil.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I picked up on that.
Okay.
He has a cool sword.
Sorry,
How did you not pick up on
It's his dad?
it was
Yeah.
Virgil,
He was a
and then it
big
was
tree man.
Vincent, and then after that,
It was Vincent?
it would have been
And then he
Vincent.
became
V was part
yeah,
Virgil.
something
I don't know
Soul
what his
Train
people
or
are.
Soul
yeah,
Train.
Soul Train Jones.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, oh, I
You see what we're doing here.
I see. Okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, especially we're looking at some of the previs, the bonus material stuff that is just ridiculous.
It's really wild
And you
that they
can play
put that
the
stuff
game
in there.
with these cutscenes.
I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's a nice touch.
They seem to know what they were doing with this
Yes.
sequel and had the
Yes.
right attitude toward it.
That's what I appreciate. I think most out of it.
It seems like they wanted to make a fun game and had fun doing it.
Yeah.
Or at least had fun doing this part, I hope.
And that is the most you can ask for from a Devil May Cry game, I think.
Yes.
You think they'll make a 6?
Yes.
I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, I figure this did all right.
I just,
yeah.
as of September, they were saying 2.7 million. So
That sounds like
That's
they
gotta
would
be pretty
Keep
good.
going.
okay.
yeah. So
Inspired. God, so silly.
could just
Something
sit here and
else.
chuckle all day over this. But
Yeah, stylish hard action.
seems like they just kind of delivered what people wanted,
Yeah.
Totally.
which is cool. And I just accidentally closed the tab for this list.
No!
Good work, Brad.
So keep talking. No, I'm sorry. Never mind. Here it is. Hypnospace Outlaw is the next game on the list.
It's just this is one of those
Those
games
GeoCities, the games.
that I would have never known I wanted. It's a game where
Yeah.
you play a internet cop issuing referrals against
Like
people's
citations.
You're writing
issuing-
tickets to the internet.
Yeah,
GeoCities.
You play as an AOL mod.
Yeah. And it's like, the basic structure is you get a mission like, hey, we heard there's people selling illegal stuff not using HypnoCoin, the official currency of the hypno space.
Yeah.
And so you have to like go through and basically use keyword
That's because
searches.
HypnoCoin's corrupt.
Yeah,
okay? And they won't let
obviously.
me sell my
Well,
stuff.
I mean, I don't know. Has anyone else beaten this game?
No.
I'm pretty close.
it got hard.
Shit,
I played
Yeah.
a fair amount
shit
of it.
pops off in this
I had to
game.
stop and start over because I took up too much of a break from it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit,
What am I
don't
looking
even
for?
know how to find.
It gets really real.
I think that's where I loved everything up until there were portions where they're like, just go out there and find infractions. And I was like, oh, these are too many pages to look for.
But like I feel like so many of the pages were worth reading on their own.
Yes.
Yes.
And I feel like so much of their material lands, like so many of the jokes of like, and they've created this bad alternate pre-internet or early internet. It's not just, hey, here's a bunch of web pages, here's a bunch of GeoCities stuff. It's like it's got technology that didn't exist back then, but like
Right.
you could see a world where like this happened instead of HTML or AOL took off in a way that made this a reality, and it's just so fucked. And
I would suggest playing through this game with a guide open. Like totally, you don't need to like this isn't like Outer Wilds where half the fun is like wandering around
No.
and then stumbling into
Discovering
something.
stuff.
I
It's
think
like-
that's my only real criticism of it is that the gameplay part of it feels much more just like the thing they put in there so that you can look at all the goofy ass web pages.
Sure.
Like it's there
Yeah.
specifically just to propel you forward.
I do wish it moved. Like that was my biggest complaint is like it moves so slowly in a thing of like you'll be on a web page and there are 5 infractions and you have to click one individually and then like be like this one and then this
Yeah.
one and then this one and it's like a slow loading screen and it's like all in nostalgia, but it's like at least let me select it all and then
Do
do
you know
the
if you
slow
wiggle
loading
the mouse,
screen.
it goes faster?
No, but I don't care.
That's a good
Like
touch.
my thing, I think I don't have the nostalgia for this time. Maybe I'm too young for it. I did enjoy finding these websites. I enjoyed the influence of like, oh, I took down your, fish creature, and now
Duper.
this person is mad at me. I think that stuff is neat. I think I got a little bogged down in like just the tedium of it.
I think
But
the
I
thing-
also enjoyed like actually spending my money and being like, yeah, I'll buy this hamster and like have a hamster on my dash.
Download custom songs and shit.
Yeah.
like all the virus stuff
the
I thought was
music,
really
yeah.
fun. And there's
songs
really
in
some
this
great
game,
music.
The Chowder Man
yeah.
concept album is great. Granny Cream's Hot Butter Ice Cream.
Yep.
I do
yeah,
wish-
it's terrific.
I feel like there were times though when I didn't get super far into it. I'd like to play a little bit more of it, but there were times when I just wanted to be able to search like, oh yeah, I'm looking stuff up, but like let me just search like music download and see what. And there was no way to really do that. It felt a little on the rails in that sense of like you got to sort of wait till they open those pathways to you.
It opens that stuff pretty early on. Like you can just type things into the search bar and turn
Yeah,
up.
but I
Like there's a
feel
way
like
you
I
can
was
find a
doing,
hint
like-
page that tells you how to play and finish the
Oh,
game
makes
that
sense.
way too. So
But I feel like I was doing some sort of basic stuff and it still wasn't coming up. Maybe I just wasn't putting in the right.
Well, it's
keywords.
I mean, the
mostly-
main thing is that like the world they have built,
Yeah.
the fake
Yeah.
ass internet
Right.
they have built is incredible.
That's what I
And-
wanted to speak to is like the thing that this game does the best is so you're basically finding all these people's GeoCities pages or MySpace pages or whatever. It's like where they're posting about their world and what's important to them. And as you play and as you find more of these and as you dig deeper into them, you start to like learn about these people more than what's on their page. Like they start to become
Yeah.
real characters.
the
in some
relationships
respects.
between them and stuff. About
Yeah.
like I want this person to be the lead cop or whatever.
And they actually come through on making it matter. Like,
Oh, that's
I mean, we can talk about story stuff at another time specifically, but like, there's moments in this game that I was just like really sad about like what happens to some of these people.
The
and
thing-
characters.
There's some stuff early on where I was like, man, what am I doing? I'm really fucking this person over.
Literally,
give
one of the
you-
first thing you do is file a copyright complaint against a first grade teacher for having her
Yeah.
kids draw like basically Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I have a question. Does the story do sort of like a Papers, Please thing where it's like, yes, I'm a cop, but like I am going to choose or I'm going to be lenient or not? Or is it just sort of like, you got to do it and see the consequences?
The story changes based on how harsh you are, but not by a ton.
Okay.
It's more about finding out about this world, what's going on, and like what's up with the tech behind it.
What's up with Zane?
Zane's a cool dude.
He's a piece of
No,
shit.
Zane's a piece of shit.
no, have you heard his band?
He's
It's
like a
fucking
did.
rips.
twerpy sweet.
I'll say it again.
Zane
Like
sucks.
the thing they do, which is really effective, is that it's like yeah, it's full of like weird ass jokes and tons of references and whatnot. But like I know these idiots. I've encountered these idiots on the old internet. I know exactly what kind of idiots they are. I have interacted with them. I have joined their web rings. I have signed their guest books. It feels human in a very absurd way.
Yeah.
and I like that.
And also the parts where other people start interacting with individuals, like when they do make a web ring. Like I got to the part where the Gooper, don't ban the Gooper, and everybody has the fish on their page. Part was very cool of like help Cindy, fight against the censorship.
Yeah.
And you read their status thing up at the top every time you kind of hit a milestone and it changes, and they're just getting pissed off about being on. Is it HypnoNet? Is that what's the actual internet?
OS.
Hypnos.
Yeah.
Hypnos.
And that, I was really engaged with it. It just when it got to the part of go through the page, like there is a point in the game where they're just like, hey, the mods were away for a while, we're backed up, go through the thing for a while and just look for infractions, is where I was like, oh, I don't know if I have time right now to do, to just surf the fake internet looking for infractions. And I did open a guide at some point. It was just like, let's just move forward.
Yes. It was also a thing. The first thing you play is Abby's World. And I was like, what? Did they do this on purpose?
Yes. Yes, they did.
Wow, amazing. 5 stars. Game of the year.
It's a cool ass thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's neat. I
I love the
wanna
idea.
know, is this what the internet looked like then? Because I feel like this is not my
it's a
image
very,
of old
it's a very
exaggeration.
exaggerated
Okay.
version of it.
But it's
But
like
kind
it's
of.
rooted in a reality.
There are elements that definitely
Yeah.
harken back to like, oh, these rotating GIFs and everything.
Yeah, and the web ring stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like
And
having
the
a
counters.
browser, like a pet, live on your desktop.
Yeah, yeah.
And just the way people communicate through those pages, like the things they post about themselves and the way they talk about
Yeah.
themselves felt true.
Yeah, and also like the lore of like what you are doing is like putting a headset on and going to sleep to access the internet
Yes.
is
Yeah.
like
That's exactly
Yeah.
how I remember it.
yeah.
But I think the web pages were close. A lot of people had autoplay MIDI stuff on
yeah.
their
Yeah.
pages
Oh,
back
yeah.
then.
A lot of animated GIFs.
A lot of
Yeah.
Comic Sans, yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the animations were not there. Though.
Okay.
Like the,
No, not quite to that level.
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
It is a cool weird
A delight.
thing.
Yeah.
I like the idea that you can make your own pages for it and Steam
Yeah.
Workshop. Like that stuff's kind of
Oh,
They
that's
just added
neat.
that
out in
mod
some
support,
form.
right? Yeah.
Like that's a cool idea that I will probably never make time to do, but
But I want to
They
see
did-
what people
yeah.
make.
Yeah.
They made some pretty good ones up there to just like populate the store.
cool.
All right, next up, Baba Is You.
Another weird little game.
And you,
Me?
and
You.
you.
We didn't have like a sign off for
And you.
Hypnospace.
Oh, more like Hypnospace.
Outlove.
Let's get out of that game.
Okay, never
law.
mind. We did it.
Yeah, we ruined it. All right.
Hypnospace more law.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, no more.
Got him.
I feel like a lot of us seem to have the same experience with Baba Is You, where we're all like, this is genius. And then we played it for a while and got to a level where it's like, my head hurts. And then we didn't play it again.
Yeah,
But I think it's great.
I think this game is phenomenal in so many ways. Like, it really, really wowed me in a lot of ways. I think it's so incredible that they can take a level that looks exactly the same and have it be a completely different solution. You have to figure out a completely different way. And I think that every time I got into a level, I was like, this is impossible. I don't know how to do this. And sometimes that would be like, oh, very satisfying. I figured it out. But I feel like a lot of times it would be like, this feels like work. Like, this is a game I loved looking up solutions to and just being like, how'd you do it? Wow, that's really cool and clever. And not actually having to do the work to figure it out. Because sometimes I just feel like this work is not always, the payoff isn't always as satisfying as sort of how clever this game is.
For Baba Is You was like normally a puzzle game will either make you feel like really smart or really dumb. This was like level to level, one or the other.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like one level you like knock it out of the park and you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm the best. And the next level, like, I'm the biggest idiot that's ever been an idiot.
Which is wild because it's not changing that much.
Yeah.
I would get stubborn and not look stuff up because I'd be like, okay, it's all on one screen here.
Right.
There's only
There's
eight
only so many
words here, there's
permutations.
different ways you
Yeah.
can do this. Like, I have to be able to figure this out. And you just bang your head against it and be like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in this game, a lot of puzzles that really blew my mind of like, wow, I really had to truly think outside the box here
Yeah.
in a way that like I just couldn't always wrap my head around at first. So like once I did, it was like, wow, very interesting. But I wish that I felt like I took those things I learned and like really felt like I had like a breadth of like, look at what I was able to accomplish with all the stuff I learned. Instead, it was like, well, let's relearn a thing. And like, I don't know, I got to open my brain up in a different way now. And it was just a little bit exhausting. I do think this game is still so cool.
It's incredibly clever. Yes.
It's one of those games that you come across every once in a while that's like, I didn't know you could do this in programming. Like I didn't know
Right.
I didn't know this was when people first started putting like maybe it was a Prey, you put like portals where you could see into a level or something like that, and you're like, wow, I didn't know you could do that.
I shouldn't be able to do that.
And this is one of those games where you play and be like, well, I didn't know you could do that in a game, and somebody figured it out and made an awesome, figured out a concept and made a very good game to exploit that concept.
I bet it's really complicated on the back end to account for all the different, or maybe it's really easy because it's all systems based. But I just look at it and go like, man, I bet this was hard to test.
Yeah.
I've put this game on my Switch when it came out, and every month I go through and play like 3-4 levels from it before I get frustrated again and have to stop. And the thing I really appreciate about it is it's so simple to jump back into because the rules are literally on the screen.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to remember like, oh God, there's some stuff later on when you start incorporating some of the more advanced stuff where you get like there's some geeky stuff in the late game that's really messed up and you start to like question, is this even possible? But I'm looking forward to beating it in 2028.
Just as a predictive thing here, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this will be on a lot of developers' top 10 lists this year.
I bet.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be one of those games where just like anyone who makes games is going to look at this and be like, yes, this fucking blew my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're excused.
No. all that kiki stuff.
Coughing is you.
making me sick.
Game is good. Am I right?
Yes.
Oh, there
Yes.
we go.
Nailed it.
You're right.
Got it.
Great.
Game is good.
Tom Clancy's The Division 2.
Yeah, I played a lot of that.
Yeah.
Did you?
I
Vinny
did,
played a
yes,
lot
you
of
did.
that.
I played a
I wanted
many
to play way more of it than I did.
Yeah.
What world
Yeah,
tour?
You,
kind
you
of-
should
kind of the
make a
same.
weekly thing where you have to play a game, and then just everybody has this. Do you want to play this or Siege? I'll play some Division. Not to say that Siege isn't bad. Division 2 does a lot of what Division 1 does, kind of to a fault. I think in a lot of cases, I think the initial parts of the Division that I didn't like, I came around on, which is it's not in New York, and maybe playing in the DC area is not as interesting. You know, like, but it's solid. The loot grind is okay, and in terms of Ubisoft doing their games as service, I think they are continuing to do a very good job.
I think, we talked about what we were talking about earlier, Anthem being kind of complicated getting in co-op stuff. This is the opposite, where I felt like every time I wanted to do some co-op thing, it was extremely easy. Like, this person's online. Let's hop in, let's run to their place, we'll help, and then we'll back out and do our own thing. And it seems super well done and matching to the world of the player. And
that part is, I think, very well done. The playing, and then somebody's like, I can use some help here, and just jump into their game.
Set up a flare or something.
And then they jump back out. I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of trouble with that, and also the reason I stopped playing it was because I would go do matchmaking for story missions and never find another player.
Oh,
Really?
Were you playing super early or just in the?
It was like
launch?
it was around launch.
Okay.
There were definitely people past me,
Should've been
and you know,
people
like
there.
you'd think that there'd be people there. And just it would never fill up, and sometimes I would find one other person. Like it wasn't like the networking was broken per se. It was just like,
Where's
it's just
everybody?
not. Yeah, where are the people? And that was really frustrating. And that's I ended up not playing any more of the game at that point because I was like, okay, I can't, because this game actually I think is actually a little more difficult than the first one is. Like the enemy AI is a lot
it's
smarter.
weirdly
It'll
hard.
flank the shit out of you, and
They know
and
what they're
it'll
doing.
get you.
Yeah, they will.
And
get
if you're
you.
playing alone, that's a problem.
Yes.
So I didn't want to play the story missions alone, and as a result, like I felt like I couldn't really advance.
Might I
and
suggest
that was
what-
frustrating.
What I did, which was get 3 friends who were already World Tier 3 by that time to just run you through the base game as fast as possible.
Yeah. No, see, that's already broke. Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
I really like some of the set pieces though. Before we get off of that, like you mentioned DC being kind of boring, which for the most part, but like the museums and
Yeah.
stuff.
The
that
museums
you-
are very
inside,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
outside running around, I thought was not as interesting, but that's where I said once you get over it and you're actually in like the Air and Space Museum or
Yeah.
you're in the set piece parts, that's when you realize like, oh, okay, there's a lot to do here.
Also, let's be real. There's a little bit of a New York bias there because that first game, it's just like, oh yeah, no, I've walked down the street. I've been around all these places. I haven't spent a lot of time in DC, so I don't have that same sort of like
I have a
intimate
bit of it.
familiarity.
I lived in DC for a little bit. And I mean, I think it's neat it's in DC, but
Yeah.
it's like,
But it's also
here's another
overgrown
fucking
DC.
gray tan building, you know what I mean?
I had similar problems too with that Jeff did in terms of playing it by myself because the missions are so goddamn long.
Yeah.
And I would hit a point like
That's what made me
two-thirds-
stop playing.
2/3 or 3/4 of the way through a story mission, I would be like, I'm kind of done. I don't want to do another 20 minutes of this, but I have to get credit for it.
I
sorry.
enjoyed my time with this game, but I can't imagine playing it alone. This
Yeah.
is a game that I played, a few hours in with friends, and I could not tell you a single thing that really happened, especially story-wise. Like it's all just like, this is a game I turned on, and it was basically like a medium for me to talk on the phone with my friends and do something with my hands while I did it.
And I don't necessarily have like a criticism about that because I think
No,
it
I
was
mean-
obviously designed to be a co-op game, but I will say that I could play the first division pretty easily on my own and did not feel like I was having like a negative experience with that. Whereas with this, I was immediately like, oh, this just doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, I just had no draw to play it on my own when I wasn't just like hanging out with a friend.
Yeah.
Like it was a game for me that was like cool, similar to maybe like Far Cry New Dawn. It's like I play it, it's a video game, I play it for a bit, my brain turns off, and that's enjoyable in a lot of ways, but it wasn't a game that I was like, man, I gotta see what happens next.
No.
Gotta do the next thing.
I couldn't tell you a single thing about the story in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so
I remember
bad.
aspects of the first game and the dollar
Yes.
flu and all that shit, but like where it
Do you remember
There's a
saving the
president,
president?
there's a
And then he comes out of the airplane with the AK-47,
Right.
like shooting terrorists.
Yeah,
That was pretty.
okay.
That was literally the only story beat that I
Is he-
remember.
That was
Is he
that was
shouting
right
about
around the time.
nanomachines?
That would be the one to remember.
So I played some of this alone, and the thing I didn't do a lot of the big missions alone because I always had that play group to go into.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of these side missions alone, and that stuff is pretty manageable alone. And it's an interesting thing because it scales. I thought it scales pretty well actually with groups. And when you're alone, you're like, oh man, they are so less bullet spongy, and that's enjoyable in its own right. But when you have more people, you compound the firepower,
Right,
and you can
yeah.
get people who are flanking around.
The thing
you.
I ended up with, like, it was the one side mission where it was like they have a location and you need to take it, and then your guys run in and then you fend off a wave
Yep.
of resistance.
Yeah.
Like that one, for whatever reason, was always a nightmare playing alone.
Oh, really? Okay. Like the stronghold
like
ones.
yeah,
where
regardless of which one it was, those were always like weirdly difficult. Just because I think because it's not a scripted mission where it's like you're always gonna be facing this way and going in this direction.
Yeah.
So the enemies are built that way. It's more like here's an open area
And they can
the enemies
come
will
get
be
you.
all
Yes.
around you. And it just ended up being fucked in a way that was like, okay, well, I need to play this with players, but I would join random people co-op games when they would be like asking for help.
Yeah.
And you would finish the one thing they do, and then they would just take off running, and you'd be like, what the fuck? And they would never want to do anything else with you. And
They did seem to add in at some point the ability for the AI to revive you. So if you if you got downed, the AI would come over and bring you back up, and I think
Yeah.
that really helped
Yeah,
out because
that-
you'd see
that
the rest
seems
of
like that would matter.
because they do have a lot of people fighting alongside
they
you.
do.
The people with the like green over their heads.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
The other thing that is odd about this, but also only reveals itself if you play a decent amount, after you get through that first narrative push, the entire game changes because a new faction comes in.
Right.
And that new faction is completely different than anything else. And you are now just fighting against robots and drones and like militarized factions, which aren't in the entire first narrative push of the game.
Yeah.
And that part is more interesting and harder, but a lot of people won't see that if you bounce off of it.
Yeah.
You'll just never, ever unlock it. You have to make it through all the initial.
I got, through probably over 2/3 of that game, I'd say that I got to before it was just like, I can't find players.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it was frustrating. It was like, I want to play more of this game, but I
Yes.
feel like I can't.
Right. You should
so
be
it's
able
like,
to.
all right, I guess
That
I'll just
is
move
this
on.
game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat though. Neat sequel. I think just a good place to mention that I think Ubisoft has been doing, out of the big companies, a pretty good job with their
pretty
games
good
as
job.
service. Yeah.
I mean,
it's not perfect.
I've been reading a little bit about where the community is at with this thing.
Just for Division?
The 2
Yeah.
specifically. I don't think it's always enjoyed favored status with all of its players.
No, they had to
the
take
whole
some
time.
stuff down
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
redo it. I forget what it's called. Like you go off site to these exploration zones,
Right.
or whatever. They had
Dark
to,
zones.
no.
Well, this is different.
You got going a helicopter to these zones. They had to
It was
kind
one
of
of
take
the-
it down.
It was one of the expansions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like to put that out and then take it back down because it
I feel like
wasn't-
Division 1 had some rough edges
Oh, yeah,
around
for
their
sure.
update plans and stuff where
Their
they had
late
to
game stuff
Yeah,
especially.
they had to push some stuff back and be like, hey, like it was similar to the Anthem story, but they made good on it. Was like, hey, there's some aspects of this game that we promised at this date. We're not going to hit this date because we have to fix this other stuff. And then they did it. Right. Whereas like Anthem was like, oh, we're wiping this roadmap off the map and stay tuned.
Yeah.
They also had some odd stuff with their yearly pass, which the value there was
because all the content was
questionable.
free, right?
Was all free.
It's like you were getting it 7 days early. I think if you bought the thing.
They over the course of the season unlocked new end game classes. I don't know if you guys remember that there were 3 end game classes or near end game classes, and they would roll out. They rolled out like 3 more, I think, at least, and you got instant access to those. But then normally you had to unlock them through a tree, and each level of the tree would get you other perks. So I wound up just working through the tree anyway to get close to unlocking the class. It was a weird value proposition for some of that stuff. It was basically you get early or instant access to some stuff.
Division 2.
Division 2.
Still there.
Division as well?
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Look who's divisioning too.
Okay.
Sure. Next game. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice
Hell yeah.
from Software.
It's a lot of dying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I died more than twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out.
Uh,
I Well, whatever. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think this is maybe the From game that has grabbed me the least somehow.
Least.
Which is not to say that I dislike it.
I've been kind of trying to get a sense of like where this game rates amongst people who are really into these games, and it's all over the place. Like, a comment I saw that kind of on the topic is like, I feel like everyone's favorite From game is their first, which seems to track a little bit, but like this one for me is probably my favorite.
It's an aggressive one. It is. It takes Bloodborne and pushes it up.
Yes, I was just about to say. I bet that split breaks along the lines of people who thought the changes in Bloodborne were amazing, and people who thought they were getting away from what they liked.
That's me, where I turtle up and want to use a shield and heavy armor in the Dark Souls games, and then Bloodborne, where it's like, no, you have to be aggressive. You want that health back. You
have to parry.
You have to parry, and you have to get in there and get a hit in very quickly. And I think this, with the guard break stuff, is break that. You got to break that guard. You got to get in there. If you wait too long, and it's an interesting, challenging thing for me because I'm not that kind of player.
Yeah, so Bloodborne is the only one of those games that I like kept coming back to.
Same
you know,
here,
like Dark Souls, I just don't care. I couldn't get into them. And this, early on, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I like Bloodborne and I like this. But it was like the more I chipped away at this, the less I found myself wanting to play it.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was.
I felt exactly the same. Where it's like I like it, and like I'm intrigued by it. I like the world. I like the aesthetic a lot. I like the characters in it. I think with me, there's something about Bloodborne where I really truly felt like I was getting better at the game, and I could feel myself making progress in like a very literal way, and also just in like how well I was playing it. And I don't think I ever felt that with this. Like I did feel like I was moving through the world and like I was figuring out the systems, but I feel like there were times when it was just like, I don't know. There were like these long stealth sequences sometimes where it's like, I know exactly what I have to do with the stealth sequence. It's not necessarily that difficult. I figure out the pattern of it, but then there's like a mini boss at the end of it I have to keep fighting. And then it's just like, let's do the same stealth sequence again. That's not fun necessarily.
Having to clear all those ads
having to do it again
5 times in a row was not great.
It's like not my favorite thing. I don't know. It's like,
I wouldn't say it's not great. Like I understand not enjoying that sort of stuff, but like to me, that's where the game is most fun. And that's where I can see the most literal I am becoming better because I get more and more efficient at clearing this path, and it starts teaching me other things about the game, teaching me to use all my prosthetic tools right, teaching me, when to be aggressive, when to back off. Turns out it's always be aggressive, as we demonstrated in that one fight. Never stop.
I think for me, it didn't feel like I was like, oh, cool, I'm like moving through the space more efficiently now. It's like, oh, cool, I'm doing the exact same thing I did before. I figured out the way I'm going to do it, and it's not necessarily like, let's make it better. It's like, let's just get through it so I can retry this mini boss or
sometimes
whatever it is.
A lot of those stealth things is like involves waiting. So it's like, okay, well, here's the part where I sit behind this rock and wait for this guy's path.
I never did that.
I did that with some of the
I feel like I had a few moments of that. And it was like, truly, it was fine. But it was also, I think once I got to like the second big boss, I was just like, I don't want to relearn another boss right now. Like, it just didn't feel as worth it to me.
I think that's very much the game of like learn the pattern
I like
recognition.
Bloodborne a lot, but
I think I've always preferred the like progression of like, okay, I can just grind and get stat increases over the like skill point stuff, because it's like sometimes it's like, well, I can get this 1 or 2 skill thing that I don't know if it's going to help me get past this boss, whereas in Bloodborne and stuff you could just level up. I think I prefer that.
It's cool.
Go ahead.
I liked it. I kind of just didn't grab me. I think I also didn't find the lore engaging.
Yeah, I was going to say, I somehow setting...
the first time I have.
Really? Okay, so maybe...
I like the Bloodborne lore.
Setting a From game
Bloodborne lore
in a real-world location was a little weird to me. I mean, like, to be sure, it has fantastical elements, like 50-foot-long snake and shit like that. Like, it's not...
You fight this ape, right? And he's got a sword in him, and then you cut his head off with the sword, and then he picks his head up and starts carrying it around, and he grabs the sword too, and he's chasing you around with his head in one hand and his sword in the other.
Like it's not like it's purely grounded in real world feudal Japan or anything, but like
based on what Ben just said.
No, that happened.
It's just those other
no history major, but
the settings from all their other games are so outlandish. I kind of miss, especially Bloodborne.
This has some of it, especially in the like they really jam all that stuff in the later third, I would say, kind of once you get to Fountainhead Palace, which is kind of like this town in a waterfall, and then you go to like the Divine Realm where you fight this like space dragon.
Okay, that sounds cool.
But like, yeah, it's very back.
I think it occurred to me like the distillation of my problem with it is that the first like several bosses and mini bosses you fight are all just dudes.
And see, it's weird for me because like that was way into what I was way into that because I think the thing that for me I never latched onto the Souls games lore. I've played every one of them to different lengths, but I never really got invested in the story. I never really got into it because for two reasons. One, it was all inscrutable. Like if you were just playing through and kind of half paying attention, it was impossible to understand what was going on at all. But the other thing was like I wasn't a guy. Like you create your character, you kind of like you're playing whatever the player, the character who has a
You're
role.
a vessel, basically.
But like the story of Wolf, I could really latch onto. I'm like, this is a guy. He was he's an orphan. He's got a prosthetic arm. He's honor bound, and he meets this prince. And then like spoilers, eventually you have to choose between following the code and saving the prince and all this stuff. And I felt like this is something.
That was your story exactly.
Yeah, this is me, right, as a video game character. No, but like this is something I can latch onto, and the fact that the enemies are people and they're talking to me, I was like a big fan of.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it was generally for me. I think I really like the gothic aesthetic of the Souls games and the Bloodborne stuff and the more Victorian stuff in the Bloodborne. I think maybe the kind of, like Brad said, more grounding in it's like feudal Japan, but with a much higher level of mysticism.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's really just so many of the enemies just being human beings, Like,
yeah.
I was just missing that outlandish.
I didn't mind that as much.
They get a lot more
over the top
fucked
aspect
up as you go along, especially because so the game does a thing where it kind of that main castle area, kind of when you kill like the first main boss and it unlocks this castle that you kind of work your way up to the roof of. They kind of keep putting you in there throughout different times of day. So in the daytime when you get there, it's like the normal people who are in the castle. You go back again at dusk. And it's being invaded by a foreign army, and all their soldiers are like really fucked up, kind of monster men. And then you go again one more time at the end game, and everything's on fire, and it's just like freaks and demons everywhere. And I thought that was cool. I also just wanted to give a shout out to the Genshiro fight. He's kind of I think he's the second boss technically. He's the lightning dude at the top of the tower. You fight in this area actually that we can see on screen. And it's kind of like, to me, it's the point of the game that teaches you really. It's one of the best boss fights I've ever played because I was playing that game wrong. I was trying to play that game like a Souls game. I was really trying to like be super defensive, wait for my openings, just wait for patterns and stuff. But like I was just dying over and over again against him. And then so I looked up some guides and they were just like, never stop attacking, really get in there. And sure enough, by like the third time I started fighting him, trying a completely new strategy, it started working. And that's something I don't get in games a lot, where it's like you can play this game for several hours in a way that they consider wrong. I mean, it's not wrong; you can still beat it, whatever. But like having this major checkpoint here of just like this is really a skills test. It's not like a lot of bosses can be just like, do you have enough resources to kill it? Do you have enough patience? Whatever. This was really like, no, you have to start learning this game for real. And I really liked that.
I think
on the flip side, actually, I kind of appreciate the ability to play a game the way that you want to.
Yeah.
And Sekiro did not allow for that.
No.
You needed to play it the way that it needed
on
to
its
be
terms.
It really was missing that aspect of being able to like spec your character
exactly
the way that you wanted to.
And I didn't want to play it that way. Like I started learning those systems, and it's like this is just not how I'd play, I guess. And that's where I really bounced off.
Totally.
Unfortunately, I got a handful of bosses in, and I was really enjoying. This is kind of a Venn diagram for me. It touched a lot of things that I'm into.
Prosthetic arms.
Yes, prosthetic arms. Yeah, lone wolf character. Look at me. But yeah, ultimately it was the I don't know, the like laser focused combat. And like I should have been into like the whole parry system and whatnot, but it just did not click with me, unfortunately.
I found it exhausting.
Yeah.
It was like an exhausting game.
It's
where
very exhausting.
Yeah, especially when you're like going up against a brand new boss, you have no idea what they're gonna do. You get died time after time after one or two hits.
Yeah,
it's frustrating, and it's
Well, even like you beat a boss and you're like, oh man, I beat that boss, and you walk 2 steps and you get killed in 2 hits, right? And, or like even the area you just worked through does not feel easier. Like you can always die very quickly. And it's something from, and not to compare too much to Souls games, but like it's something in the Souls games. I do feel like as you got stronger and better, you just didn't care about the early areas, right?
Yeah,
you were just
totally.
like, whatever, one hit through this area. This guy used to be so hard.
People.
And in Sekiro, I thought it was was always like, oh man, I can take this guy out in 5 seconds, or I can die to him in 5 seconons, but there's no in between.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
If I engage in this fight for more than 15 minutes, I should just run back, or for more than 15 seconds, I should just run back, repop again.
You're wasting so much.
Yeah,
stuff.
wasted so much stuff. But I did find that there was a reward to it. It was just so tiring.
No,
Yeah.
I totally get it. The last thing I'll say to its credit is I was amazed by the fact that I could take a 6-month break between playing it and pick it back up and just get right back into it.
I should try that.
Yeah.
My fight for the learning how to play this game was it Madam Butterfly, or the one who throws the knives at you? And that was the one where I think I wound up cheesing it at the end, but was like, hey, if I just keep hitting you, you never attack me.
I watched a cheese guy. It was a compilation of all the bosses getting cheese, and it was the most like I just was like, yeah, fuck this shit, fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck you.
Yeah, because they will destroy you. Cool game.
I mean, a lot of them have swords, you know? Yeah. It's like kind of cool to see a game where they're just like, no, these weapons are fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's the sort of thing like, you know, like people always talk about lightsabers not being what lightsabers should be or something. Like this is a game that, for better or worse, is just like,
If you get stabbed by a sword with a
swords are
spear,
fucked up.
like,
Swords are
you're
fucked
gonna-
up.
it's gonna hurt you.
Don't get stabbed.
It's like they made Bushido Blade into a full-on
Yeah.
third-person action game.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it didn't fully grab me, but I'm still happy to see them try some different stuff and not just.
They should experiment all the ways they want to experiment.
Well, now they got George R.R. Martin, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the Elder Ring or whatever.
Elden Ring
Look,
is-
they're just anything to not write that book.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's just no money in it at this point.
Yeah.
Now he's getting into combat design. Somebody put Power Rangers Battle for the
Hell
Ground on
yeah,
this
I
list?
did.
Good reason.
Do you have another PowerPoint, Jan?
I don't have a PowerPoint for this one because the Power Rangers do it all on their own, baby.
Oh.
I'm not the biggest fighting game person in the room. I don't obey the laws
No,
of
it's me.
science.
I'm 6'10".
Yeah, you're literally the tallest.
Yeah.
But I wound up really digging this because Power Rangers is a property that I'm really attached to, grew up with it, and especially following the comics that came out recently. And the level of surprising depth in this fighting game that was still accessible for someone like me, but someone that is more skilled like Ben could also dip into and get into the systems. The part where it was unfortunate in the very beginning is kind of how bare bones it was, though. There's not a lot of sound effects. There's no story mode. The roster
Low roster.
The roster started at like 7. But the surprising thing that was super cool is the continued support the developers were giving this game specifically. The roster grew from 7 to I think now close to 14.
Okay.
They added sound effects. They added a.
It's a weird thing to add later, but okay.
No. Voice acting. They had sound effects. They had sound effects.
Because like each pre-fight would just be silent pantomiming. But now it's like a character saying actual stuff. They've added a super bare bones story mode, which is just like a bunch of stills with voice acting. But like even that's done surprisingly well, given
Like it seems faithful to like the comics.
oh
like, in the
100%.
lore.
Yo, they fucking go places that the comic goes.
Wow.
The Macedon Ranger is all just a bunch of cops. Lord Draken is there. Lord Zed. They got dragon armor Trini, y'all. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, sorry.
Damn. Thank you. But yeah, it was just like a neat time. The unfortunate side is I picked it up on the Switch, and the online is close to nobody on there.
Yeah. This game is really interesting because it was so this company basically they got the Power Rangers license somehow. They made that shitty phone game that
Oh, so this is the same company that did the phone game. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought there was 2 separate companies. Okay,
No,
wow.
so they did that as kind of, I guess, a proof of concept
Yeah,
of like,
yeah.
hey, we're going to make a Power Rangers thing. We got this IP. And then they're like, let's make a fighting game. But instead of just doing that, they went and they contracted out like some
Clockwork,
well-known
yeah.
Clockwork. I think Shady K's involved.
Yep.
Like well-known fighting game people to come in, play the game, balance it, and then work with them. And they're still, as far as I know, working on the game. It's still constantly patching, balancing stuff. It's all free, which is tremendous.
The game's not free. The
game's not
updates,
free.
yeah.
The updates are free. It's a Marvel style kind of team based game.
Like a light, medium, heavy attack type stuff. as
Even
opposed to punches and
more
kicks.
simple. I
Yeah,
think there
I
was
wanna
like
say-
2 hits and a special button.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
2 hits and a special button, and that changed to like direction
Yeah.
inputs.
But the systems are like the combo potential is there. It's shockingly a deep
It's
game.
surprisingly legit.
And like there's a small but really passionate community around this game that is really cool to see. Like it's I don't know, they could have really phoned this in. And they did in some parts at the beginning with the launch of it, like with the roster, like Shane was talking about with the voice acting, but they've continued to support it, which you just love to see.
The silly part is instead of controlling a Zord, you kind of just summon it, and just like its tail or foot will come in and stomp around for a bit. But yeah, it's neat. It was surprisingly had a good time with it.
Can you fight as Rita Repulsa?
Damn it,
no,
I knew you were going to ask that too.
Lord Zed.
How
though.
could I not?
Yeah.
Look,
Zed's
Lord
cool.
Zed's a big deal. I'm not saying
Goldar?
Lord Zed don't matter.
You
I'm
got
just saying.
Goldar.
See the face in the tube?
I'm saying that Power Rangers was never better than when Rita Repulsa was at the helm.
Yes.
Is this how people feel when we talk about G.I. Joe?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I also
G.I.
feel that way
Joe?
about G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
so
similar.
Now, if they made a G.I. Joe fighting game, maybe you'd be onto something.
Oh, the Commodore
my
64
God,
one's
yeah.
the closest you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
Does G.I. Joe have a gun?
a lot of them do, but they're all lasers.
It's more than
Yeah.
one Joe.
Yo.
Now
Is this like a Goku thing?
Joe's like a
Yeah.
title.
Oops, all Joes.
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much.
Yo, Goku.
Okay.
Also, Doggy Cruiser's in this game.
That's
Doggy
right.
Cruiser's the best
Yeah, we
ranger.
Googled him or her.
Best 6 ranger.
You're officially past my understanding of Power Rangers at that point.
Lost in Space still the best season.
Sure.
Thank you,
I,
Ben.
I'll take your word on it.
I checked out after the White Ranger,
Which one?
the first one,
Okay.
the one that was also the Green Ranger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tommy.
Got a flute?
Yes.
You got a flute.
I probably.
Oh my God, what happened to
Oh,
this?
no.
All right, it's Power Rangers.
Wow.
So anyway,
Yay.
I'm glad that game doesn't
I
suck.
played some of that game. It seems okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rousing.
I expected to completely hate it, and I was like, oh, okay. All right, they did a thing.
Yeah, it's pretty
Good on them.
All right, closing out March. Speaking of okay,
Yeah, that's about how I'd say.
Yoshi's Crafted World.
Yeah.
I like these games. I like the
How many have they made?
the
though?
good feel games.
second one or the
we're
third
coming to
one?
the
This is the
Yoshi
second
series.
Yoshi one.
Well, okay. I kind of see the lineage as Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, and then there's Yoshi's Story.
Dan,
and
we're
then there's
just
Yoshi's new one.
Dan,
There's
Dan,
yes.
Dan,
If you're
we're-
asking about the Yoshi
No,
series.
no, we're not. We're just talking about the good feel, like handcraft, like
Yeah.
crafts,
The
arts and
ones-
crafts.
Like the Kirby.
The ones that
Yeah.
look
Oh, you're
like
talking about, there's Woolly World and then this. Is that what
Okay,
you're talking
so
about?
there's two of them.
Okay, okay.
Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Okay.
There's Woolly World, and then there's this.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
I think the N64 one kind of tracks.
it's not great.
Here's the thing.
First one's one of the best
I
platformers. of all
really
time.
like Kirby's Epic Yarn. I think the first one of these Yoshi games is pretty good. It's pretty enjoyable.
That was a Wii U game, right?
Yes,
Woolly
it was.
World. It also came out on 3DS later.
Yeah, it was pretty good. This one started out all right, and it's it's playable, it's enjoyable enough. I think my problems are twofold. One, the level designs are not that interesting. After a while, it really like they have not had any new or particularly unique ideas for this series since the first Kirby game. Like it is trucking on the aesthetics a lot, and I think that works up to a point. And they are past that point. The other thing is that the co-op for this game just straight up sucks.
It's not great.
What is it?
It is. You can have multiple Yoshis. You are both all collecting eggs, and you are kind of handling the levels together. The problem is that you are constantly able to jump on each other or knock into each other.
Jump on
and
each other's back.
Jump on each other's backs in ways that you do not want to do.
Is it in a funny way, like in New Super Mario Brothers Wii, where you're all jumping on each other's
That's
heads
the
and,
first-
and it's
that's-
hilarious?
The first two
fun.
times, yes, it is that. And
Okay.
then the 97th time, it is extremely not
You're like,
that.
get off my back. I mean, you can throw unlimited eggs when you're on the back, but
That's
like,
fun.
yeah, it's. I did not enjoy the co-op, and also I just found the whole thing kind of vanilla and not inspired.
Yeah,
You know?
I think they had a thing going when they first started making these games. I think that Kirby game, was kind of what it needed to be, and I think the first Yoshi one showed some promise, but like this one doesn't really deliver on anything particularly new or noteworthy. It's just not. I really want this studio to try and find like a better groove for these games because like right now it just feels like, other than the fact that they bought all the graphics from this game at Michael's, there just isn't really anything else to hook onto with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vinny.
Yeah.
Did your kids enjoy this?
No.
Oh, no.
They did, I mean, they did not enjoy it, but it as soon as the next thing came out, they put this down.
They're children of taste.
Yeah.
They're like, get this
Tough crowd at your house.
idiot dinosaur out of my
Yes,
face.
we broke 2
not
switches.
an idiot.
Yeah, because I feel like there are some games where it's like, this is easy and dull for me as an adult who plays a bunch of games. So maybe kids like, it's Yoshi, it's fun. But if it's like not even fun for
Kids know better.
Yeah. Usually
I
kids
think
like
so,
the good
yes,
games.
but also I had terrible tastes as a kid sometimes too. I mean, let's be real.
So the thing is, it's not fun to play with a child because of that co-op stuff, and that makes it not fun to play. Like if a kid wants to play with their parents and they're like, I can't, like the new Super Mario Brothers stuff of like, I can't, this is too frustrating. You keep jumping on my head, or like you keep bubbling up, and then why do you bubble up during this part? Because if I die, then you die. Just get out of the goddamn bubble.
It does sound like it'd be fun to watch though.
Oh yeah,
Everyone yelling at each other.
No, just go. There are other great Switch games that came out this year that are much better in co-op.
Yeah, I agree
Very
with that.
true.
Okay. That's the final word.
That's the final word.
On
Seems
March
cute.
2019.
I wish it was better.
Yeah, that brings us up through the beginning of April. Let's go take one more quick break and then come back and talk about that month.
All right.
Okay, next up in our rundown of 2019's games, Dangerous Driving.
Oh, right.
man.
Oh, right.
I wanted this to be the thing that we wanted it to be. You know, just give us Burnout.
This is, and it is. It is Burnout.
It is kinda.
It's Burnout 3 in a lot of ways. And it is also one of the most bare bones things imaginable.
Yes. I feel like the wrecks didn't have the right weight to them, and a lot of the destruction stuff didn't look as just splintering off everywhere like the Burnout crashes had. It just felt like a knockoff of Burnout.
I think that is the fundamental problem with this game, is not just that it isn't polished enough. It's that the driving itself is so sub Burnout. Like the actual car feel of that game does not feel good at all.
When was the last time you played Burnout 3?
I actually not that long ago, and I agree. It is nowhere near as good as where they got by the time Paradise came around.
Right.
But there is a feel to that game that does not make it feel like your car is on some kind of weird rail, which is what this game, to me, the little bit that I played of it, it just never felt like there was an actual momentum to the car. It just felt like it was just kind of slamming around, and then sometimes some crash physics would happen.
Yeah, I think I see what you're getting at. I think some of that is just they really went for that era of arcade style driving game, and and they were bad like that then. In a lot of ways, and yeah, it's this studio, Three Fields, it seems like that they started up to eventually get to this game. They did their golf game and
the Dangerous series.
Yeah, they did that VR game. And
what was the Crash game?
Crash
Zone, Danger Zone,
Danger Zone.
What is with the names of their games?
It's dangerous.
They just want dangerous. They want to establish a brand of
They just seem
dangerous paradise.
kind of flat.
They kind of feel like placeholders.
Like the Mania world. It's the dangerous world.
Yeah, basically.
Dangerous RPG. Dangerous shooter.
I don't know. It's just this is the thing I wanted them to try to make.
Yeah.
This is the thing I would have loved to have seen them pull off more than anything else, and it just isn't there.
One of the one of the real tragedies of this thing is so Dangerous Driving launched with no online.
Yeah.
They patched it in later. But who's going to remember to go back and play Dangerous Driving? It wasn't that well received that people were like, I can't wait for the online.
Yeah.
So they must have put some work to get that online finished, and then I went day of, and was like, cool, I'm excited. It's me. I'm the person who's excited to try this out on the internet. No one. 0 other players. It was just, man.
Just for you. Special.
Yeah. No soundtrack, but Spotify integration, I think, is a clever way to save some money.
Yes.
But also, it just felt like they were cutting as many corners as they could.
It led to a fun video.
Yeah.
If you don't have Spotify, and
Then you don't have music.
Okay.
In a weird way, though, it reminds me of as far as the old Xbox, the burn your own CDs feature.
Yes.
The game I used that on the most was Burnout 3 Takedown.
I think you and I were talking not that long ago, and it was just I'm genuinely shocked more devs this generation have not tried to do direct integration with that stuff, even if it is for the same reason, like you said, they're just trying to cut corners and not license a soundtrack. That's fine.
That stuff is largely integrated at the system level now, not as cleanly as maybe it was on the 360, because you'll have to go mute the music or cutscenes.
And that's the thing, is
weird.
that that's why I'm surprised devs haven't tried to do it on their own, because that implementation is not great and never has been. And I feel like there are tons of games that would have benefited from some more direct playlist usage and things like that.
Yeah, I think that stuff could definitely be a lot better. That's something I wouldn't mind seeing like better integrated at a system level next time out, is like a solid integration with streaming services in a way that like games can know to mute for a cutscene.
Right.
Or,
It's weird that they got away from that because the 360 did that so well. It was
worked great.
It's such a cool feature.
Like if like a kind of bar snapped out or something along the side, like on the side of the screen,
like a blade or
like
something.
like a panel
Yeah.
snapped out, and you could like watch a movie while you're playing a game.
You can like do two things at one time.
Yeah, like do two things that would like dedicate some of the processing
What if
power.
you could
to
just
it,
say something like, "Oh, snap this thing in."
snap in,
Yeah,
like, yeah.
That'll never work. Dangerous driving,
Kind of a bummer.
yeah.
Does it feel like the studio's just kind of operating on a shoestring budget?
Yeah,
Well, they
it-
definitely
from
seem like
project
they
to
are.
project?
Yeah, it seems like that they were definitely like, we're trying to, yes, grow a little bit with each project so that we can get to the point where we're making these driving games. That was the story that I, when they came by, it seemed like that was the concept anyway. And they got there to make
But
one of them. So
It's weird though, because it feels like they're making prototypes.
Yeah,
they're almost making
totally.
prototypes for games that, well, especially in this case, for games that they have made before, and it's hard to go backwards.
Yep.
It's hard to say like, oh, if you keep following this path long enough, you'll get to Burnout Paradise.
You're not
Right.
supposed to put out the pitch demo as your game.
And I think to me, it speaks to how hard making a game is. Even if you are the people who know how to do it and
Yeah.
got the idea,
years of experience,
years of experience,
making
more
this
resources.
exact type of game.
It's just
yeah,
a lot of people make games. It takes a big team. It takes a lot to put a game together.
yeah. It's not a terrible game. Like it plays mostly how you want it.
It's
but
just disappointing.
It
Yeah,
didn't
it is
satisfy.
disappointing.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like several people in this room are like the absolute demographic that would be interested in this, and like all of us are kind of like,
Yeah.
I wonder where they go from here.
I don't know.
Dangerous fishing.
Yeah.
Okay.
They get the Need for Speed license.
Ridiculous fishing.
Okay, that sounds crazy.
Oh my God. They made a Need for Speed. That needs to happen.
Yeah, they were out there talking like, this is the most people that have played a Need for Speed game this generation.
And you went, they made a Need for Speed game this generation?
Well, yeah. It's like, well, yeah, I would hope so. It's the end of the generation. More of these consoles exist than they did when you started.
Also, a bunch of people can play it on your subscription service now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
What's up next?
moving on to Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
They did it. They made an 11th Mortal Kombat game.
And it's
and
good.
It's good.
Finally.
It's very good. It's very, very
NetherRealm can count to 11.
The meme is dead.
I on one level, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I also think it's awesome that this game is like a credible Game of the Year contender.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I think
It doesn't
this-
seem that incredible to me.
No?
Well, I really liked. Was it 8 or 9? Which one?
Nine
Nine
was-
was
nine
really
was-
kind of blew people
Nine was
away.
the reboot.
Yeah, and I think that was very good.
It was, but so I played through 9X and 11 back to back to back when this came out.
Yeah.
And it has not aged
Yes.
amazingly well.
I went back as well.
It's a little.
but you have to take it at the time, right?
Is the story
Yeah.
stuff fun? I remember the story stuff being like a great retelling of the first three.
Kinda. It was not as satisfying the second time around. Also, some of the stuff in that game in that story mode is just kind of embarrassing
Oh, really?
at this point.
I'm sure some of this will be too.
This is a lot more tasteful, though, I would say.
It's funny talking about Mortal Kombat and using the word tasteful. I agree with you.
We're
talking about
working on a
costumes,
sliding scale.
Right.
Yeah.
You're talking about costumes and such.
That's part of it for sure.
And like interactions.
Well, that's part of it, but also a lot of the storytelling is just sort of cheesy and not necessarily in a fun way all the time. Where,
think-
like this game's got like real dramatic heft in the story.
I feel like
Some
that's
of it.
that's where X was going. Like X
Kinda.
kind of started
Yeah.
on that path, and even though I didn't love the story in that game nearly as much,
Definitely not, yeah.
the
Same.
Combat Kid stuff was not my favorite. Like it felt like that was where they were trying to shift things,
Yeah.
and this is them actually successfully
did it.
doing that.
They did it.
Yeah.
I think it's easily the best story mode they've ever done.
Yeah,
yeah. I
haven't
think it's
played
my
9 in a
favorite.
while. 9's definitely my favorite, but like you've played it more recently, so
yeah.
It is, I think, without a doubt, the best single player fighting game story that's ever been.
Yeah,
It's ambitious.
well, I've obviously haven't played all of them, but I totally agree.
I mean,
Ryu punching that waterfall is all I need.
like there's, I mean, everybody. I think everybody's played it at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think back, like, how did that play out? Like, it's so confusing because there's two versions of most of the characters.
Right, right.
Wasn't it? Was it old Sonya dying?
in the very beginning.
Yeah, 90s Sonya
Like,
died.
like Cassie basically watching her mother die, but
Right.
then
Yes.
the young version of her mother pops into the scene like minutes later.
That's right. It's the more adult, like military Sonya
Right,
dies,
yes,
but the old
yes.
like 90s spandex
Like
Sonya's
there's
still
cool
around.
weird drama around that stuff.
Yeah.
and,
Like they make Johnny Cage like an interesting
Yeah.
character.
Johnny Cage, yeah.
Like the
Because he like is literally coming face to face with past Johnny Cage,
Yeah,
being like,
just,
"Oh fuck,
that's
I
a
was the
douchebag,
man,
worst."
God damn.
I mean, not to like throw too much like metaphorical meaning into what is a Mortal Kombat story mode. The whole premise of that game is literally you fighting the concept of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what they are doing in this story. Is there is a fucking time wizard who is also maybe God. I don't know. But that time wizard is fucking everything up, and so people are facing down their younger and older versions of themselves. Time itself is fighting against them. And it's just like that's the kind of wild shit I love them going for.
Yeah,
I am
But
very
they,
into
they
that.
earn it though. And
Yes,
like,
totally.
They kind of earn it. Yeah, I mean, for a
I'm-
time travel story.
I'm with you up to a point. Like
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
issues with the end of the game, but like everything culminating in that fucking incredible sequence of Liu Kang and Raiden, like breaking the cycle of hostility.
That's
all
very
the different
different
ways,
ways to
like
tell the
that
same
triumphant. Like,
Yeah, I actually I don't
I thought
mind
that
it.
was that was incredible.
I think that was super cool and a very good beat.
that's the best moment of the game.
But there's just some stuff, and this is going to happen for a game with time travel, where the kind of selective use of stopping time for narrative purposes of like, oh, you can freeze anybody whenever you want. Why do you do it here when they're about
Why
to
doesn't
punch you? But
Garrus
not,
just roll up to the base and freeze everyone?
yeah, like why are you freezing it now but not here? And that's just
Yeah.
like convenient. He
forgot.
He forgot. Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But that stuff is or
And also, it lets them kind of shuffle the deck with allegiances and stuff in,
Yes.
in a way that is always very convenient. Like, you get to have your good guy Scorpion
Yeah.
and your bad guy Scorpion.
Oh, I love the
And,
Scorpion friends. When Scorpion and Sub-Zero are friends,
Yeah.
like doing
Yeah.
missions, that was great.
Like, yeah, when they're out there just doing Metal Gear shit,
Yeah.
basically, but they're actual ninjas. Yeah.
There are moments though that by nature of them having to have at least one fight with every character, it's like, why is Aaron Black here? And like with the bad guys, he's just like,
Right.
don't worry about it. You won't see me again after this cutscene.
I always pick the winning team. Anyway, bye.
I don't have a lot of strongly held feelings about rosters in these games, but I will say that Aaron Black is never the right substitute for Striker.
Oh, no, definitely
He
not.
will
Which
never
is- no one
be the
is.
proper substitute.
which makes it even crazier that he's apparently like top tier in the pro scene.
Oh yeah, no, he's
Black.
he's a well used character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the fighting seems all right.
I think some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I think some of the stuff around the edges in this game was not as much fun to me. Like I'm kind of over the crypt format. Like I understand that it's like it's a cool
started interesting.
It's a cool unlockable system, and I like that they build these environments out that you're exploring essentially, the fucking Shang Tsung dungeon shit. But like after a while, it's just kind of tedious, and I don't
The
want to
problem
do
with
it
that is
anymore.
like it was an amazing environment to explore
Yeah.
with like a lot of nostalgic weird shit in there too, but the grind for that currency was way too real.
Yep.
And it was just they adjusted it, but
did
never
get
got
better.
it to a point where it was like
There was so little payoff in there.
and there were 4
Yeah.
different currencies. Like it was like kind of a mess there.
That stuff's a
Had
mess.
The weird
and-
you
big-
could mix things together to get. hands and-
So you had to like forge
Mix an
currency
eye
and
and-
other items.
I
and
just
that
want the
stuff was
fatalities. Just show me where the fatalities
It
are
was
and how
like-
much I need to get.
They were
Yeah.
interesting ideas that just like I think just became, especially when you could rewind time to reseal the chests to open them again and have different stuff in them. You're like, fuck this.
What am I doing?
Like that stuff was just way too much, and the source of a lot of the kind of launch week woes about just like, hey, this is like exploitative.
Yeah.
Like none of that currency was for sale, but it was still just sucked.
The randomized contents of the chests kind of killed it for me. Like,
Yeah, same.
having to burn all this currency and not know what you're going to get out of it.
I never enjoyed any of the like chest opening and currency stuff from this one, but like it really is some of the best nostalgia. Like in a series that is known for like constantly leaning on nostalgia.
That environment is so good.
Yeah, seeing the statues and everything. It's like, oh, these are all the levels from the first one.
Dead corpse of Goro on his throne was
Yeah.
just like mind blowing.
That's where the guy was on fire on that bridge.
I wish
also
they
like
just,
paying homage to the fucking movie from the 90s.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly
like Kano's
wish-
banquet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
table
they got-
and stuff.
they got,
Well, never mind
that guy
They
to-
got the
to-
actor.
Oh, yeah,
Kerry
and
Fukugawa, yeah.
that. Yeah, totally.
But I honestly, if they had just made like a super short, like hour and a half long dungeon crawler, just you third person
monks.
game, just like Shaolin monk style, just going through those environments and just having some basic fights or whatever, that would be way more interesting and rewarding to me than just wandering around opening these fucking chests. Like,
well, yeah.
I'm just tired
It's like
of that.
it's like they were solving the wrong problem. Like, if you
Yeah.
think about it, like the previous crypts would say like, okay, these are the 8 chests you really care about because they have the good costumes or fatalities or whatever the fuck. And so instead, like looking at that, and it seems like their solution was like, well, we got to randomize them so that people can't just write a fact about it. It was like it was like that in Mortal Kombat 2 when they changed all the fatalities in one patch.
Yes.
They're just like, oh, well, internet found them all. Fuck you guys. Like, it felt like that.
It broke all the strategy guides.
Yeah, it felt like that over again. And you're like, come on. Like, don't do this.
There is more in the crypt than chests. Like, there's actually a lot of puzzles to solve.
Yeah.
But they are neat, but they're also...
That just lead to more chests.
But they're also so obscure. Like, a lot of that stuff, you just kind of have to look up solutions.
Yeah, stuff about the clock and like the end game time and
like all the heads.
Trying to find new... oh, man, that was a pain in the ass.
But here's the thing, like, I don't think that stuff is super interesting. I never got super into like the towers. Like, I think that's a thing that's like occasionally fun to mess around with, but it's not a thing that I spend a lot of time with.
And the towers were like balanced poorly at launch too. That's another thing they kind of had to figure out.
But the core fighting,
the core fighting
really good.
Is a lot of
really
fun.
good.
And that story mode is really good.
Yeah. I like the DLC that they ended up going with. I thought they had a good mix of like, here's, a couple old one. Like, I thought the what's his name? The guy who transforms.
Shang Tsung?
The Shang Tsung DLC was really cool because he's transforming to all the ninjas that are in the game and stuff, and like
They play with that in a fun way.
yeah, I think this is the best Terminator game.
You're not wrong.
yeah.
Oh my god, the fatality design. There's so
my
many,
God. Oh, there's
so many
good.
inspired fatalities in this game.
Maybe a little too inspired. Or inspired by what?
Yeah, and you know
maybe?
what? Like, I will give them credit for actually being unnerving with fatalities again because it's been so long.
The Katana one, Gornado, where she just like spins around with the fans and it cuts the intestines out and they go spin around you like a tornado.
Like, I
Tornado's a good name for that.
I didn't think fatalities could be uncomfortable anymore.
So I think
They find a way.
The Johnny Cage puppet one.
Fatalities find a way. Yeah.
there was some reporting on like the people who have to like design and research those that kind of broke a little of the fatalities for me of like, oh, we have to look at the,
We were looking at the
reference
most glorious
material.
parts of the internet.
Facebook moderation.
That kind of
Yeah.
every time I wound up seeing
Oh,
a fatality from then on after reading a little bit of that
Yeah,
reporting
like them
was
getting
like
like PTSD from work.
of just like, oh man, right, yeah, somebody has to see exactly
That
what a
is what it
trachea
looks like when somebody gets cut in half
right.
with a hot chain.
Right, yes, right.
It's like it's like the Red Dead 2 like guy trying to animate the horse balls problem, like but like taken to the most violent, unpleasant degree.
Yeah, the balls are split in two.
Yeah.
And rendered.
Yeah.
I like the time stuff. I'm always a fan of somebody trying to tackle a time.
Yeah, a goofy time story.
Yeah.
Especially one that like this lets them reframe the entire context of the whole series.
They took the ball and they ran with it.
They're just like,
all the
fuck
way.
it. What you heard about Elder Gods? What if there was something one up from that?
It's the Kai thing.
Sure.
Oh, Supreme Kai.
Yeah.
Or then right, and then like, well, how is Liu Kang gonna fight this Elder God? That fight's gonna make no sense. And
Now he's a god.
They figure out a way.
Also, what the fuck does the next one look like?
Just they can start over.
Yeah,
like
on that rock.
that's kind of the beautiful thing is it paves the way for them to actually like start fresh in a weird way and either find their way back into these characters but rewrite the book on who has what moves and all this. I was like, oh, hey, time.
We're all new characters.
I
We're all
don't-
new characters. Yeah.
I don't mind that they wiped the slate clean, but I don't like the way they worked up to it because they did so much stuff that I liked in this game that when they then wiped it all away, I was like, but wait a minute.
It meant nothing. No.
It's like Katana finally just took her rightful place as the ruler of Outworld, and now you're
matter.
saying there is no Outworld anymore. That sucks.
But here's the thing, by
Make it again.
like it undermines a lot of the like character triumphs along the way when you all of a sudden just go like, none of that actually happened.
I mean, I
Like a
don't
Marvel movie.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think that, I understand why they're going that route because it does open some doors for them they might not have otherwise. But that said, being able to erase all of that history means that we might get a Sonya Blade that is not voiced by Ronda Rousey in the future. That is the new future.
that is a
we
positive.
can
Future
look
of
forward
the past.
That is a
of
positive.
A better Sonya.
That's some of
Yeah.
the worst voice act. It just stands out.
It's
terrible.
Oh,
It's truly
fucking
awful.
terrible.
It's like a real black mark on the game, I think.
Yeah, her inclusion just feels like the worst kind of stunt casting, and it's unfortunate. But especially because every other actor in that game
It's
is
good.
going for
Really
it.
good.
Yeah,
Really
it's
good.
good.
Totally. I played a lot more of the online of this than I ever would have thought. Like,
Yeah,
Me too.
I got into this a lot more than I have previous.
I got
Mortal Kombat.
I ranked up a lot in the first Combat League.
I
like halfway
still
up the tier
get my
list.
fucking face like wiping the floor with it, and that's fine.
good
But I'm
fatality.
having more fun getting my ass kicked than I am with most other online fighting games.
I will say I tried to play the second Combat League, and it was like all the same challenges as the first one, and like slightly different costume rewards. And I was like, I can't do this again. But it's fun.
Yeah, they really made some of the I don't know, end game stuff like the long game. Like, you know, you're getting so little payout for the crypt, so little payout for some of the towers and stuff based on the difficulty.
Yeah.
Almost
that
like
was
they-
kind of a bummer.
And I got a set of
Almost like they
costumes
also
I
wanna
liked,
sell it
and
to
I
you.
was like, yeah,
You were good.
And I was like, okay.
They had the whole costume system as well, like the itemized.
Some of that was a little bit of excessive grind too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
They also, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, having shaped gems and having to hope that gear drops with the right
yeah.
shape of socket to use the
Yeah.
gem.
I-
But also,
I
most
never
of the
got a full
bonuses,
set of them.
most of the bonuses you got from the gems weren't worth it anyway.
That stuff
It
was not
just-
fully
yeah.
fleshed
A
out.
couple hundred hours that I played that game, and I don't think I got a full set of fucking anything.
Totally.
Well, what did you guys think of the like mix and match move list? For
I've never
characters
liked
with
that. Ever since was it Deadly Alliance when they started doing the like different stances and stuff. I don't like it because I like being able to like memorize like, okay, these are the special moves. Do the slide, the freeze, it's this, and then you don't have to think about like, oh, well, I'm in the katana pose or whatever. Like I've always hated that.
Yeah, I understand why high level players seem to like it. I think it's a neat way to go about that stuff. The way they implement it in this game, for me, it just isn't important in any way. Like it doesn't do anything for me.
I like that it lets you kind of build a character. Well, you can build the character to your liking in a certain sense. It gives you a little bit more options that way. But then once I realized that anyone who's playing the game online is going to stick to the competitively balanced versions of the characters, it was like, oh, it's pointless for me to even get good with this version of Scorpion, because if I ever want to play anyone on the internet, I'm not going to have this move or this move. Instead, I'll have this move or this move because it's locked to the competitive presets.
I think.
it is. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait, aren't there some modes that are not?
Yes, there are some modes that are not, but like if you ever want to play Combat League or anything like that, you're playing the competitive, you're playing the locked versions of the characters.
Okay,
And-
that's interesting.
It's counterintuitive to the kind of what they pitched.
Yeah, so instead it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to stick to this version of Scorpion and this version, and these are the competitive. I think they added more like ranked sets over the course of the game.
Okay.
I want to say there were originally 2 for each, and there's now a 3rd.
Maybe.
I think that's how it happened.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's better than what they did in like Injustice, where you kind of you built your own. They iterated on that with this, and I think it's a better
deal.
Yeah.
And I just think the core fighting is the most fun I've had with one of these games since
It's really good.
since they rebooted
Smart meters and just like the way they built the systems, I think are
super
pretty cool.
simplified meters.
Yeah.
You know, the offensive and defensive meter, and like everything's just like 1 or 2 bars.
Their training stuff,
is
showing off like here's how many moves, or how many frames, everything's active, safe, punishable.
Yeah.
Like they really drill down into that stuff, which I think all fighting games should do. So it's good that they're kind of setting an example.
Yeah, bless their hearts for being the ones willing to go to that granular level for a tutorial system.
One of the few.
Yeah.
Fucking well designed.
Yeah.
Just a great game.
Yeah, like the game's not without a few missteps, but it's the best MK
Certainly.
in a very long time, I think.
I mean, I think 9 was incredible for its time, but this one feels like it has more like legs behind it
of
overall.
this like little trilogy, this one is by far the best to me.
All right.
Good job. Another realm. Next game, SteamWorld Quest. Hand of Gilgamesh.
I like this game.
me too.
I played a lot of this game and really, really enjoyed it. It is a deck building game, like Slay the Spire, you could say, but it is different in a lot of ways. And since there's a narrative,
Yeah,
you're
it's
kind of
not
following these
run-based. Yeah,
it's like a
characters.
full-on
Yes, you can
RPG.
you can choose which characters you want in your party. And I really liked a lot of the customization options. You get these 8-card decks. Which I think is just the right amount of cards to make it really accessible.
That seems so low, though.
No, but it also made it so I was constantly remaking my decks. Which was awesome. It was a nice way to be like, okay, I need to figure out the best way to do this. I think it was also like 8 cards per character.
Yeah.
So it's like you have multiple characters in the thing. So it's really more when you're playing with it. But I could not give 2 shits about the like quippy dialogue. Like
I skipped
think
through all of it.
I know. I think a lot of the story is like, who fucking cares? But I do think that it's really cute art style. I think it's charming in what it's doing. And I don't know. I had a really good time with it. And I just really enjoyed the combat. I thought it was so satisfying. I really loved making decks and like trying to figure out which characters work well with each other.
They synergize really, really well.
Yeah, totally. And like when you got that good flow, it felt so good. And then getting new hands, and it just made it, and like figure out new enemies. It was just really nice. I felt like I was constantly remaking stuff, and it just kept the game feeling really fresh as I played it. Another complaint I had is I felt like I always wanted to 100% everything, find all the chests.
Yeah.
But you have to go back and do it, and it's like it's really not rewarding to go back through those levels again.
I think you have to play the whole chapter. I think to lock it in. I want to say, yeah,
which is annoying.
The combo system I thought was really cool too. Like you'll hang on to like these 2 green cards, and it's like, oh, I finally got this 3rd one. Now I can like just order it in the perfect way to do the max damage, and then get the bonus by doing all 3 greens.
That's what I was gonna say. They really mitigate. I was with you. I thought 8 was a weird choice for a deck size.
First,
But the way that you can play 3 of the same colors and you'll get a bonus thing, or like there are certain setup cards where if you do a card with this character and then this other card with this other character, it's going to power
in
it
the
up.
right order.
Yeah, like how they work with each other is really interesting.
And so like, I got to the last world, I think. I didn't beat it, but I felt challenged the whole way through, like not too hard. I really liked, I played this mostly over a vacation, and I came back and was talking to Jan about it, and I had like a completely different roster than him, so I just decided to switch up my roster completely, and it played like not a completely different game, but like the character differences are real. Like it's not just like, this is a fire type character and this is a water type character. There are meaningful differences.
And I found the differences really satisfying. And I think it encourages you to play with those characters and how they play with each other in really smart ways and in ways that keep the game feeling really nice and new the whole way you play it.
I thought the actual level design was a little uninspired. There was the bare minimum of puzzles where it'd be like, oh, there's 3 runes hidden in this level and you need to find the 3 runes and then go back to this big room with all the runes and click on the 3 that there are. And it's just like,
I think the stuff in between the levels isn't the strongest part of it. I think it's charming. I think it looks nice. But I don't necessarily think that like that's the pull for me. Right. It was definitely like finding cards, building decks, and then kicking some ass.
Does the story pay off at all?
I didn't care about the story much. No. I read it and listened to it, but I didn't care.
Have you guys played any of the other SteamWorld games?
Yeah, I love all of them. SteamWorld Dig 2 is phenomenal.
Dig 2 is like a perfect game.
Yeah.
They, I'm fully, like, I was already interested in whatever the studio makes next, but seeing them go from, they've made, like, Heist is different than Dig.
Yeah,
it's different than...
Really impressive that they keep doing a really good job with one genre after another.
I really am excited to see what they do.
I think my biggest gripe with this game is that the bosses at the end of the worlds tended to have way too much HP that, they just felt like such a slog.
Yeah.
Even if you would bump the difficulty down, they would just recharge up enough health, or the battles would take so long that would kind of kill it for me.
You really, like there is a way to spec against bosses, but like it's still not as good.
A thing that I do like about this game is that doesn't happen in a lot of games is if you were to do a status effect to a regular enemy, it affects them and normally doesn't affect the boss. Here, you could totally put them to sleep. You could totally flinch them, etc. And they just behave like a normal enemy.
When the enemies start rolling out status effects, the game really bumps up in difficulty.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
I wish this had a Slay the Spire mode where it just did have a run mode. And it does have a tower, but that's only limited to like 5 rounds. I would have liked to just keep going like a Dauntless style. But I do like the twist of having 3 separate characters with different play styles for the decks, rather than just the one character that you get in Slay the Spire.
And like clever ones, like the guy with the mask that would flip over. And
love that character.
That was cool.
This is the game I was thinking of earlier when I was saying deck building seems to be here to stay now. It's like seeing this game, because this would have probably just had generic JRPG like turn-based combat in the past, but now it's deck building instead. It's like cards. It's like infiltrating other types of games now.
Yeah, it's very deck building is also very popular across the board in tabletop.
Yeah,
also no surprise.
No, definitely not. It's just kind of really everywhere these days.
Everywhere,
yes.
Cards.
Yeah. Props to Image and Form. Days Gone.
More like Days Gone.
Days Yawn.
Days Went.
Days Yawn is not bad.
Thank you.
That's harsh.
Sorry.
I don't know. This game's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't blow my mind. But
what about that wedding scene?
I didn't get that far.
Oh boy.
What happens
Google
in the
wedding? Something, I don't remember the full details, but it's like they're getting married, and very sincerely, I think the woman's like, I hope you ride me like you ride that motorcycle or something.
Yeah.
But it's like fully 100% sincere.
This is authentic biker culture.
Yes.
It is, actually. Well, I mean, that's how it's portrayed in like Sons of Anarchy and shit like that. Like,
and that is clearly a thing. Similar. That is the DVD set they were watching the most when they were making this game.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like a forgettable kind of game. Take it or leave it. I like riding the motorcycle around the world was fun at points, and I don't know, nothing stood out to me as
It's not like nothing revolutionary about it.
No,
You know,
like,
it's
Like the initial pitch, they were like, "Oh, look at all the enemies on screen," and that seemed like the direction they were going to go. But
Did
it
that
seemed like
come into
that
play at
didn't
all,
really.
or-
Like
in
a couple
spurts.
moments where it's like, but like very script. Like this is the part in this story mission where like the wave of zombies comes or whatever.
There are certain things where like alarms go off and like a lot of freakers.
swarmed.
The freakers would swarm you, and you kind of want to avoid that, or you're trying to get freakers to kind of roll on to the other enemy, the other faction in the camp. But
Try to steal a bunch of phone calls.
yes, it's good. Freaking get your Captain Crunch whistle. It's I don't know. It's just kind of boring. I found it bland.
I think it's all bland and as uninspired as like the main character, just being like, what is this character? Like it's just so boring.
Yeah,
Like, the game is Deacon, the game.
Yeah.
Deacon
Yeah.
St. John.
Yes.
biker with a heart of gold kind of thing.
I think the
troubled.
The thing that is most interesting to me about Days Gone, I mean, yes, it's a very unremarkable game, but it's clearly a very unremarkable game that they spent some money making. Like, it is a pretty sizable open world. There's a lot of stuff kind of going on. You know, like, they clearly spent some time and some development effort, like, trying to make all this shit work relatively well. It just feels like a lot of effort for what would have been, like, a borderline budget B game like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like a Just Cause.
Yeah, in that I mean, Just Cause I think is more fun.
Yes,
but,
100%.
But it's like it all feels dated right up to the sort of like pseudo edgy storyline. Like everything about it just feels like it is at least 8-9 years behind the current trends.
All the dials felt like they were turned out of 10 just right to 5, right? Like nothing stood out. It's kind of charmless, or it's not scary, or it's not like nothing is like, oh, you need to play Days Gone because it's just like, do you like
it? Yeah,
third
I
person?
feel like when you set all the dials to 5, you end up with a zombie game almost automatically.
Yeah, that's correct.
I guess zombies, like people hate those guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't it have some weird narrative stuff? Maybe I'm misremembering this in like a weird fever dream, but isn't the currency like kids' ears or something?
It's zombie
Oh,
ears.
it's freaker ear.
But isn't there something with like kids?
Well, there are freaker zombies. There's the
Or there are
They're
kids.
kids.
There are kid
There's
zombies.
kids. There's kid freakers.
Oh yeah, they're kid freakers.
Okay.
Yeah, and you could just
That's
bash
me. I'm
them
Kid
with your-
Freaker.
Yeah, Kid Freaker.
Yeah,
You
I
get
took
those
over your
phone
whole
calls.
PBX.
Interesting.
Check me out on SoundCloud.
I do remember liking the way they handle their kind of quest log, which is divided into I think what they call stories. Like they sort of subdivide all the missions, so it's like, here's this character's story.
Yeah.
With a
here's-
percentage. Like you've done 67% of
Yes.
the find
Here's
the lady.
Here's the
mission.
story of this gang. And like I think if I remember, missions could be in multiple categories at once. So it's like, okay, I know this mission pertains to this character
Right.
and this group, and like that was kind of a neat idea.
Yeah,
it was a
but
minor touch. It was not a big deal. but
Right.
I'm looking for something here.
That's the thing. It just doesn't have that many things to latch onto.
Like
It just
you run,
doesn't.
You run out of gas on your motorcycle a lot, which is I understand why, but that's not fun. Like pushing your motorcycle around is like the least fun thing in the world.
You
and
found some fun out of another open world game with a bunch of systems like that.
running out of gas.
Things like running out of gas or battery or systems on top of
Talking
systems.
about Death Stranding.
Oh,
It didn't bother you in that, but it's.
oh, you
didn't like
have
it
to,
either?
no, that's very
he,
different.
He didn't like Death Stranding that much either.
Oh, I know, but it seems like I don't know.
Oh, that's so different. Like if I could build a thing in this, like a zip line in here,
Yeah.
I'd be psyched.
If this
No,
game
is
were
like,
about building bridges instead of killing freakers,
Right.
man.
like this is sitting on your motorcycle and pedaling with your feet, which is like the least cool thing in the world to
It
do.
really is.
because you were out in the world too much and didn't find a gas can. Like that's not fun.
What happens if you leave the motorcycle behind?
I think you can get damaged, and I think you have to respawn it. I don't remember. I don't think I ever did it because I didn't want to run around in that world.
yeah.
The upgrade systems I thought eventually take kind of a lot of currency, and I found that to be a grind. Like, I don't hate it. It just was one of those games I was playing and I was comfortable playing until something better came along, and then had no motivation to.
Yeah, it
finish
seems like one of those things. It's like Sony usually takes pretty big swings, and generally speaking, the games come out pretty well liked. Like I feel like they've got a pretty decent hit ratio, and this just seemed like just all along kind of the odd game out. It's just like, why are you doing this?
It needed to either be a lot better or a lot worse to be memorable.
Yeah.
And it
has
just
to be Ride to
wasn't-
Hell or anything Last
it
of
just
Us.
wasn't. It was just so in the middle of everything.
It felt like a tech demo looking for a game, right? Like that in the way they kept showing it with the swarming, right? And it was like, oh, can we build a game around this that makes use of this? And I don't think that delivered, or like that doesn't last for a game.
Yeah.
I'm guessing nobody finished it here.
No.
I did not finish it. No, I wouldn't mind finishing it, but there's a lot of other stuff that I'd have to finish first.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. Well,
What's next?
Days gone.
Days are gone.
That's my joke.
Those days are gone.
It's a very good joke.
Yes,
I agree.
The best, I'd say.
I tried hard on that one. What in the world is Astrologaster?
We haven't all played everyone's favorite game of this year.
I played some Astrologaster.
Your tone sounds like you loved
I'm
it.
just setting you up to knock him down.
Astrologaster. It's a simple game. I think it's very charming. I think it's funny. I really love the style of it. It is a very much just sort of a narrative-based game. There is some light gameplay that's really pretty underwhelming. That's not the draw of it. I think that the charm is the draw of it. So you are playing as a sort of a doctor in like Shakespearean era. And people come to you and are like, hey, I'm having these problems. And then you look to the stars and then you solve them for it. But it's really just you meddling with their lives and getting involved with their lives.
It's like you can kind of choose the wrong thing. Like you choose, you give them their answer based on you picking like which sign, which zodiac sign you're going to go with.
And there's sort of some vagueness of like, oh, this person, they want to sort of put money on a ship that's going out to sea, and you could like be like, which one should I put money on? You can look at the stars and be like, well, this one is like a child and this one is a like a victor, and this is what it means, and you sort of guess of like, well, I think this will probably be the best for you, but like who knows. And I think that it does a pretty good job of like later on you'll see how it affects those characters. They may come back to you, or they're people they know may come back to you, and you can sort of see how you're affecting this town.
It's like, oh, you told them the wrong boat name because you weren't paying attention what the name of the boat was. And then when they come back, they are like, yeah, you fucked that up.
Yeah, totally. But really it's the presentation that makes this game so good. So it is very sort of storybook style, pop-up book style. And as everyone comes in, as they present sort of the narrative of the story, as they narrate what's going on, it's all in this kind of sing-song way, which I'm sure we'll get into in best music later on. But it's very funny. I just liked experiencing this game. I think the writing is really pretty funny. I think it's clever. And I think that the presentation just really makes it so good.
It's got a style for sure.
Absolutely. Definitely has a style.
Is it on anything besides PC?
You can play it on the phone.
On the phone?
On your phone. It's a phone game, too.
Oh, on my telephone.
Call it up.
Let's play games now.
Call up Astrologaster.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
1-800-Astrologaster.
I saw their ads on late night. I don't know.
I think this will be a game that no one else will play except for me and Jeff.
Yeah.
Two biggest fans.
Huge on it. No, I just the whole sing-songy style, like all that stuff, I just instantly just like, oh my god.
Oh, I loved it.
It just reminds you of the drama nerds that you knew.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big theater kid person. Not my favorite group. Wait, what is that face, Alex?
Are you not a theater kid?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't know why people think that. No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I take offense to this.
Okay.
That said, I love the stupid Shakespeare game. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, there you have it. A Plague Tale: Innocence.
Ah, yes.
Speaking of historical
the rats
drama.
Yeah, speaking of history and old-timey shit and whatnot. So this game, I did not know anything about this. The studio that made it, I think, was primarily known for doing some like more mercenary development work on a variety of things over the years. But this is not non-mercenaries, no. But this was them trying like to make their own original third person narrative adventure, and it's pretty cool. Like I was surprised how into it and how into the storytelling I was.
It got a lot of buzz back when it came out, I remember.
Yeah, it's really well made. The game itself is a pretty basic stealth game. Like it is not very complicated. There's some challenge to it, but for the most part, it is really just about staying out of sight when there's stuff around that you can't really fight. And then just like trying to weave your way through the environment and avoid that stuff. And then you're running away from, these various swarms. So the plague of A Plague Tale is not just the bubonic plague, what have you. It is magical swarms of rats that just straight up devour people and everything else.
Cool.
And they show up at various times, and they are a nightmare. There's a scene early in that game where you go into like one of the first rat nests that you ever see is like under this church.
and it is disgusting.
Do you mean a Rat King?
It is one of the.
Is
I
that the
think
one where you
this
go
is,
in with the priest?
I don't know if that's not the nest, but this is what you see.
It doesn't
these-
bother me.
This is what the
bothers
this
me.
is what the rat swarms look like when you are playing.
It looks like a bunch of little rats running around on the ground.
It's like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, like when he's surrounded by the bugs or the snakes or whatever.
So you're trying to find your way through the environments. You're trying to find areas that are lit because they can't they can't deal with the light. So you're looking. Sometimes you don't have a torch. You're just trying to like find the places you can go to keep yourself out of the rat swarms. The story is pretty good. Like I think you're playing the daughter of an aristocrat in France. A bunch of knights show up at your chateau or whatever and just straight up murk everyone in your family. So
Hate when that happens.
you are given, like, you and your little brother are the only ones who are able to escape. And so you are on the run in addition to trying to figure out what the hell is going on with these plagues of rats and why they exist.
But you also have to avoid not only the rats but mercenaries as well.
Yeah,
because
there's
you're
people
kind of
that are trying to
wanted.
kill you as well.
I think you can like off some of the mercenaries. Can't
Yeah,
you?
you have a slingshot you can use to knock dudes out, and you know there's definitely like some combat, but it's pretty minimal compared to a lot of other games. And I don't know, I was just surprised by this one. Like the storytelling is really strong. It has a cool look, like really polished look to it. The monster stuff is really disgusting. Like when you get into some of those like rat areas, it's not pleasant.
Yeah, no, I had to. I still have a bunch of like rat poison in bait boxes around the outer edges of my house. So
Is like what this game is? Is that what it looks like around?
If the repair costs to the under part of my home are any indication, it was
a horror
exactly
story,
like
yeah.
this.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the things this year that surprised me and stood out most to me.
Cool. And the story pays off. Like strong the whole way through.
That's actually the one thing I can't say because I got what I think is pretty close to the end, and then some other games came along, and
Busted.
I just haven't yet to go back to see the last bits of it.
Caught you.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
That's okay.
But that's the thing is I think I will probably finish that game before the end of the year because I don't think there's a lot left of it. It's not a very long game.
Cool. It looks nice.
Yeah.
Next up, Rage 2.
Oh, right.
Ooh, right, yeah.
They made a sequel to Rage.
Yeah, they did.
Why?
In 2019.
Yeah.
Mega textures.
Yeah.
Like they made a sequel to Rage without any kind of unique like tech hook to it.
It's
like
so boring.
It's so boring.
Incredibly
So boring.
For a game where like the entire marketing was about like we're crazy over the top.
WK is freaking out.
It's just
like,
boring as shit.
I feel like this is like an embarrassing example of marketing working on me because I was like, I saw that shit and Andrew WK and everything, and I was like, maybe this game's gonna be amazing. Like,
Yeah.
especially because it's Avalanche, and like, not every Just Cause game has been amazing recently, but like, there was a time when Just Cause was.
Wait, Avalanche worked on this?
They made it.
Them
I don't-
in tandem with id, I think.
I
don't think I've ever put that
pretty-
together.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. I'm pretty sure it was like sort of supervisory on this. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
It feels it's like I think you see little bits and pieces of like a Mad Max in here.
Kinda, yeah. Oh god, I forgot about Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe
They made that
maybe
one
their
good.
track record has not been great the last 2-3 games, but like I wanted to believe that this was going to be like a return to the Just Cause mayhem that would be.
Yeah, but it's like it's not even like I don't know. I guess it's better than Rage 1, a game I really didn't like. But it yeah, they made a sequel to Rage. I don't know why.
I kind of liked Rage 1.
I like Rage.
It wasn't terrible. The
Why?
ending
What
was one of the worst
The
endings.
ending is terrible.
It was like the most pointless open world. It was like once you got into the levels that felt like levels from an id game.
Yeah,
you were like,
right.
Yeah.
it was like bad Halo ODST. Where it was like you eventually get into the parts that feel like shooter levels, and you're like, okay, this is what it does.
Yeah.
But the open world stuff was so just.
There wasn't much of a point to it. I mean, it got by on looking incredible for the time.
Yeah.
Especially even on console.
Yeah.
But the gunplay I thought was fun in the first one.
Yeah.
The open world was never great, and so I was thinking like, oh, okay, if they can do some interesting open world stuff, and they've got
Totally.
powers, and they're really leaning into this like kind of wacky, over the top action stuff, like maybe the core of Rage could be turned into a better thing since the gunplay was always good.
Totally.
And it's just like the powers. It takes
It
forever
is
to get interesting
distinctly
ones.
under the top.
Yes.
Yeah, the abilities never felt truly vital
No.
in this.
I feel like the shooting kind of took a step back because it's a lot more aim down sights, Call of Duty style. Not exactly,
Yeah.
but
you know,
like it's not the big dumb like shotguns and just spraying bullets everywhere.
There were a lot of running backwards and just like frantically shooting a shotgun.
This is much more about precision headshots and like that
totally.
style of shooting, which is not what I want out of it.
And that seems contrary to the marketing, which was all like, we've got these bajillion styles of guns.
I'm not
Blow shit
sure anyone involved in marketing this game ever actually saw the video game they were putting out. Someone just said, okay, here's what Rage was. What if we just took the Borderlands marketing campaign and said that's what this is?
We just did a color run and heard an Andrew WK record.
Yeah.
Do they have like exploding colors and stuff in the game? Or they're like,
No.
Really? Andrew WK wasn't even in the game at launch. You had to wait for DLC.
Really?
Yeah.
Exploding. What do you mean?
like in all the marketing, the big old like puffs of like,
Just like
purple.
not really. No, it's like a fairly. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but it's got a pretty like drab color palette.
It's like the AEW Dynamite opening.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Finally,
yeah,
it took
similar.
this long. We finally got to a wrestling thing.
It's similar to that. Yeah.
Finally.
Yes.
If it looked like that, then maybe that would have been a more interesting.
Like I don't even remember much of the writing or the characterizations being that ridiculous. Like it was all pretty mundane.
It's just
in
kind of like
general.
their idea of crazy is really not. It's like got a real.
It's not like Borderlands where it's like, oh God, I'm rolling my eyes at how bad it is.
Right.
It's just like, who?
It's
what?
just you're not even reacting
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Like I guess at least with Borderlands, you can say they had a style they were going for.
Yeah.
Like it's a annoying, miserable style, but
They went for it.
they did their thing.
like this game is competent pretty much across the board.
I think there's a lot of that.
This game is competent
This
pretty much
this game is
I think,
competent pretty much.
perfect.
But it also like the later you get into it, as I got deeper and deeper into the game, it was just like, man, fuck this. Like it was just so repetitive. On top of that, it was just like, God, this game did not need to be this long. There was nothing about the gameplay that warranted that length. And not that it would have been like an amazing game if it was shorter, but at least like all the systems in place wouldn't have worn out their welcome.
Yeah.
Like you get to a point where you're just like, okay, I've used the shit out of these abilities. They're not that interesting to begin with, and now they're really not interesting.
It didn't help that I spent the first few hours on location after location looking for the last like pickup that I hadn't found.
Oh, yeah, you got to find those boxes.
because
or
it always-
I
whatever.
did a lot of that.
It tells you how many things there are to get in each place, and I would always find all but one, and then spend 20 minutes looking for the last one.
Yeah, I cleared out a lot of locations for upgrade currency that you just don't need.
Yep.
It's
What you said, it's like a lot of end of generation games, right? Like I feel like
it feels like a transition period.
I feel like we're talking about a lot of games are probably going to be maybe the last game in a series for a while.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
Like, hey, is Rage 3 written down somewhere in a way that
I kind of hope not.
is a new Far Cry written down, or like
Yeah.
a lot of people rethinking what those games are as we've kind of reached the end of like.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this was just a weird one. The only thing I'd say about it that I thought was kind of nice is that there was a certain aspect of it to it being an open world, and there were cases where I was just like, well, fuck it. I'm going to run to this area that it says is extremely hard and find what ability is there and go get it seemingly, dozens of hours early, or find this weapon that I shouldn't have. And the thing I found out is that the hard areas are not actually that much harder than the areas that are leveled to, or that they say will be fine for your current.
So you're able
build
to
or
get the
whatever.
abilities?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're not that good.
Oh.
You get them all and you're like, oh, I see why so many of these are optional, because who cares?
It was kind of a nice nod to like nonlinear sequence or whatever that they kind of indicated difficulty across the map, and you're like, oh, that's probably not the place I'm supposed to go next, but I can go there.
Yeah.
Like that was cool. But
I wish that paid off.
Yeah, it really does not. Weird. It's just a weird product.
Yeah.
Observation.
Yes.
I really meant to play that and didn't get around to it, and I still would like to.
I would like to finish it. I think, Vinny, you finished it,
I
right?
did, yeah.
Yeah, you said it wasn't the most satisfying ending.
I like where it went.
Okay.
I think if you for folks that ingest a lot of sci-fi, it's one of those things of like, okay, I see
Yeah,
where
sure.
you've kind of taken your beats from. It's neat, and the more I've thought about it since I beat it, I think I've actually liked it. The more I've
that's
thought about
good.
it since I walked away from it. When I walked away from it, I was like, okay, it's one of those endings.
Yeah. I really loved how it opened. I loved the start of it. I was very intrigued and excited to play the rest of it. I just never got around to it. It was a thing that was like always on my list to finish.
It's cool.
But the way it opens, you are playing as the AI on a spaceship with a woman who is like, things are going wrong on the spaceship. What's going on? I need to work with this computer.
Surprise.
That was just sort
Right.
of wiped of its memory to figure out what happened.
Right.
So you were acting as the computer in a lot of really interesting ways, where she will like ask you to do something and you have to like go into
Right.
sort of the UI of this computer and like figure it out. And I think they do a good job. I think the design of the UI is very interesting of like, this feels like a sort of 70s style future computer in an aesthetic I really like. You know, and eventually you take over sort of as this orb that can kind of fly around.
Right.
So you have a little bit of movement within the ship, but it is a lot of like, help me turn on the lights in this room. Like, help me do this. But it's an interesting way to unfold the story. And I think there's also, you know, a big reveal sort of early and on where, spoiler alert, you kind of think like, oh, this woman is like alone on the spaceship. We don't know what's going on. And then we find another wing in the spaceship, and then there are other people there, which is interesting of like, cool, we're not alone. Like, let's figure out what's going on. We have somebody to talk to and communicate with. There were a few moments I found where I was left a little bit like, where do I go? What do I do? She'll like tell you sort of vaguely like, hey, I told you to do this thing. And I'm like, but where the fuck is it, lady? Like, help me.
The kind of signposting for where you should go is not always great.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. And I think like aesthetically it's so cool. And I, as somebody who like loves space and loves space games, it really scratched that itch for me. And I was just really excited by what it was doing.
It's a very 2001 vibe.
Yeah.
It is like even down to the tech and the kind of aesthetic. The stuff I didn't like about it are some of the puzzles. So you are playing as this computer, but a lot of the puzzles feel like you are doing the thing that the person would do to do the manual override, right? So like, hey, computer, we have to, the latching system needs to disengage. You're going to have to do it on your own. And it's not like you're doing a math equation. It's like, all right, hold A and then pull the trigger and like lock these things in.
I didn't mind that so much.
In a normal game, that's the person going to the thing and be like, Bill, you got to manually override, hit the thing.
Right.
Whereas a computer would just be like, you know, just do this
It's like
thing.
you almost
you wanna
want
do
like a late
coding?
game reveal of just like, oh, you're actually just a person sitting at a terminal the whole time or something.
Or it should have been a Zachtronics style game of like, I'm going to execute code for 6 hours.
No, thank you.
To beat this game.
That does not sound fun.
And it's just a weird thing of like, oh, this computer is like has to physically.
But they still had to make a UI that you, a human, the player, would use. So it's still
there
not,
are like complete the circuit puzzles where you're like, oh, you've got to get from this, you know, complete the circuit, which just in a typical gameplay thing is you being like, oh, the computer's down, trace the circuit on the board, and like you're the computer kind of tracing this stuff. There's a bit of memorization, which I just am terrible at in games of like, oh crap, okay, go back to the reference thing, go into the puzzle, go back to the reference thing, okay, go back to the puzzle. But overall, it maybe goes on a little long, but it is a great one of these that flips the, hey, you're a person on a stranded space station with a computer AI. Is the computer good or bad? This time you're the AI, and the humans are the ones that are around. And
you're definitely bad.
You're definitely bad. You kind of don't have your own personality. You really are just kind of the main character in the game is the person that will be following.
Yeah.
But it's cool. And the intro sequence is actually odd. The title sequence is odd and long, and it's like 7-ish and really sets up the game in a neat way, but it is like, wow, what is your budget for this?
It's very like David Fincher.
This intro sequence is intense. And I do think the end of the game, the more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of come to peace with, okay, you've done some stuff here. But at the time was like, oh, another one of these. But yeah, I liked it a lot. It's cool, and it's worth playing as an adventure game. I bet one of the better adventure games this year.
Yeah.
Cool.
Especially if you like space.
Big year for space.
It's pretty cool. You're
A
around
lot of
Saturn's
space
rings.
games.
Yeah, for sure. I understand Team Sonic Racing is good.
From whom?
I don't know. Maybe I've been misinformed.
I mean, good.
It's
on this list.
Yeah,
which doesn't necessarily imply quality.
No, it doesn't imply quality. It's a competent game. I think it's not as good as Racing Transformed, which is a fantastic game. There are no transformations in this. And it is all Sonic cast of characters, so it is not Sega cast of characters.
Yeah.
The neat thing in this that was special for me and the kids is there is cooperative play. You do race in team, and it's Team Sonic. So you can, person in front can like paint down a line, and the person behind them can kind of draft in a line.
You mean players in two separate cars are working together?
Yeah, it's a team of three.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and you're working together to win the race, point style.
Like you can pass power ups up to other team members, that kind of thing.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's that stuff's fun.
It's
and
novel.
And the racing mechanics are definitely more than serviceable. I just don't know if it's as fun as say a Mario Kart or a Racing Transformed. I think there are better kart racers out there. It's the tracks are not as fun.
There's also stuff with the items where it's like when it's on your back, they all sort of look like these weird little things that don't actually indicate
They don't
what
stand
the item
out
is
at all.
Yeah, you have to kind of memorize what the item is. Which I guess if you're playing Mario Kart for the first time, you don't know a mushroom's going to make it go fast. But a lot of these look too similar to be like, this is the rocket, not the. I don't know, the boost.
What was the thing that they would always yell, cube or something?
Yeah, I heard cube a lot in that game.
It's a neat kart racer that, again, being able to play something while you're racing cooperatively and not, again, for my family, have to fake it. We're like, let's pretend we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Is fun. It's fun for people with younger kids.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying it's just not as exciting of a racing game.
that's fine.
I think I'm with Vinny that Sonic Racing Transformed is a lot more interesting of a game. It has more dynamics as far as like the different transformations,
the courses,
and better rosters,
the nostalgia.
Yeah.
I was
characters.
I was just chuckling because like you're sitting here giving an earnest appraisal of the quality of a Sonic game as opposed to just clowning on it constantly, which kind of says a lot.
The racing games
compared to like the real,
really good.
But that's what I mean. Like compared to the main Sonic franchise, people like actually like these games and respect them.
Some people actually
Racing Transformed is like
it's legitimately very good.
It's my favorite kart racer, and so for this, I don't think it comes close to that.
Have you played the new Garfield kart?
I have not tried
They
it.
do some things in
There's
there.
a new benchmark, baby.
They have multiplayer now?
Yeah, they added multiplayer.
Fantastic. A kart racer should have multiplayer.
The first one has no local or online co-op.
Take it from me. When it comes to Garfield Kart, the winning move is to not play.
The only way to win is not to play.
Yes, let's set the controller down.
We have not picked this up in the Caravella household in a while.
Huh.
Yeah, we will go back to Racing Transformed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and Mario Kart.
That says it all, I suppose. Dauntless.
Oh yeah,
is a late addition to this list.
After being in early access for a couple of years, it finally came out. I was certainly very, very interested in it, being a Monster Hunter fan. And with it being a free to play model, the style of gameplay kind of lent itself to that. But once the game finally came out, unfortunately, Monster Hunter World had come out as well, and I'm sure that the developers for Dauntless here are a little upset about that. It's tough to put too much time into both of these games. My time is actually better spent, I think, with World. But this is not, it is fun in its own right. Like, there's a well-designed monster. There's a really nice variety to the weapons. It's a little too just like straightforward as far as like, the grindy nature of it. But it's got a really nice look to it, I think. And, it's a really good alternative to like Monster Hunter World if that's what you're into. They've added a ton of stuff post game as well, whether it be new monsters or maps or seasonal events or you name it.
I was going to ask if you had kept up with like how much the community has stuck with it, because I feel like there were numbers going around when it came out of like so and so million people
million people
like the servers were
22 million. Yeah,
like it seems like it launched really strong.
Well, that's something of note as well, is that it's completely cross-platform as well. So between the consoles and the PC version, you can pick up exactly where you left off. Playing on PC. Pick it up on the PS4 and you're standing in the same spot in town. That's pretty revolutionary.
What's the monetization model? If it's free, you said?
Yeah, they've got like a battle pass style thing that you can buy. You can also just do mostly cosmetic stuff.
Okay.
They also offer like XP boost style things. It's not exactly pay to win, but it's not just cosmetics either. But it's cool. It's really neat. I enjoyed my time with it, but like I said, once Monster Hunter World came out, this was tough to go back to, unfortunately.
I'm always shocked that
Give it a
there
shot.
aren't more Monster Hunter people going after Monster Hunter, because it's such
so
a popular thing that and nobody has seemed to really just go straight after it.
Right.
I mean, this seems directly aimed at Monster Hunter fans.
Yeah, I would think that. You look at WoW, and there were so many people that tried to get a chunk of that.
It's
and
totally.
they barely got a piece of that.
I mean, isn't it the case that World was kind of the first time that Monster Hunter like truly broke big here
In the West.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
So like maybe people just haven't had time to
maybe.
look at that and be like, all right, now we got to do that. Like now there's a market.
Yeah, that could be.
They will cross battle royales with. They will drop one monster in, and then 98 other players.
Sure, that's cool. Okay, let's call this the last game of day one.
Okay.
This is a game I feel like I heard a lot about back at release. Void Bastards.
I
believe it's
Void.
Bastards.
I
Void
liked
Bastard.
I liked Void Bastards quite a bit.
Me
too.
too.
Yeah.
It's like the longest binge session I've done on a game in years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I did like a 16 or 18-hour day.
I did. I played it literally the
Yeah.
opposite way you
damn.
did.
I was sick
but
one day
Also,
and-
I also put a lot of hours into it,
Yeah.
just a
Oh.
very different way.
I
Yes,
loved it.
I feel like I had a weekend of just like playing this game a ton. This was also came for me in a time where I was like, oh, I feel like no game is really hooking me that much. Like it's not really getting me. And I played this and I was like, I play video games, and I was like in it. I don't know. I think this game is so fun. I think the loop is so satisfying.
Yes.
I think it was very much a thing that's like, okay, one more, like constantly. I also think it did a lot of fun and clever stuff with the character systems, as far as you will get a new character and they will come in with a trait. And sometimes the trait helps you, sometimes it hurts you, sometimes it doesn't really do either. Your character's just tall and the camera is just higher for your character.
Everything's in
And you
black
also
and
have to
white now.
crouch under some doors, which
Yes.
I really, really appreciate.
I was a big fan of stuff like that. It
Wait,
added
they-
a lot of
they
charm
really
to
vary
it.
your character height between runs?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
it's
do.
like I
Like,
had
sometimes
sometimes,
you're-
like your character's tall, your character's short.
It's identified
like
as
a trait,
I
yes.
guess I do remember that.
And they did a good job of making me feel some ownership over this character. Of like, I like this character, I don't like this other one that I rolled. And like, you go through these levels and you can pick more traits for them and attach them to the character. And I would get attached to these characters, but not to the point where like, if I wiped a character, I would be like, oh no, I'm done playing. It was enough for me that it was like incentive to keep that character alive, but also there was an eagerness to be like, okay, well, what does this character do for me? And I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Like I never got mad when I died, because every time I died, I saw that as an opportunity. Like, oh, what's my next guy going to be like?
Yeah.
And like, oh, every time you go to a different ship, it's like, what's the gimmick here? Like, it felt like the
Absolutely.
randomization was really smart and fun.
And I really love the lore of like how they're getting new characters by like you're in space. They're just getting prisoners out of a large filing drawer that have
Yeah.
been dehydrated, and they stick a hose into them and put them into human, and they're like, okay, go salvage garbage for us.
yeah,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
it's really like dark sense of humor was really
Very
good.
funny game.
got
I thought the writing and character stuff was,
It's fantastic.
was really good.
I
Yeah.
will say the end just kind of came out of nowhere. I was like,
a
oh,
little
that was
flat.
it? That was the whole ending?
Yes.
You know, but
Yeah.
everything up to that point, I was like, oh, totally on board for it.
Yeah. I also love the aesthetics of it.
Yes, everything
it
around this
looks
game is
like,
great.
Sort of like a panel out of a comic book.
Yeah.
Every aspect of it. You have these sort of like 2D sprites that turn with you. It's really well
the
done.
music would like it's like kind of a cool like space. Like each of the ships have their own kind of theme. So like
Yes.
if you're in the big luxury ship, it's a little more classy.
And you're like going in, you're getting all this loot because of
yeah,
it.
yeah, and the different ship types.
Yes.
Like,
I love moments where it's like if I had the right gun and it was upgraded, and like it'd be one of those types of guns where you lob something in the room and it just fucks up everything.
Yeah.
So you'd like see in the window and you'd be like, oh, that room's gonna be trouble. Wait a minute, no, I've got this gun. You just open the door, just close the door, and be like they're all getting fucked up in
Yes.
Yeah. The customization tree is great because the guns are so varied. So you basically had like 3 weapon slots. You had like a main gun, a side gun, and then like an explosive, like a grenade or whatever. And they're all so different from each other, and they really let you pick what you wanted to go after. And I thought their tech tree upgrade of like mark the next item you want,
Yeah.
and it will point you literally in that direction. So if you just want to upgrade the laser gun that shoots through windows, which like I did, you could just make your next run about finding that one
Yeah.
upgrade and really just stick with it.
It's very smart about how it guides you and how you want to spend your time in it. Like it is not making you do a lot of like, wasted time bullshit,
Yeah.
in between like each run. Like it knows where you want to get in and where you want to get at, what you want to do, and it lets you do that pretty easily.
And it does have some of that roguelike bullshit of just like the random elements that can really fuck you over on a
Yes.
run, but it's not too much, like the space pirates.
I never got
the-
mad at them. Like when they happen, it's like, okay, fuck, I'm dealing with this now.
Yeah.
That's fine. And maybe this isn't the run, but hey, I'll deal with this and see if I can get better at it.
Yeah, I'll make sure to bring a torpedo with me next time so I can shoot off the pirates that are following me or whatever.
Oh fuck.
I feel like I ended up kind of liking the idea of this game more than the game.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
kind of with you.
I thought that I was going to play a lot more of this game than I ended up playing. I was like, this is really cool. And then I played it for an afternoon or 3.
Yeah,
like, yeah, okay.
Same. I loved everything about it for about 3 hours or so. And then it's really like, I think just the proc gen level layout feeling kind of generic, and the just sort of nature of what you were doing is just a lot of looting cabinets. And
Yeah, it's definitely not a game that like changes up much.
you know what?
Yeah.
Here, and this isn't fair, but somebody gave me the impression that this was going to be like a roguelike System Shock. Meaning,
Oh wow.
well, I mean, in terms of playstyle, like potential, like
not narrative.
like there's going to be a bunch of hacking and a bunch of stealth and a bunch of action, and like I can decide how I want to approach all this shit. And then I got in there and I was like, this is more like a '90s
Shooter.
corridor shooter.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but were there members of the System Shock team that were on this? Because I
don't
feel like
think
I heard
so.
System Shock mentioned in the same breath as
This came
game.
out. I'm pretty sure this came out of the Boston area.
Okay.
And there may have been. I hope I'm not talking
could
out
be
my ass
wrong.
here.
Yeah.
There might have
It
been.
could just be that there's some association there.
Yeah, but I mean more in terms of gameplay style. Like,
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah, yeah.
I just thought there was going to be more variety to the action, and instead it's like pretty straightforward corridor shooting
I think for me,
and looting cabinets.
I felt the variety in like upgrading the weapons, like people said, but I think also in going to a ship and be like, okay, I know all the lights are out on this. So like, yes, I'm going in and looting cabinets, but there was sort of a risk reward for me that I liked to get to weigh each time of like, do I even want to go on the ship? It's all big bad guys. Like, I have a pretty good amount of food. Like, I'll risk it and go to the next one and hope it's better.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed that aspect of like choosing if it was worth it.
That
for me.
reminds me the whole kind of FTL aspect of it of like
Yes.
like there's resource management. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I'll just pass this up because I'm pretty loaded for bear already.
Yeah.
Like that stuff was cool.
Or like I have a lot of money, but I have no food. Like, what's the priority for me right now? I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I found it really satisfying, and it felt it stayed fresh for me. The loop was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I'll say that. Like, I don't think any one aspect of that game feels like super ambitious in any major way, but like I think it does all the things it's doing, like from pretty well to really great.
Yeah.
And I think that all those things work together in such a way that it was just like it was intoxicating enough. You know, like I
Yes.
got what I wanted out of it, and it was enough to keep me going. You know, in a game where I never. Games like that I inevitably bounce off of all the time because at some point I just realize I'm not actually making progress. I'm just making the same run over and over and over again and just not getting further. This one I wanted to keep getting better at and keep developing and keep trying to get better, and I did. I eventually got through the whole thing. I agree the ending is a little jarring, but at the same time I had fun the whole way through it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Do they gate a lot of the variety behind the major milestones? Because I'm pretty sure
I think how it works is I think there are different like levels and layers to sort of the space system, so you can start to move down and they get
Okay.
more challenging,
Yeah.
or you have bigger enemies, or more difficult ships, and then you can choose to like be like, I'm getting fucked up down here and move up.
Yeah.
Because if I remember, I got like 90% of the way through the ship where you get the ID card, which is like the first major objective, and died.
Yeah.
And I think it sends you back like multiple ships, right?
I mean, yeah, and the
Yeah.
objectives were always just like get this nonsense
Yeah, I think
part.
that's what
Yeah.
killed it for me was like I got to the finish line of the first big thing that was going to let me move on to the next area, and then died, and was going to have to play through like 3 levels to get back up to that again.
Oh,
And I
you
was like,
have to do that a lot
Yes,
more.
yes, you constantly.
Yes.
And it's
That is
always
what
like
that game is.
The next objective is always like as exciting as the ID card. Like that's almost like one of the jokes. Like go
Yeah.
get this printer copy
You
thing
need
or whatever.
HR to sign off on it.
Yeah, a form or something.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately I played it in my kind of game of the year bag, which was one of those things where you're like, okay, I think I get it, and didn't play much more of it after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which is not the fairest shake on the game, but also there wasn't enough propellant for me behind it. Like there wasn't like necessarily a narrative
Yeah,
to
that's
it.
kind
I
of
think
where
it
I
was,
was at.
yeah, but it's fun.
There's a lot of like obvious craft in it though, like from
Yeah.
the visuals to the writing and the voiceover and all that stuff. Like it's super well made.
Like I didn't know what I was going to get at the end,
Right.
or like there was like a mystery to solve, or
Sure.
No.
like a
I think for me, what propelled me was definitely the characterizations of stuff of like, I have this character, I've added all this stuff to them, and they have all these fun traits, some good, some bad, and like making my own ownership of that, I think is more what propelled me, and also just the satisfaction of the loop.
yeah. I mean, the gameplay is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the little voice lines from the enemies who you would like be sneaking up on. They're like, I hate this stupid ship, and just like,
Yeah.
it had a lot of charm.
Yeah,
Like, it was
totally.
definitely
Everyone in
a lot
that
of
game
charm.
just seems like kind of a salty asshole, and that's what I like about it.
That one felt like a pretty good like stealth.
What? I like salty assholes. What?
No, that's hey.
I like them peppery.
It's 2019, man. Get it where you can.
Look, it's the last one for the day. Let's get salty.
This kind of felt like a stealth, like a big get for Game Pass to me.
Oh yeah,
It's not the most like hyped game ever, but
No.
once it came out, a bunch of people were like, "Holy shit, this game's awesome!"
Yes.
And
It's the
it was
perfect game for
and
that.
it was on Game Pass. Like this is.
It was a thing I checked out because it was on Game Pass, and then was shocked that I was like, I want to keep playing this. Game Pass rules.
Like that's kind of what they need is to serve you games you've never heard of and also come to love, and not just games that you're already hyped for. So that seemed like a cool element of this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, that's a big chunk of 2019's games.
We did it.
That brings us to the end of day one. Thanks everybody for listening. We got a lot more games to get through.
Yeah.
We'll be back bright and early tomorrow with those. See you then.